series. So, in the beginning of everything, they ask some kid to save the world, calling him a hero, but the kid looks totally crushed by the whole situation. Meanwhile, these hands keep trying to reach the boy in any way they can, begging him to save them. But the kid starts to get pissed and shake, calling for his mom, saying that people are calling him a hero. He asks why it has to be him, and his mother just smiles at the boy while he says he doesn't want to be a hero anymore because it's too hard. But his mom puts her hand on the boy's shoulders, saying that he is the hope of that world. Then, she tells him to stop acting like a wimp and die like a hero, throwing him back towards those hands that are crying out for salvation. And just like that, the boy, now older, wakes up somewhere else, all beat up and lying on the ground, and the system introduces him as the awakened, King Insong. He gets up in some hellhole of a place and says he thought he'd finally get to rest a little. But then, when he looks down, he sees a ton of monsters and realizes they're not going to let him rest, and says they even managed to group up, cursing at those things. So his current magic power is 97, his magic power rank is 9, and the monsters are swarming to attack him. And the protagonist watches every one of them leap from above and dashes right through the middle of them all, killing several with a single attack, and ends up totally wrecked by the end of the battle. But then the big boss shows up, praising the hero of humanity, and that thing appears near our protagonist, full of malice, and says that his power is tempting, and says that he, Fafnir, acknowledges him enough to become a part of himself, and says he will defeat him and make his power his own, charging at the protagonist. Then he gets kicked and sent flying, ending up even worse off than he already was. And just like that, the kid's exhaustion hits 98%, while he desperately wonders if this is the end, and questions the whole hero thing, because it's a joke. He remembers his mom telling him to protect humanity, and seeing how things are now, he can only manage a bitter smile, because he couldn't protect anyone. Besides, he still hates the title of hero, and with that, Fafnir lunges at him to deliver the final blow, as the protagonist thinks that he accomplished nothing in the end. But then he wakes up somewhere else, at another time, with some people looking at him. Then those people call out to him, smiling, saying they swore he was dead, because he just passed out of nowhere. And the protagonist doesn't understand a thing when he opens his eyes, not knowing where he is, and he shoots right up, and everyone freaks out, because he looks like he's seen a ghost. At that, the boy is still confused, looking at himself, and also looking at the sky, which is way different from that post-apocalyptic sky where he was. And another kid next to him is just staring, and the protagonist wonders if he's dreaming, because he swore Fafnir was right there, and they all wonder what the hell he's talking about. They say it's time to get back to work, and the protagonist is happy that they're alive, but the guys tell him to shut his trap, please, gearing up to throw a punch at the protagonist. But seeing the hand, he quickly knocks it out of his way and slams his fist right into the blondie's face, sending the punk flying, completely dazed. Everyone there gets scared, and the protagonist apologizes, saying he did it on reflex. But they all wonder if he's on drugs and say he's so dead, calling him sorry. Then another guy says the cops are coming. He gets pissed that they're only showing up now after he got punched, and tells Sorry he better show his face at school tomorrow. And the protagonist is totally lost, wondering why they're calling him King, sorry, because his name is King Insong. But when he gets up, he keeps wondering what's going on, but then he spots a phone nearby and walks over to it, realizing the phone belongs to one of them. Then he says they should get a better one, because this thing is ancient. But he notices something that catches his attention even more, wondering who the hell that is on the phone. Then the protagonist says that in 2042, the world was destroyed, and after dungeons started popping up all over the world, the monsters that came out of the uncleared dungeons began to invade reality. Thanks to the phenomenon known as the outbreak, peace on Earth was mercilessly destroyed. On the flip side, people who received power to fight back against this calamity also appeared, and they called these people the Awakened. And he was one of them. And even after all the humans died, he was left alone to face the many until the very end. And as humanity's last survivor, and also the strongest awakened, he's in an interview right now. They ask for his name and he almost messes up and says his old one, Songin, but remembers that now he's Kim Soo-hyun. The interviewer asks for his date of birth and the kid just freezes. So he asks how old he is, since the kid is taking way too long to answer, but he doesn't know that either. Looking at the calendar and noticing it's 2022, he thinks that, if he's not mistaken, it should be 2042 right now, and this is 20 years in the past. So the interviewer tells him to just answer already, and the kid almost messes up saying he's 20, but says he's 19 instead. The interviewer thinks he'll just get this over with, since he just looks like some student. Then he asks where the kid lives, but when he finds out the kid doesn't know, he asks if he doesn't think it's weird that he only knows his name and age. And the kid doesn't really have much to say. He swears he was killed by Fafnir. But then the interviewer asks if he thinks it's okay to be screwing around like this, since his final exams are coming up. So the kid thinks he's dreaming, or this is some of Favelia's magic, remembering the punch he took from that thing. He thinks it can't be a dream, but still feels like none of this is real. He's returned to the past, but he wonders, where's my real body? Kim Song-gin questions what he needs to do to get his body back, because there's so much he doesn't know. But then the interviewer loses his patience with the kid, asking if bitching about it is going to change anything. He says his mom told him she'll be there soon, so he should just go home with her, telling him to stop wandering around and just chill at home, especially since that construction site was on the news recently because of that thing. So he should stay away, and the kid finds this so-called thing he mentioned weird. Just then, his mother shows up shouting Soo-hyun, asking why he's at the police station and what happened to his face, wanting to know if he's okay. And the kid wonders who the hell this is, asking himself if she's this body's mother. So she gets him out of the station and takes him home, wondering if he forgot the address. She figures they did move recently, but asks if he's been super stressed these days. And he says it's because he still doesn't know the neighborhood very well. But she finds it weird, since he's talking so formally, which isn't like him. He wonders what he's supposed to say to this woman he's never seen before, asking himself if he should apologize first for causing her trouble. But then she takes out a handkerchief to clean her son's face first, since he got beat up. Then, she realizes that kids are apparently bullying him at school. She asks if they did it again, wondering when the hell they're going to stop. She says he can tell her if they do it again, saying that next time she won't let it slide. The kid finds this whole interaction super weird, but his mom stops right there, saying there's no one at the park that day and wondering if something happened. And now that he thinks about it, he realizes it's dead quiet around here. Then a wolf appears behind them, and his mom asks if he's coming, stepping out of the way. The kid says he's coming until he hears something, and the wolf lunges at him, almost hitting them both. But he jumps in front, and the wolf only snags the stuff he was carrying. He then thinks that's no ordinary wolf and is sure that thing is a werewolf. So, that thing the cop was talking about earlier was an outbreak. He thinks that 2022 was the year when outbreaks started becoming more common. So it's totally possible for a monster to show up in the middle of the city. Two wolves appear to come after him, and he thinks the problem is fighting this thing. So first he needs to find something he can use as a weapon, grabbing a nearby umbrella. But his mom is shocked to see a monster, saying the news said they had already dealt with them. But the kid tells her not to move and thinks that while he isn't used to this body, just one of these things should be easy. Then the wolf lunges at him and the kid manages to wound it with the umbrella, making the wolf miss its attack. But the wolf gets more and more pissed off, coming at him again, and ends up biting his umbrella, starting a struggle for dominance. He notices the attack was way too shallow, thinking he can't even use his power against a low-level punk like this, and that it should have been obliterated in one hit if this was his original body, or at least if this body belonged to an awakened. Just then, another wolf appears to attack him and he's caught off guard. But his mom gets in front of him, shoulder-checking the wolf and stopping it from hitting her son. And as she body slams that thing, the kid is stunned while fighting the other wolf, wondering what the hell his mom is doing as she hits the ground, all banged up. He realizes she saved him, and wonders why. Then he musters strength from God knows where, kicks the crap out of the wolf and runs to his mom, calling out to her. He asks why she did that, telling her it's dangerous. And she says to Soo-hyun that she's fine and that he should run and save himself. And seeing how determined she is to save her son, he gets seriously pissed. His killing intent explodes from his body. And he turns to the dogs, saying, "You want to die?" And they, sensing how dangerous the kid is, just book it out of there. Then he says he won't let them get away, getting up and immediately collapsing from exhaustion. After seeing they're gone, he's much more relieved, since this crappy body couldn't do anything anyway, and is so weak he can't even run after them. He thinks he should get home first, but then his back, which was already messed up, gets even worse. However, before taking his mom home, he thinks of something, wondering, where is home? He eventually makes it there, thinking he barely did. It was pure luck that the wallet had his address in it. If not for that, they would have been seriously lost. And his mom keeps talking in her sleep, talking to Soo-hyun, telling him not to worry because she's there and for him to run. And seeing this, he's even more moved, because she pushed her body to its absolute limit just to protect him. And seeing that, the system reacts to him. The MC notices that this body is way too weak. It's a fragile body that couldn't even handle those few monsters. He gets totally frustrated that he was reborn in this useless state, remembering who he used to be. He thinks he's just going to repeat his past mistakes. But just then, the Tower of Trials appears behind him, and he thinks that he needs to calm down. Since this is how it is, he needs to be cold and calculating. But he looks back as the tower speaks to him and is surprised, because his trial was a success, and the portal for user Soo-hyun is open right in front of him. He realizes it's the Abyss, and thinks that the Abyss portal opening means this body has the talent to become an awakened. And if that's the case, maybe he can start using King Soo-hyun's body again. He thinks that if it's really 2022, his Soo-hyun self would still be a normal person, and considering the facts, he's entering the Abyss earlier than he did in his past life. So he just agrees that since this is how it's going to be, there's no reason to hesitate, and he enters the Tower of Trials. He explains a bit about it, since it's also known as the Abyss. So, if you manage to pass the first floor of that tower, you're recognized as an awakened, and after that, by climbing the other floors, you can become much stronger. That's why so many people want to reach the top of the tower. But in reality, the Tower of Trials had a more important system than just your current floor. And the tower speaks to Suryun, saying that his trial is about to begin, and the first floor is the floor of challenge. He thinks that can be changed by choosing the floor's level. Level 10 is the maximum level for each floor. He says that besides the floor number, there was a level system that existed in the Abyss. And even on the first floor, as you raise the level, stronger enemies appear. And the stronger the enemy you defeat, the greater the reward you receive. And of course, it's natural that he'll have to face much more danger and effort. So, the two things are linked. High risk, high return. And with that, the first floor forms in front of the kid, and he's taken to a coliseum, and that trial will be configured to the level he chose. He thinks that's why he picked level 10, but he wonders if it's going to be okay, since even in the past his highest level was only 8. He stops thinking like a loser, saying he still has to do it, because if everything goes like it did in his past life, he'll eventually end up the same way. Then they tell him to select his weapon, and he notices the monsters arriving as he chooses, and it's announced that the trial will begin. He immediately thinks that he has to change his destiny. And so, a few hours later, a guy in the middle of the city is scared to death of the same wolves that attacked the MC, screaming and begging for help, saying there are monsters and wanting someone to come help him. And the monsters go after him, but the MC shows up right there. He says he finally found them both and just charges at the monsters, kicking the first one in the face and using his umbrella to tear the second one to shreds. And the one that got kicked is thrown back, terrified of the kid, and Suryun asks if he didn't say he wouldn't let him get away alive. And the wolf has no idea what's going on, and the MC tells it not to worry, promising that it'll be next. And that's how the newly awakened Suryun beautifully completed the first floor on level 10. And in the news, it said that the frequency of dungeon appearances has grown recently, and compared to 2019, the year the first dungeon appeared, it's expected that the appearance of dungeons will have tripled. And when the dungeons appeared in that world, they caused major chaos among the population. So they started talking about trying to figure out the differences with the information they've had so far, especially about the dungeon levels. And the MC talks about the dungeons, the Tower of Trials, and the system. The focus in that world was entirely concentrated on these unidentified things that appeared almost all at once. The interest and desire to dominate those things grew with each passing day. And it said that, in the meantime, the energy sources that came from the dungeons, the ether stones, continued to diversify. The prices saw a gigantic increase, and the rewards not only helped in daily life, but also directly affected the global economy. And the awakened gradually began to be attracted by the physical rewards for completing dungeons. Consequently, the glory and the will to win it all increased, and with that, greed took over the humans. However, people didn't know anything, because the appearance of beings from another world on their planet was called an outbreak, which was the phenomenon of monsters from dungeons appearing in their world. But until now, dungeons were considered positive things for their society. They didn't know that the outbreaks, the phenomena where several monsters would go to the real world, would increase a lot around the year 2028. This would soon become the calamity that would destroy the world. And some awakened wonder if they saw the update on the ranks. And one of them asks if they're talking about the new name on the rank. And they're all wondering if it's even possible to finish the first floor with that score. And they say they got 2,230 on the first floor. And they're shocked that the second place on the ranking only got 95. And a new star rises, wondering who the hell Suryun is. And the MC enters the tower again in very plain clothes, going unnoticed. He says it's been a long time since he's been there. He says that the Tower of Trials, known as the Abyss, is a giant place composed of several floors where the awakened gather. Each floor has its own world, with a different atmosphere and culture. But to go up a floor, you need to pass a kind of trial. And the second floor is the place where the newly awakened reside, and it's also an easier floor for getting items. In return, to have so much luxury, you need to come with a lot of points earned on the first floor. And the MC remembers how he passed that stage, killing tons and tons of dinosaur-like monsters. And with that, when he completed it, he says that this was really to be expected from level 10, because if he didn't have the memories of his past life, he wouldn't have been able to do it so fast. So he thinks he's glad that the more he fights, the more his senses come back online. And if he keeps this up, he'll definitely be able to win. Word is he totally mastered the first floor, and that's the reward list for level 10. He racked up a ton of points. He hits rank 1 and thinks, damn. Even for level 10, this is a crazy amount of rewards. He figures his stats are going to grow way faster than in his past life. He stares at all those points and realizes this is more than enough to move up a floor. He's like, perfect. Yeah, seeing all those points is getting him more stoked every time he looks. So, he decides to go shopping and figures the first thing he needs is a clothing store. When he walks in, some elf chick welcomes him, saying he looks like a kid who just washed up here. She tells him he can ask for whatever he wants. She's the skill merchant, the dark elf Veli. And she says, if he's not looking for anything specific, this hottie here can recommend something if he'd like. I don't know, but she's got the vibe of some sleazy product reviewer, you know? He remembers the general merchant, Veli. He thinks, this was her whole shtick, seducing customers to manipulate them into buying the same old crate. But he's just like, my bad, but I've already got something in mind. And he tells her he needs the leap skill and the transformation skill. She finds that weird, asking if he got a tip from someone, but then she asks if he can even afford it. She asks if he still wants to buy them, knowing that leap costs 150 points and transformation costs 1,000. And the kid just smirks at her, saying, here are the points you need. She totally freaks, wondering how this kid has so much and if he, gamed the system or something. But the kid just says he's sure he gave her the right amount of points. But she's like, that's not what I mean, telling him that nobody's ever broken 1,000 points on the first floor. She asks if he really just got here. He says, yep, just arrived. I'm just another customer. As he leaves, both the clerk and some other dude inside think the whole thing is super sketchy. And our MC checks what's inside his dimensional bag, seeing he's got a sword and a short spear. He's already stocked up on bandages, meds, and supplies, and figures he hasn't forgotten anything. So he starts to check out the 2 skills he bought. The skills used by the Awakened have a required magic power rank to use them. And to raise the skill proficiency, he needs to use them over and over. And some skills have a level that goes beyond just proficiency, usually called evolving skills. These skills tend to be harder to get, and the evolving skill you can get inside the Tower of Trials is transformation. And another important thing with evolving skills is the use of a magic power catalyst. He bought a low-grade catalyst for 700 points. It's a magic catalyst diluted in distilled water that will permanently boost the user's magic power rank and raw magic power based on their level. And the magic power catalyst is an item that boosts your power up to a certain point. And even if he doesn't climb floors or clear a few dungeons, it'll still give him a boost. It can be bought in the achievement point shop right after a trial ends. He knows most people get distracted by the items in the upper floor shops and end up ignoring the stuff on the lower floors. But if you actually pay attention, there are some insane items down there. He says that among them, that magic power catalyst is one of the most useful, since it boosts your magic power right from the early stages. He realizes this makes him think that having memories from his past life is a massive help. Go figure, right? Who would have guessed that experiencing the same thing twice would give you some kind of advantage? I think you ought to know the lottery numbers, because you'd, probably score a few extra points that way. And he thinks that whether it's knowing about transformation or the catalyst, he's probably the only person who knows all this stuff right now. After using those items, he wonders what to do next. But just then, that redhead who was watching him in the shop comes up to the MC, asking if he could spare a moment of his time. And our boy gets spooked, because for a second, he didn't even sense the guy's presence. He wonders who the hell this is. Then the swordsman asks if he startled him, saying it wasn't his intention. And the MC thinks he's weird, looking at the kid and remembering the future. Remembering this same guy standing on a pile of dead bodies. Then he's horrified, because that's Choi Hyukjun. And he recalls a bit about Choi, that he's a genius among the Awakened, who used to be praised in the Abyss. But in the not-so-distant future, he ended up changing and became the man behind the annihilation of a major guild. And the MC looks at this kid, who doesn't really look like the guy he remembers from the future. He asks if he has something on his face, because the MC is staring at him with a weird look. He apologizes, saying he was just startled. He thinks, back then, he had a killer look plastered on his face. He asks Choi what he needs. Choi says that, to be honest, he's been following him since the shop. He says the MC bought a lot of stuff and seems to know a lot about the items. And the MC realizes he was being followed and gets creeped out. And Choi says what he wants to tell him is this, putting the MC completely on the defensive. And then Choi asks what he thinks about them forming a party, acting all friendly like a golden retriever, which leaves our MC totally surprised by his personality. And so the level 10 trial of the second floor begins for the MC, but he clears it super easily, getting the treasure of the Shar tribe. The quest says the Shar tribe is pissed at him and they'll hunt him down until they get their treasure back. So he has to grab the treasure, run, and try to survive in the forest. And with that, the tribe of lizardmen starts coming after the MC. He watches them all from up in a tree, hiding from those things. He already knows this tribe, saying they're hunters who specialize in tracking, and that asking him to run from these guys is basically a suicide mission. So he thinks it's a super hard quest that makes no sense. And their treasure has no special effects. He says that besides having to protect it, there's nothing special about the thing at all. So he wonders how the hell he's going to clear this mission, which is basically just try to survive in the forest. And then he gets an idea. While the monsters are still looking for him, he goes right in front of one of them, just appearing out of nowhere and attacking it, slicing it in half. He finally gets what the system is trying to tell him. Surviving just means he can kill any enemy in the forest, so he pops up in the middle of those things and calls them all out for a fight. But one of the huge lizards pounces on him, except he just slices the thing in two and starts carving up every other lizard he sees like it's nothing. So he figures the Shard tribe likes to roll deep, which means there's a good chance this is going to take way longer than he thought. Man, if he'd teamed up with a party, it would have been awesome, but he figures that after level 5, the difficulty ramps up, so the chances of finding people to party up with are way slimmer. He wanted to do the level 8 trial, but that's crazy hard too. But he starts wondering if he even really needs to do the level 8 trial. So Choi just stood there watching, and our guy thinks, asterisk, I've got my reasons for turning him down. Sorry, man. But to hit my goals, level 8 is just way too low, asterisk. But while he's running and thinking, he smacks right into one of the tribe's big bosses, who's riding a freaking Komodo dragon, and that huge monster charges right at him. He thinks, asterisk, finally, the boss shows up. Asterisk, he uses his leap skill, jumping higher than that thing and getting ready to strike from above. Then he yells that he's going to shatter the food chain here, splitting both of them in half with a single strike, then dicing them up and making mincemeat out of the boss and his ride. So he grabs the reward from the second floor. The treasure's effects are revealed, and it lets him recover from all damage taken and cures any diseases. And it has 5 out of 5 uses. He's like, I totally didn't expect this. And just the thought of getting such an awesome reward makes him think all that effort was totally worth it. He says he's glad he just stuck to hunting in the forest instead of bailing. So he pulls up his status window and thinks that, thanks to this, his stats are leveling up way faster. And by using his transformation skill, he can get its special trait. The skill description says he can copy his target's form, and the more he uses it, the higher its level gets. So he copies the trait of the Shard tribe's boss, the Berserker, a skill that boosts his physical stats the more exhausted he gets, but makes him lose health when he's bleeding. This will probably come in handy later. And he thinks to himself, asterisk man, that was a tough fight. Asterisk. At least, in his head it was, right? I mean, he diced the guy up without breaking a sweat, but he says he got a lot out of it and thinks if he keeps growing like this, things will turn out great. But then his stomach growls. He decides he'll figure things out after he gets out of here and gets something to eat. And when he gets back home, he sees his mom made a huge feast for him. He asks her what all this is, and she apologizes, saying it's the most she could do, even after he saved her. She wishes him good luck with his studies. He's speechless, but he says she must be tired, since she even went to work hurt yesterday. But she just says she's fine, even though she has huge bags under her eyes. She says it's not that hard to make food for her own son. The kid is touched, looking at the food and seeing how much love she put into it. And so, he sits down to eat. And after the first bite, he thanks her with a bow of his head, thinking to himself that he might never become her real son, but he still promises he'll protect her from anything and anyone. But later, he goes to his room, gets online, and checks out the Awakened website. He starts noticing the gossip from the Abyss is all about who got first place on the first and second floors. And people are commenting that Son got 2,220 points. And seeing that everyone is talking about him, he thinks this is seriously going to be a pain to deal with. He starts sweating as he reads all the news, seeing article after article with some guy saying the guilds are going to be all over him. He gets pissed, because this is going to be a nightmare. In Gangnam, at the guild office, some guy is talking to Choi. He's shocked that Kin Sorian, the dude he saw recently, became number 1. He asks who the hell he is. And the guy who looks like the leader says he seems to have become an Awakened around the same time as Choi, asking if he knows anything about him. Choi thinks for a sec, saying, actually, no, I don't think I've ever met him. The leader just says the tower is a pretty big place. Anyway, he asks Choi how the 3rd floor is going and says that even though he's tackling the level 8 trial, which is way higher than what others can do, he can't just keep putting it off forever, especially now that this Kin Sorian, a seriously fierce competitor, has shown up. Choi says he's trying to find someone to do the 3rd floor with, but he can't find anyone because he's on level 8. And well, if he can't find anyone, he'll just go solo. But the leader tells him that if he can't find someone, he'll try to find someone for him. So he shouldn't worry about a thing and just focus on climbing the tower. After that, he tells Choi he should already know what to do. So he tells him to come back and report in a week, and also tells him to try and beat that Kin Sorian guy if he can. And when Choi leaves, he thinks, asterisk, I'm so screwed. Asterisk, because either way, he starts thinking about Kin Sorian, wondering if it could be that kid he found sitting in the plaza. But he refuses to believe it. Even if it was him, what could he do? He just needs to worry about himself right now. And sometime later, our protagonist is clearing floor after floor, finally reaching the 9th. So he tells his mom he's going on a trip and doesn't know for how long, and he shows her his really good report card. He says he wants to try exploring deep in the countryside, and she agrees, saying he's studied a lot, so he should go have some fun now. He also finishes the 9th floor, and she tells him to remember to call often. He says he will, telling her he'll be back later. And so, A year later, on December 7th, 2022, he goes to the train station. He says he expected time to fly by, but thinking that a whole year has already passed is insane. And he says he was worried because he was in the middle of the RTH, but he's happy he managed to clear the 9th floor. He says the 10th floor is going to take a bit longer. Model. And he says that when you're not sure how long something will take, there's no better excuse than saying you're traveling to just disappear for a while. And for the awakened who climb the Tower of Trials, the 10th floor is a huge milestone they have to get past. And every 10 floors, the difficulty of the trials gets way harder, to the point where they say the 11th and 12th floors are easier than the 10th. He says because of that, everyone challenges it on a difficulty that's 1 or 2 levels lower than what they'd normally face. But the moment you lower the difficulty like that, the next floors start getting harder and harder. So he thinks that to stop that from happening, he needs to get stronger. He figures that a year from now, the Green Dungeon will appear in Yan City, and the massive outbreak will happen, marking the first time humanity will actually feel like it's in danger. And along with the January 1st incident in Gyeong Province, there are a ton of terrible events coming. He looks at the horizon, thinking he's going to change the future, and that this time, he'll for sure protect the world. And he heads to the Tower of Trials, to the entrance of the 10th floor. He walks to the place all by himself. Then, an old man asks if he's going to the 10th floor, and says he won't stop him, but asks if he can spare some change before he goes. He's the gatekeeper of the 10th floor, and the protagonist thinks that most people just ignore him, thinking he's just some beggar, but his real job is super important. And the protagonist donates 5,000 points to him. The old man is surprised, since most people just ignore him and walk on by. But he's being pretty generous to a beggar like him, and the protagonist says it's because he's an important person. The old man thanks him for his words, asking what kind of information he needs. And he says he wants info on level 10. The old man is even more surprised, saying that info is pretty valuable. But since he gave him all that, there's no way he can't tell him, telling him to be careful of the boss. The protagonist asks if that's it, and he says yes. And that's it? He thinks it's a vague tip, but information from a gatekeeper is never wrong. And the protagonist ends up being satisfied with just those few words, while the guardian tells him to be careful, and the kid enters the gate. Inside, he finds himself in a really dark place, and the trial begins. Then, he chooses level 10 of the trial and starts to enter a village. It's said that he must find and complete the trial's objective and not die. Heh, good thing you told me not to die, right? I was actually thinking about it. It was part of my plans, but damn, since you warned me. I'll pass. I'll pass. Inside the 10th floor of the tower, a boy is picking some berries, thinking he got lucky, because he didn't think he'd be able to fill a whole basket. Looks like he's really on a lucky streak today. He thinks he can eat one first, since he has so many. But he hears a thunderclap and a loud noise, and a huge monster appears above the boy, making him scream for his mom, begging for help. He runs off, screaming, fleeing from that thing, until the monster gets close enough to almost grab him. But the protagonist shows up and saves the kid, telling him to hold on tight while he uses his transformation. With that, he manages to pull the kid away from the monster, saving him from being killed, and then attacks, killing the enormous salamander. Then, he talks to the kid, asking if he's okay. The boy is still totally freaked out by this guy who appeared out of nowhere, and he takes him back home, but the treatment he gets is horrible. He tells the people there that he's not a kidnapper, just a stranger who saved a kid while passing by. But the people slam the door in his face and say that even if he says that, they know he has other intentions and that it's no use keeping him as a hostage because there's nothing to take from that village, telling the guy to get lost. At this, the protagonist questions what the hell is going on, saying he thinks there's a misunderstanding. But the woman inside doesn't even answer, and he's shocked to be treated like a kidnapper the second he arrived. This is so humiliating for him because he didn't even do anything. So why does he deserve to go through something like this? Then, one of the people from inside the houses watches him and sees the guy is leaving. The system says he has visited an unknown village in crisis and that he must save this village from the crisis and survive. But in the middle of that place, there's not much he can do, and he thinks the atmosphere is depressing, the villagers are hostile, and it's definitely different from the other floors. He wonders if this was supposed to be the 10th floor and thinks that either way, save the village and survive sounds pretty damn sinister. He wonders where he's supposed to get any information around here. However, some people are watching him from inside their houses, with not so good intentions, and he starts to feel them watching him because they're being so obvious about it. He thinks it's going to be tough to get information from these people, since they're so wary. And he says they're extras called NPCs, but their appearance and mindset are weirdly similar to real humans. And he thinks that there's no way this just seems like a piece of programming. He says that this extreme hatred for outsiders, along with the depressing and restless vibe of the village, is a lot like that one time, remembering the future. He's talking about the look of a world nearing its destruction. He gets pissed about it because those bastards never even experienced something like this, and yet they implemented a theme like this so perfectly just to do that. So, he sits down near a tree, saying he needs to find an informant to be able to do anything. but he can't find anyone, not even an ant, until someone comes up to him, calling his name. It's the same little boy he saved. The protagonist remembers him, but the kid is so far away and scared to see him, so he asks how the kid is doing. He gets closer to him, hands the protagonist some berries, and runs back to hide. The boy thanks him for saving him, and the protagonist feels more at ease, asking if he can come over for a second, showing him a bag with a bunch of different food besides those berries. Then, the boy starts eating a piece of bread and becomes much friendlier, saying it's really delicious. And the protagonist is surprised he finds it that good, asking if there isn't enough food in the village. He says, yeah, that's why nobody's friendly, because they might end up stealing your food. And the MC notices the villagers must be going through some tough times. And the kid says it's all thanks to the village chief that everyone's holding on this long, because the chief is the hero around here. He's caught off guard by all this hero talk, and the kid says that's what his dad told him, that the chief's been protecting this village the best he could his entire life. That's why they need to help and trust him. The MC thinks about that. Then the kid asks him what's wrong. He says he was just talking to himself, but asks the MC why he even came here. He says he was wondering if there was some way to help the chief, like giving him the food he has or taking care of the monsters threatening the village. And the kid asks if he saw the monster earlier, saying you never know when it's going to attack the village. But the kid says those monsters can't get into the village. They said the chief was the one who made it that way, and something starts to click for the MC. He asks if the boy could give him more details about that. But just then, someone else shows up, asking if he's the outsider who came to the village. And this old guy comes over with another man and introduces himself to the MC, saying he's the chief of this place. And all of the MC's danger senses start blaring as he realizes this is the village chief. He remembers the guardian telling him to be careful around the chief. And the chief says he hates to bring this up right after they've met, but food in the village is extremely precious, and handing it out so recklessly could cause some serious trouble. So he'd like him to avoid handing out food without his permission as the village chief. And with that, the MC's suspicions are confirmed. And the MC tells the village chief that it's a good thing he showed up, since he was planning on meeting him anyway. So the chief asks who he is. He says he's just an outsider who was passing by and saw the village, so he was hoping to stay for a few nights, and asks if he could get his permission. And the man with the chief tries to warn him, but the chief thinks for a moment, apologizes, and says the villagers are pretty wary of outsiders. The MC realizes the guy isn't going to let his guard down. Then the old man turns to the kid, asking if they didn't tell him not to eat without permission. The boy starts to tremble and apologizes, but the MC pats his head, calming him down and telling him not to worry about it. He says he doesn't need to get down about it, and that he just gave him a little of his own food. It's not going to affect the village at all. And he pulls out his dimensional bag, saying he has more than enough to share with everyone. And that other guy tells the chief that there's a ton of food in there. He says that if they can find him a place to sleep while he's here, he'll provide as much food as they need, and if that's still not enough, he can do something more. However, the chief turns him down and asks him to follow, saying he'll give him the one empty house that's left. Meanwhile, the MC is walking through the village and sees some religious folks praying to God, asking him to have pity on his lambs. He's shocked when the religious guy asks God to cleanse their ignorant sins with blood. He wonders if this is some kind of religious ceremony, thinking that it makes sense, I guess. After all, times are tough, so it's natural for their hearts to want to lean on some absolute being. And he's seen this kind of scene plenty of times before. In a world that was coming to an end, people filled with despair went crazy in all sorts of ways. And there were tons of people who hid behind the name of religion while facing that terror, and those who committed atrocities after just giving up on everything once they saw the reality in front of them. And he says that, of course, in the end, no one was left standing. But then, he sees something that puts him on high alert. And just then, the religious guy says that they will sacrifice that tainted soul, asking God to grant those little lambs honor, peace, and rest. Then they throw a guy who was all tied up into a pit, and from inside the pit, he starts screaming and then suddenly goes silent, and the MC is completely freaked out. Then he starts to realize that even here, human selfishness never changes. One of them says it's a huge tragedy for the Miller family, but it had to be done, since it was to protect the whole village. And it's all thanks to the village chief who protects this place by borrowing the power of the earth god. And if it weren't for the chief, the village would be in ruins. They say they have to make another sacrifice in 3 days, wondering what they'll do if it's actually their turn. They figure they should be fine for a bit, since they still have one person left over, and they look over, full of bloodlust, at the MC, who's just standing there calmly. And the man with the chief says that the ceremony went off without a hitch this time, too, but they still don't have a sacrifice for the one in 3 days. And the chief asks how the outsider is doing. His assistant says he hasn't done anything suspicious. And just as he'd planned, he took in that outsider to make him a sacrifice. The chief says the guy was sent by his god to be sacrificed, and he's to use that sleeping potion to knock him out. He just has to toss him to that thing underground on the day of the ceremony. As time goes by, the village's situation is getting more and more dire. A small sacrifice for the protection of everyone is unavoidable. He asks his assistant if they shouldn't try to save even just one more villager. And one day, a man-eating snake showed up around here and built its nest underneath the village. And coincidentally, its territorial markings kept other monsters from getting close, and thanks to that, the village was safe from monster attacks. The village was already consumed by the fear of monsters from the outside, attacking at any moment. So they ask themselves, what was he, as the village chief, supposed to do in that situation? He thinks that in the process he had to sacrifice some villagers, but he doesn't feel guilty about them because that's what he had to do as a hero. So, 3 days later, they go after the MC, who's already asleep, taking him to be sacrificed and placing him on top of that trapdoor. Then the leader apologizes to the MC, but still cuts the rope to drop him to the monster, saying this is all for the good of the village. And the MC falls into that pit while they just watch. Then, down below, near the snake, several of its eggs are lying there and it's already threatening to strike the MC. But as it turns out, a while later, the village chief goes down to see what's going on. He says it's been a day since they threw that outsider in, and since the snake has already digested him a bit, it's almost time for it to mark its territory again. And he figures there was definitely a monster attack up north last time, so he's got to go there and mark his territory. But when he gets down there, he totally freaks out, his eyes bugging out like he's seen a ghost. And our guy thinks it's weird that he's even around, wondering what the hell brought him there with the chopped up snake in front of him, just staring at that old geezer. Dude, I did not expect the MC to be such a beast, you know? He looks like a total dork, but the guy is just on another level. So, the village chief asks the kid, what is this? He's wondering how this even happened, and our guy asks what he means, because he's acting like the monster wasn't supposed to die. And the old man is basically thinking, yeah, that's exactly it, and gets pissed at the kid, saying it was for the good of the village. If the snake didn't mark its territory, the monsters in the area would attack the village, and the MC wonders if it's not more for the old guy's own good, and not the village's. And the old man can tell that's exactly what he's thinking. Our guy says he knows a little something about that monster, and that the snake's name is the gluttonous snake. When it's not eating, it spends most of its time sleeping, and it's kind of a lazy species. And after it makes its nest, before leaving the area, it marks its territory, and because of that, weaker monsters don't have the guts to go there. But, at the same time, for its babies to grow, it needs to feed them. And another thing about that creature is that it doesn't see whoever gives it food as food. And the old man realizes the kid knows way too much. Our guy says he's just guessing, but he knew all this and kept feeding the snake villagers while playing the hero. And he walks right past the old man, making him crap his pants in fear. But, unlucky for the geezer, he says his hypocrisy has left him paralyzed with fear right there. So, outside, he carries out the monster's head. They're all wondering if it's true, since the chief lied to them. No freaking way the chief was fooling everyone. He was sacrificing villagers to the earth god, but it was just a snake. And a woman remembers that her husband was one of them. Then some other dude, who's probably taking advantage of her husband being snake food, says that's unbelievable, asking how he could do something so horrible. They say it's shocking to think their chief fed that monster, knowing exactly what he was doing. But he argues that thanks to that, they managed to keep other monsters from coming here, and they question what they're supposed to do now. Because now that he's killed the snake, they're totally screwed. But our guy says he'll help. They're like, how? He says he needs to show them something and reveals the snake eggs. He says that, as they can see, these are the eggs the snake was raising, and they were left behind as soon as it died. And everyone there freaks the hell out. And he knows everyone is going to complain, but he asks them to hear him out first. He asks if they remember that the gluttonous snake doesn't see the being that feeds it as food, and says they're going to use that loophole to manipulate the baby snakes. And they shouldn't worry, because no humans will be sacrificed like before. They ask what they're going to do, and our guy says they're going to feed it monsters. And they're all wondering how they're supposed to do that, asking if they're going to hunt monsters just to feed them to the snakes. But they ask who's going to catch the monsters. Our guy says he'll do the hunting at first, but he's just an outsider who'll be leaving the village soon. And after he's gone, they'll have to do it themselves. And everyone's basically asking if the kid is high or something. Asking if he wants farmers to use their farm tools to kill monsters. But he shoots back, asking if this isn't their people's village, saying if they don't protect it, who will? And they say it's not that easy, but then our guy just tells them to give up. He's like, why don't they just give up on this and go back to sacrificing villagers? And everyone there gets scared to death. The kid thinks to himself that they never had any intention of protecting themselves. They just wanted someone to lean on. And that kind of thinking is what creates heroes. And the weak-ass heroes who are shaped by other people's intentions. But just as he thought, he was being way too hopeful about these desperate people, wondering if this is really too much for them. And he needs to think of another way to end this. But then someone says they'll do it, and it's that same little kid he saved. The boy is hiding behind his mom's skirt. But then he starts talking, saying he doesn't know if he can help much, but he still wants to get strong like him and protect this village. So our guy is surprised, saying the little kid is a good boy, and that if everyone works together, they'll be able to protect the village. And the boy asks, "For real?" Saying he'll do his best. Then our guy calls out to all those cowards that even a kid said he can do it. And one of them gets fired up by that, saying he'll give it a shot. It's better than dying without doing anything, and everyone else jumps on the bandwagon. Then, one of them says that the people of this village are weak, they get scared easily, and that they were being super selfish, just looking for help without thinking about helping themselves. So, before he leaves, they ask if Sir can teach them how to fight. And our guy gets another mission, and the village people manage to get their hope back. So he's got 60% of the mission done and wonders if he can start now. But far away, that old dude he left alive is off to screw things up, entering another cave. He says that arrogant punk showed him contempt without even knowing his place. Then he starts laughing behind another monster, saying he's gonna wreck everything, and that monster does not look like good news. And so, a little while later, they're already out hunting monsters. Grabbing some small ones and tying them up, they're starting to get that if they lock up that monster's kid in the basement and the citizens take turns feeding it, then there's zero chance of them getting eaten. They also notice that this outsider is incredible in so many ways, because he's killing so many monsters all by himself, and our guy is going up against a gigantic centipede, managing to kill it with just his sword, dicing the monster up. So the villagers call out to him, telling him to stop since the sun's about to set, and telling him not to push himself so hard and to come back. But the protag's like, "It's all good. I'll wrap this up real quick and be right back." Then the system hits him with another notification, saying he's already conquered 90% of the floor, and he's thinking the snake hatchlings warmed up a decent amount too, but the conquest level just won't budge. He wonders if it's because of the boss who vanished, thinking he wants to clear this after hitting 100%. He's like, what's even left? But then whatever's left shows up, with the ground shaking like crazy, freaking the protag out. A blue monster bursts from the ground, with some bird flying above it. Then he says it's the natural enemy of the gluttonous snake, the sacred blue flame bird. He's shocked, realizing it was because of that thing that his progress stalled. The boss is totally ecstatic about the creature in the air, telling the kid to check out its majestic and menacing appearance, saying it was a good idea to keep it knocked out with sleep poison. And if it goes like this, the citizens will treat him like a hero again, since he's a boss who controls monsters. But the thing just looks at him. The boss starts yapping at the monster, saying he's the one who woke it up and telling it to treat him as its master right away. But the monster just blasts him with fire, completely wiping out the boss in a single breath, totally frying him. Meanwhile, the protag notices that thing's destructive power is insane, and the monster starts heading toward the village over there. So he bolts after it, trying to stop the thing before it reaches the village. He starts leaping over everything, using his jump to try and slash the creature with his sword. But even when he attacks, he can't land a hit, since the monster just dodges him in midair and he realizes he can't reach it. Then the monster comes right back at him, using its talons and smacking him down below, nailing the protag in the nose and making him bleed. He thinks, it can't end like this, because the citizens had just started to come together. But as he's falling, a rope starts to come loose, and he knows he has to do something. The citizens notice the outsider hasn't come back, wondering if he's still killing monsters. They also notice he hasn't slept in days, and realize this guy is built different. They wonder if it's because he's young, but just then, the rope that was with him starts to unfurl, while the citizens are completely clueless about the danger heading straight for them. And just like that, the creature is hovering above the two of them, staring them down, ready to kill them. The two of them start screaming, and the monster gets ready to torch them with its fire, but the protag's sword flies toward the thing, tied to the rope and latching onto its beak. And the protag says, "If I can't reach you, I'll make you reachable." He ties the rope to his wrist and yanks himself closer to the monster. Climbing on top of it, he yells that he caught the sacred bird, telling it to lend him its skills. He uses transformation and jacks most of its powers. He imbues the rope and starts torching that fiery beast. Meanwhile, the protag's mom is at home, saying nothing's going on and talking about Sori Ryamon. He went on a trip as soon as he finished his exams, and she tells the person on the other end of the line not to worry, because he's doing great. She says that he actually matured out of nowhere and seems really reliable, and sometimes it's like he's a different person. Meanwhile, her son, who literally is a different person, is up against the sacred bird, trying to wipe it out. But the monster doesn't die from just that one attack. Glaring at the protag with pure hatred, he thinks, "I knew it," saying there's a limit to a technique copied with transformation. It's an evolving skill whose power changes based on the skill's level. It was at too low a level to actually do any damage to that thing. Then the fire starts to consume the protag himself, but he grabs the sword that was nearby, imbuing it with even more fire, trying to hang on because it's way too hot. But he thinks that he can't die like this. After all, there's much worse crap on the way. And he also remembers the necklace he got from those lizard men, remembering it at the last second. He thinks he has to get out of this. because he can still fight. He uses the recovery item, the treasure of the Shar tribe, and recovers from all the damage he'd taken. The monster doesn't even notice he's still alive, and is totally shocked when the protag drops down on it, shoves his sword into the monster, and tells it to just die already. He slams to the ground with the creature, and with that, he gets the job done, finishing off the monster as it falls motionless to the ground. The protag, for his part, is in pretty bad shape too, and passes out right there until he wakes up to that kid screaming. He shoots up, totally freaked out, wondering where the hell he is. Then they tell him it's great that he's awake, and he asks what's going on. They say they thought he was dead for sure after being burned alive. He asks if he passed out and what happened, but they just tell him to keep resting, because thanks to him, it's finally over and that bird monster is dead, so there shouldn't be any more problems. They cut it into pieces, so you don't have to worry about feeding the snakes for a while. And it's all thanks to the protag. But they can't believe it, because it was a fire that would have been hard to even try to survive. He's only got a few bruises from the fall. Other than that, he's completely fine. They start to think that he could even be called a hero, their eyes shining. But the protag definitely doesn't want to hear that word, saying he must have just gotten lucky and he doesn't feel anything besides a few aches. And then, that kid runs over to the protag to give him a hug. He gets a ton of conquest points and also the perfect conquest level. He cleared the 10th floor of the Tower of Trials with 100% conquest, a masterful clear. And realizing he hit 100%, he knows there's no danger left, and the villagers can live a peaceful life without worrying about the apocalypse. Besides the ranking, he thinks this is going to be a bit of a pain, because getting first place again is going to get everyone talking about him all over again. But right then, everyone there starts thanking him, saying he's their hero. They won't forget this favor. And everyone in the village is thanking him from the bottom of their hearts. And as he sees them calling him a hero again, he remembers another time. But right then, he just dips out, heading for the exit. Then they ask if he's already leaving. The little boy catches him and runs up to the protag, asking how he can just sneak out like that. Wondering what this is all about, he tries to play it cool. Then the kid asks if he's going to save another village, and the protag just says, "You could say that," thinking what a drag this is, since he wanted to leave without causing a scene. So the little kid brings him a small bag of those fruits, telling him it's their best, because no matter where he goes, they'll never forget him. And those are the fruits he picked himself, and he should eat them whenever he gets hungry. On top of that, she says her name is Mel and thanks him, like, a ton for everything he did. And the protag is surprised, telling Mel to stay safe. Then, back in the real world, Choi's chillin' in some fancy car. And the guild leader asks if he's good, and he's like, "Hell no." And the dude's like, "That's what I'm talking about, because no way the star rookie is going to get all jittery over some stupid evaluation. And considering he's already on the 15th floor, he's guaranteed to be at least a B rank, maybe even snag an A rank. But the kid is not feeling this whole situation at all. So the leader picks up on it and starts talking about some other rookies, saying that one guy is going to show up for an evaluation real soon. He asks how the hell the dude knows that, and the leader says it's just a hunch, and since he just cleared the 10th floor, it's about time for him to show up again. And just like that, Choi realizes the guy's been keeping tabs on Suryan's progress through the floors. And this Suryan guy must have caught Jong Don Jong's eye. He says he feels bad for the dude, and Jong's like, "I'm just spitballing here." But if he happens to run into Suryan, whether it's in the tower or at the evaluation place, he needs to bring him to his guild if he can, cause, you never know. Cause if Suryan becomes his replacement, he might get to walk free. I'm starting to think that whole massacre he pulled on that one guild maybe wasn't something he wanted to do. Yeah, Choi is not digging this conversation one bit. Meanwhile, over at the Awakened Certification Agency, he shows up and remembers Jong telling him they got everything ready for him to climb the abyss as soon as he's finished. So he's got to bounce right after the evaluation is over. And if he gets any bright ideas about changing his mind, he knows everyone's going to be screwed. And Choi is seriously pissed about it. He thinks, yeah, no shit I know, because he really has nothing left. Meanwhile, our protag is showing up for his evaluation too. He's like, "Looks like I got here just in time, because it's been a hot minute since he last got his rank checked." And the Awakened Certification Agency. It's basically like a government agency. It's the place that ranks all the different awakened, from foreigners to unaffiliated ones, and they pretty much manage the majority of all awakened people. And the protag says he's there for an evaluation, giving his name, but then explains that, really, you should call this place a holy ground for the pencil pushers who manage the awakened. And all the awakened have to come to the agency every so often, since their rank has to be set for them to enter dungeons. He needs to get into dungeons to make some cash. And he thinks, though in my case, the goal is getting into the dungeons, not the money. But then they tell him to wait with some other candidates. He says that people who get their ranks evaluated earn the privilege of being an active awakened. Your special skills and your growth potential as an awakened all get recognized when you're evaluated. And thanks to that, guild scouts are always hanging around, desperate to recruit anyone who stands out. He notices they have eagle eyes, and then this guy says he'll take him over when he's called, and the protag thanks him. But just then, they hear someone cussing someone out, telling them to do their damn job right, yelling for them to take a look. Cause my magic power is rank 3, and that's definitely enough to be a C rank, so he's demanding to know why he's a D rank. And the man next to him says that the evaluation standards changed all of a sudden, so there's not much they can do for him. But the dude grabs the scientist by the tie, asking if it's his damn fault they changed the numbers, and grills him about the change. And the protag thinks that an awakened's earnings in a dungeon are based on their individual rank. But still, he wonders what's the point of throwing a fit like that, no matter the result, since there are so many scouts watching them. It's just dumb. But just as that guy is about to deck the scientist, Choi stops him. He asks how people like this still exist in the world, and the protag is shocked to see him there. While he's got the bully handled, he points out that the artifact on his wrist has the ability to boost his magic power for a short time. It's a rare item you can't even find through trades, and he has no idea how a guy like him got his hands on it. And even though his rank is low, he seems to be pretty skilled in other areas. And that dude gets totally pissed, cussing out Choi, trying to get at him, but since he's being held back, he just flails around like a bug. And Choi asks if he really thinks the people evaluating him are idiots, and says that if he's so pissed off, why not take the test again after taking off that bracelet? So the guy gets pissed, but Choi just laughs at him with a totally different vibe than usual, saying he bets he wouldn't even hit D rank this time. And the dude's like, how dare you? But Choi just dips after security drags him away, and the guy keeps squirming as he's kicked out. Then Choi thinks to himself that he got carried away, since he wasn't in a great mood to begin with. But then he hears a hey that scares the absolute crap out of him. And when he looks back, it's Suryeon, who says it's the first time they've seen each other since the second floor, and asks if Choi remembers him. And he says yeah, and wonders to himself about that super weird feeling he just got. And he asks if this is Choi's first evaluation, but the kid asks why he's so surprised. After all, it's his first evaluation too. The protag tries to play it cool, then Choi asks if people don't usually get evaluated a month after they awaken. And the kid says he was kind of busy and that, honestly, he didn't want to stand out at all, since it might bother his mom later on. And he thinks that he has way too much money and would have no way to explain it to his mom. But he asks Choi, saying that if he became an awakened recognized by the agency, he could also enter dungeons and get some rewards. Plus, he didn't get his evaluation done, even though he made it all the way to the 15th floor. He tries to brush it off and says he was a little busy, going back to that look the protag knows all too well, and he totally clocks that expression. Choi's like, come to think of it, we've been talking this whole time and we don't even know each other's names. But then Tai gets called up, and he's from the Ares Guild, and our guy recognizes him. He gets up, saying he'll go first, catch you in a bit, and the protagonist is just thinking about the guild, remembering it's the one he completely slaughtered. So he was already a part of it back then. He gets lost in thought about the kid, wondering why he did what he did. So he gets evaluated as a rank B, which is a pretty high rank for his age. They say it's only been 1 year since he became an awakened, and that there's a reason he's part of the Ares Guild. He comes back, and they're all congratulating him for getting a B rank, but he doesn't seem too happy about it. Anyway, the next one up is Kim Soryeon, unaffiliated. And everyone is totally shocked by that name, especially Choi. They realize it's the first place guy, the one who's been racking up those insane points from the start, and they say his points on the 10th floor were nuts too. So Choi thinks, damn, Jong was right, so where the hell is Kim Soryeon? And our guy just stands up, see you in a little bit. The other kid is completely floored, because it means the guy who was right next to him this whole time was the Soryeon he was looking for. He remembers when Jong asked him to bring him to the Ares Guild, telling him to hold his spot, and our guy goes up to the measuring machine. As Choi keeps replaying what Jong told him, he realizes that dude really is Kim Soryeon. He really didn't want it to be true. But a little later, the protagonist walks out of the agency looking totally dejected, because he screwed up. A moment ago, he was standing in front of the scanner. The scientist tells him he just needs to put a little magic into the measuring instrument, and he does it, with Choi watching him like a hawk. As he channels his magic, a massive light just erupts. He's wondering, what the hell is this? Because that feeling of magic makes no sense. And then, it all just stops. He wonders what it was they just felt, with some of them even looking nervous. So, the unaffiliated Kim Soryeon is ranked as a C rank, and Choi thinks, that's impossible. He's wondering how the kid is only a C rank with a magical presence comparable to an A ranks. They figure, as expected, it was just someone with the same name, and Choi notices that apparently other people couldn't feel it, but he's dead certain of what he felt. So the protagonist just walks out of there, accepting his rank, and Choi realizes that, just as he thought, that person is the rumored Kim Soryeon, but he's kind of shaken by it, wondering if it's really him, because the measuring device said he's only a C rank. But then he asks himself who would even control their own magic just to lower their rank. And even if he's a genius, only world-class rankers can pull that off. And our guy says that's exactly what he hopes they think, because it was only for a second. But who would have guessed he actually messed up while controlling his magic? He says it was a good thing he got it under control when he did, because if he hadn't fixed it, it would have been a total disaster. And all of this happened because his stats shot up out of nowhere. But he thinks that after clearing the 10th floor, his stats have been climbing way faster these last few days. He got some pretty interesting rewards, managing to get the fire from that sacred bird. He says he received its sacred flame and that it's an evolving skill, super strong, and even stronger against demon-type monsters. So that's something he'll gladly take. Those stats increased right along with that new skill. And more than that, he's super happy with the shop. Maybe it's because he cleared the 10th floor at level 10, but the list of items is incredible. He says the problem is that he bought an egg instead of all those other good items. The egg of an unknown divine beast. He thinks he only bought it because it was one of those items he had no clue how to get, but the fact that he doesn't know its origin worries him, and it's way smaller than he thought. He says there was this one awakened who bought an egg that could hatch at any moment and became a ranker because a high-rank sacred beast came out of it. But he says there hasn't been a single change in the egg, even after a considerable amount of time has passed, wondering if it's a dud. And Choi walks up to our guy, calling his name. Our guy jumps. He thought Choi had already left. And Choi says he just went to the bathroom, then asks if he got his result. Our guy says yeah, he's a C rank. Choi doesn't really believe it and tries to talk to him. But then that dude who was causing a scene inside earlier walks up to him, saying, "Glad I found you," cursing at him and asking, "Do you have any idea how hard I had to suffer to get a C rank?" Our guy notices he's right back to being a total asshole and wonders if he's looking for revenge. But Choi asks Soryeon to give him a second, and Soryeon thinks this is perfect, because he was curious about what skills Choi had, so he figures he should watch. But then that guy gets hit by something and starts crumpling to the floor. And it's Jong, hitting him with his ability, talking to Rakon, asking why he's only just getting there. And he says he was waiting for him while poisoning the little punk. Our guy is wondering, who the hell is this? Choi answers his unspoken question right on cue, calling Jong Guildmaster. That bully collapses on the floor, bleeding, and our guy remembers the Guildmaster, Jong. And Jong says, "There you go again," calling me that with such a deadpan expression. As he walks by, he kicks the kid, who's already on the ground, square in the face, and our guy realizes this dude is bad news. He told him to call him Jong, hugging Choi, but asks if he made a new little friend while he was away. Choi lies, saying he met him at the evaluation and was going to invite him to join the guild if his rank was any good, but he guesses not. So, Jong looks at the kid with total disdain, but then he senses something the kid didn't say. After all, he can't be just some normal guy if he managed to catch Choi's interest. He says he wants to test the kid out, walking right up to our guy and introducing himself as the Guildmaster. He asks what his name is. From behind, Choi quietly tells the kid to keep his mouth shut, and he seems to get what Choi's trying to do. But he just smirks at Jong and reveals that his name is Kim Suryeon. Oh man, I really want him to punch this guy. It's probably not going to happen right now, but it would be so damn good. And with our guy revealing his true name, the guild leader looks pretty damn happy with that information. So Choi tries to lie, saying it's not him, that the guy is a C rank, and there's no way he's the Suryeon he's looking for, saying he even watched his exam. But the guild leader tells the kid to shut it, saying he'll see for himself. Then he asks the kid, if it's cool with him, he wants to take a look at his awakened ID card. And looking at the kid's card, he's surprised that he's actually rank C, saying, "My bad, because it looks like he's not the one he's looking for. He messed up there, since his name is super common, saying he would have invited him to join his guild if he were the real deal." And the Prota just stares at him. He says it'd be kinda awkward to take him on since he's just a rank C, then makes to leave, saying that if he's interested, he can come try out for his guild. But the Prota shuts that down, saying he's not really into it, and that even if he were the Kim, sorry from the rumors, he'd never join his guild. The leader then looks back with a look full of hate and asks what's gonna happen to him if he joins a guild that treats people's lives like they're nothing. But the guildmaster says that's just an example, asking if he's ever seen him chew out a member of his own guild. He said the guy deserved to be punished, but the Prota fires back that he was a ranker, asking if that isn't going a little too far to be called self-defense. And at that, the leader almost laughs, saying it looks like they just don't see eye to eye on this. He says the kid must know there's an unwritten rule that no one interferes in a fight between the awakened or its outcome, even if someone ends up dead in the process. Then he says that on top of that, the stronger an awakened is, the less likely they are to face any consequences, no matter what they do. And a guild with a master that's strong has the pull to get a pass, even for something that's practically a massacre. And instead of being questioned, aren't people desperate to get into a guild like that? And the Prota says yes. And like he said, it looks like they disagree on this. So the leader is clearly not happy with what the kid's saying, tells him he has nothing more to say, and calls for Choi to leave. He apologizes for that, but the Prota calls out to him, handing the kid something and saying that if he ever needs help, he should just hit him up. Then he watches the two of them leave and thinks about what Jong said about the master of the mid-tier guild, Ares, a rank A awakened, who used to be a gangster, known for his street brawls, and who is now the guild master. Even though he supposedly ditched his past and started the guild, it's a known fact that they don't exactly play by the rules. It's involved in loan sharking, as well as human trafficking, drug trafficking, and other services from his gangster days. And he didn't hesitate to kill people in the past either, and nobody changes that much. He's sure that bastard is hiding something, and that must be why he has it in for Choi Hak-jun too. But there haven't been any really insane cases so far, involving Choi and the guild. He wonders what happened between them. That's another thing he needs to figure out now. However, looking outside, he notices it's snowing and says it felt like the world had frozen over when the apocalypse hit. At some point, it stopped snowing or even raining, and the dry landscapes just emphasized the daily devastation. He didn't know back then that this peaceful, comforting scene was the greatest luxury. And he remembers that New Year's is right around the corner, and also remembers something else he almost forgot because of Choi Hak-jun's exam, and says there was one more reason to come down the tower. The reason he stopped climbing the tower and went to the lower floor wasn't just because of the ranker exam, and because of the rules the Awakened Business Agency created for safety. It's mandatory to get an Awakened certificate to participate in actual dungeon raids, and because of that, he had no choice but to take the exam. His original plan was to take his time and eventually get around to the exam, but he couldn't put it off any longer because he knew the incident would happen soon. But what if he failed, even after meeting the test's requirements? He admits he hadn't thought about that, since he won't be the only rank C awakened either, and if they look at the data, he also has no experience with dungeon raids. But then he remembers when Jung gave him a piece of paper, wonders if they'll accept him, and thinks that he doesn't really agree with what he's about to do. And in a coffee shop, two awakened are talking about some promising rookies. Then they say that they're not bad overall, and while no one is amazing, there's a pretty cool synergy there. And the man says they're all nobodies, but the girl says he's being way too harsh. She's also part of Haidiando's team, and besides, he's there, so it's not like the other members matter that much. She tells him not to be like that. The rank B awakened, Lee Jo-ho, says that crew isn't enough. They need at least one more person. The girl then asks if it's really necessary, since he knows that an increase in the number of members means a smaller cut for everyone. So she asks why he's being such a coward, especially for a rank B, and he says safety comes first. He asks if she's seen how high the death rate in dungeons is, and says he stopped climbing the tower because he values his life. He asks what good the reward is if he dies in the dungeon, but she says he's getting all freaked out over a simple orange dungeon, then tells him to do whatever he wants, since she just has to follow the boss. And it's not like she has a choice. He wonders if there isn't anyone else out there who's useful. Just then, the girl looks at her phone and freaks out, telling Jo-ho. She says they just received a new application and the guy's name is Kim. Sorry. Then the prota narrates that the easiest way to determine a dungeon's difficulty is by its color. It's a system that uses the colors of the rainbow, where the difficulty increases exponentially as you get closer to violet. And an orange dungeon is the second easiest difficulty, and a team of rank C awakened should be able to clear it without much trouble. And this orange dungeon will be a special case, because on January 1st, 2024, in Gwangju, in Gyeonggi province, he meets up with the rest of the team and they welcome him, saying they've been waiting for the kid. So he says it looks like he's the last one to arrive, but Jo-ho says it's all good, since everyone else just got here. He formally introduces himself as the captain of this raid, of this team. He introduces himself to everyone there as Kim Seo-yoon, and one of them totally freaks out when he hears the name, asking if he's for real, like asterisk the times Kim Seo-yoon, the one who's currently ranked #1 on every floor of the tower. But Jo-ho shuts him down, saying it's not him, just some other dude with the same name. He's a C rank, and this is his first raid too. Kim Barium also looked surprised to hear that name, so the guy gets all bummed out. The MC notes that it's a good thing he faked his rank, cause life is way easier when everyone just jumps to their own conclusions, and it's better if his skills stay under wraps for now. Iona, this stuck-up blonde girl, struts over, saying she had high expectations after hearing the name Kim Seo-yoon, but he's just some rookie with the same name. On top of that, he's a total noob. She asks if he'll even be useful, and our MC is seriously not digging her attitude. Then Jo-ho tells her that's no way to talk to a fellow C rank, and she's like, "Excuse me?" She asks if he really thinks they're equals just because they're the same rank, saying she's way better than him. But then, Marion tells her to chill, saying that's enough, and asks if they're ready to go, or if she has so much energy to waste before they even get inside the dungeon. And she gets all snarky, saying they'll see just how amazing the MC is. He notes that she looks like a villain straight out of Winx Club, and that woman, Kim Barium, is Jo-ho's friend and the guild's vice captain. Then, another girl who seems way friendlier smiles and talks to him. She says her name is Kay and that she's the team's healer, and he can barely even talk to the girl because she's practically glowing with all that excitement. She tells him not to worry about what just went down, because some people just love giving newbies a hard time. And just like that, he's totally confused by her. And she says she's sure that Miss Iona didn't mean to hurt his feelings. The MC thinks, If that was her times, not times trying to hurt him, he'd hate to see her when she actually tries. Then Kay says she's excited to work with the MC. He says yeah, trying to be nice to her, but asks who the person standing all alone is. So she says she doesn't know his name, and Juho doesn't seem to know either. The MC questions it, like, what the hell? Asking if that even makes sense. Then the girl says he told them he can't reveal his name or face for personal reasons, but they checked his awakened ID, so it should be fine. But the MC isn't so sure it's fine at all. After all, the whole reason he took a vacation to this orange dungeon is because everyone here is about to die. On January 1st, 2024, an entire raid team died inside a dungeon, and it was a totally unprecedented case, since dungeons weren't even that tough back then. The reason the incident was so hushed up was that 5 people died, but it was later revealed that the total number of people who entered the dungeon was 6. This means the culprit who caused the tragedy in the dungeon is among them, and with his participation, the total number of people is now 7. But he's sure the culprit is just another scumbag he needs to get rid of. While he protects people and sizes up the situation, he needs to find the culprit. So he thinks that to pull this off, he's gonna have to work for it a bit. Then Juho says it's time for the briefing. By the end of it, everyone gets it. The MC cracks a smile, and Juho calls for everyone to enter the dungeon, saying they don't need to be nervous. Inside the dungeon, he explains that since it's an orange dungeon, there'll be monsters. But best case scenario, there'll just be some beast types, like wolves and stuff. But a massive cyclops is standing right there, ready to attack them, and the MC is totally floored, wondering why the hell something like that is here. Then they start questioning again why an orange dungeon is this difficult. While they're all wondering what the hell that thing is doing there, they get sent flying with a single punch. The MC thinks that if a cyclops is in an orange dungeon, something is seriously wrong. He thinks that a cyclops is a monster that's supposed to appear in yellow dungeons or higher, which means it's an evolving dungeon. He remembers that just like skills can evolve, there are also dungeons that can do the same, gradually ramping up their difficulty. And he starts to realize that the reason the raid team was wiped out might have been because the dungeon's difficulty spiked. But he thinks there are a lot of things that don't add up, and that not even a criminal can just change a dungeon's difficulty. And if their plan is to kill everyone, a situation like this is actually perfect. He thinks someone there is hiding how thrilled they are behind a scared face. Then that annoying girl starts to throw a fit, asking what the hell they're all doing. She says they have to get out of there now, saying this is a yellow dungeon at the very least. But they're thinking about the rewards, so she asks if loot is more important than their lives. Then she starts demanding how the hell they expect to kill that thing and says she's out. But then everyone tells them to stop arguing, and the monster rushes past the MC, almost squashing him as it goes after them. Everyone's eyes were drawn to that stupid little fight, so they aren't going to be able to stop the attack. But Juho jumps in front of the monster's attack, stopping it in its tracks. The MC is surprised, because they said he was a B rank, and it looks like that wasn't just all talk. But still, the Cyclops is a pretty smart monster. It knees him and sends him flying. The MC figures he's still no match for a Cyclops, and with him getting slammed against the wall, everyone was horrified, because the strongest guy there is down for the count. A B rank awakened, taken out with a single kick. They're all thinking that this is exactly why they need to get out of here now. But then, as the monster tries to hit Juho to finish him off, the MC jumps in front, stopping the monster's attack. They're all stunned that Kim Seoryun just did that. The redhead runs over, asking if Juho is okay. He says he is. The MC, glancing back, is glad that he's at least in one piece. But the monster is attacking with one hand while throwing a punch with the other. Seoryun casually dodges its attack, moving closer to the others. They notice he's dodging the Cyclops' attacks, apparently with ease, but he asks how long they're going to stand there, telling everyone to calm down because even if they try to run, they're not going to make it. And they're like, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Then the hooded dude says there's no way out and the path they came in from is blocked. They ask what he's talking about, and the MC explains that from yellow difficulty and up, dungeons have separate entrances and exits. Once you're in, you can't leave until you find the way out. So, Joro says the MC is right, but he has no idea why the dungeon's difficulty suddenly spiked. Still, something else starts coming at them from the ceiling, and the guys go on high alert as an earthquake starts, figuring for now they'll have to fight to get out of there. The MC tells them to leave the Cyclops to him, but Joro tells Suryeon to wait, saying he'll help too. But just then, they scream for the captain, because there are tons of monsters around, and he's surprised that those humanoid monsters are going after everyone. And the MC says there are about 30 of them, as he plows through, killing everyone he can. And he says that, at a minimum, besides the Cyclops, the other monsters are at the level of an orange dungeon. Leaving them with the rest of the team shouldn't be a problem. Although, of course, that one skill could wipe out those monsters in a single blow. But it's not the right time yet. He has to take care of this guy here, because they know a Cyclops' weak spot is its eye. The important thing is that eye isn't the one on its face. The Cyclops' real weak spot is another, hidden eye. And the MC appears right next to the monster's face, and it reacts fast, trying to hit him, but the MC lands on top of that thing's hand, staring it down eye to eye. Well, considering there are 3 eyes in this equation. Then he talks to the monster, striking it right in the palm of its hand. He says the reason the Cyclops is holding that club so tight is partly to attack, but also to protect its eye. The MC ends up wounding the eye on the Cyclops' hand. He thinks that for now, his part is over. They're still fighting over there. But then he calls out to Joro and Baryon, saying he's done with his area. But just then, Suryeon, who was getting cocky, lets his guard down, and Joro screams at him because the monster is attacking, and the Cyclops manages to grab him before the kid even notices. He notices the monster isn't dead, and the idiot only now realizes it wasn't the hand holding the weapon that had the eye, it was the other hand on the other side. And seeing this, he knows he's screwed. Then the monster crushes him like he was just a mosquito, and Joro screams, because the kid has apparently been turned into paste, and everyone is wondering what happened and if he died. They say they knew they shouldn't have come to this place, that it was a lost cause. But then they're told to look, because the MC didn't die even after that hit. And just like that, he gets out of there, using a leap to jump high up. And he thinks that was way too close, and says it could have been dangerous if he hadn't borrowed that guy's ability in time, which is Giant's Breath, because it strengthens his body's recovery. Then he lands nearby using that ability and thinks it was worth it to level it up, because he had 2 good abilities, the one from the chief of the Shartika Berserker tribe and the one from the sacred bird of blue flames. But up until now, he could only imitate the appearance of their skills. Now he can copy their strength too, and is a little stronger than before, but he wonders if he should mess around a bit more while he has it. And Joro runs over to Suryeon, asking if he got hurt, but the kid just leaps away at an insane speed, leaving the so-called B-ranker stunned. And the MC charges at those monsters, passing by them with ease, but he obliterates everyone with his sword and lands near the Cyclops, which tries to hit him. But the MC appears behind it, asking, "Where are you looking?" As he smacks the monster right in the head. Joro notices that his speed is incredible, and so is his technique. He wonders if those are really the skills of a C-ranker. And the MC keeps attacking it head-on while the monsters start going after Joro too. He snaps back to reality, thinking he needs to focus on his own battle, because that doesn't matter right now. He just has to focus on what he needs to do. So he calls Baryon, telling him to stay in front on that side, and tells Miss Sock not to forget to provide support. Then she asks if they heard, telling them to get behind her. And the MC notices that it looks like they finally snapped out of it, but the monster tries to hit him again and he has to get out of the way. Then he thinks the 2 of them should end this right now as he attacks the monster, dicing up the thing's entire body, hitting the eye in the process, and finishing off the Cyclops. And looking back, he realizes the rest of the crew barely managed to kill all of theirs. And Baryon herself is desperate, because she thought they were going to die. Then the blonde asks what they do now, because even though they killed all the monsters, they still have no idea where the exit is. And if these things keep popping up out of the ground, they're as good as dead. And she asks if they shouldn't ask the agency to come rescue them. But Joro says that honestly, this is the first time something like this has happened to him, too. So he has no idea what to do. They figure that first, since it seems safe here, they should rest. So he goes to Suryeon asking if he's okay, and the MC says yeah, that nothing's really wrong. However, he only now remembers he's supposed to be a C-ranker and says he knows it was an emergency, but he wonders if he overdid it. He says his whole body is tingling. And Joro then says they'll have Ayum treat him. He's also going to talk to Baryon about what they should do now, and the girl comes over asking if the MC is hurt, but he says it's not that bad. So she says she'll start using healing magic on him. He just thanks her, but the girl starts gushing about how good he is at fighting, saying she can't even believe he defeated a Cyclops by himself. And that's a monster that even B-rank Awoken have trouble dealing with alone. But the kid starts playing it cool, saying he got lucky. However, she asks Suryeon if he isn't worried, and he asks if she means worried about the dungeon's difficulty. She says that too, but also about the people here, and how she's scared to death and can't even try to fight. And the other girl is just so rude. In the middle of this situation, when they even have a person with an unknown identity, those 2 people are especially on her mind, because of some things that were said about them on Abyss Online. He says they were talking crap about them, about not splitting the rewards fairly and making up excuses to make it seem like the team members didn't contribute enough. She says that maybe it doesn't matter how they handle this dungeon, they're not going to get a proper reward anyway. However, the MC figures that's what's up and tells the girl, don't worry, because he's got a pretty good idea of what happened now. Then Joro goes up to the MC, saying there's something he wants to talk to him about, asking if he can come over real quick. And the MC says of course he will, while the girl starts to panic. He says he actually wanted to ask him something too, looking Joro right in the eyes, who has no clue what the MC's intentions are. After their chat, as they keep walking, the healer says it's a good thing there aren't any monsters around. The MC says they must have killed all the ones that came from there and that it'll be safe until the next part. and Joro looks back. Then Bagyeon asks what's up. He talked to Soryun, asking how that plan is going, and remembers the MC saying he had something to ask him too. And he says the plan is off. She asks why. He says it seems like something worse is waiting for them in the boss room. Reaching that huge door, everyone gets scared, and the MC thinks it's almost time for them to show their true colors. Stepping into the room, they all wonder where they are, and Joro says it looks like the center of the dungeon, questioning if there's an entrance around there. But the blonde looks off in the distance, seeing another door and asking if that isn't the exit door. They think it has to be, and she says they can finally get out of this place, but Joro tells her to wait, because if they just rush in, it could cause problems. Then, the dungeon system activates in front of them and gives a sincere welcome to the travelers who have arrived here. The dungeon challenge will now begin. They realize that's the voice of the tower's system and wonder what it's talking about when the exit is right in front of them. And the MC says that when you conquer a tower, it doesn't just end because you killed all the monsters in a yellow rank dungeon or higher. Just like in the Tower of Challenges, you can only clear the dungeon if you meet specific conditions. Then the system asks them to choose the method for completing the challenge. The first method is to fight against the monsters that will be summoned from the back door for 30 minutes. And the second method is to open the door on the other side and run from the monsters for 30 minutes. The summoned monsters will pursue everyone, and if a choice is not made to open the door within 10 minutes, a random method will be forcibly chosen. Bagyeon wonders what all this means, but the system is just going to do whatever the hell it wants. So the healer thinks this means they're not getting out of here unless they choose one of the two alternatives. The blonde girl says, of course they have to run, telling them to think about how hard this dungeon is. It's impossible to fight them head on, but the bald guy questions if the rewards wouldn't be bigger if they fought instead of running. And they've done pretty well so far, but the girl asks if he's kidding her, since he didn't do a damn thing and now he wants to choose what they should do. But he asks what she's talking about, saying she's just trying to come up with excuses not to fight. At that, Bagyeon tells them to stop, telling them not to act like children, and asking if they think this is the time for that. Meanwhile, Joro keeps thinking and decides to look at the MC to see what he wants to do. The guy nods and smiles at him. Then Bagyeon asks what Joro is going to do, since he only has 10 minutes for the challenge. And he says that, in his opinion, it was all thanks to Soryun that they managed to get this far, even in the fight against the Cyclops. So he thinks it's only right to ask what the kid thinks. And the blonde girl seems to have amnesia, saying the leader is asking some C-rank loser for his opinion, the same guy who saved their lives 2 seconds ago. But the healer says it's true that he fought well, and the MC tells everyone that he thinks it's better to fight. They're scared to death, and the blonde says he got way too cocky just from killing one Cyclops. She says maybe his greed for money also went up in a situation like this. The MC says the rewards are good too, but everyone must have heard the options: run or fight. And running definitely seems easier, but if that was the only choice, it would mean that monsters we could never possibly face would be chasing us. He says that besides, they can't be sure what's behind the door, so it might be better to plan a formation and fight. Joro thinks that definitely makes sense. In the situation they're in now, that's the best choice. And if no one has anything else to say, they're going to get in formation. They really choose to fight head-on, and everyone is incredibly tense as the system announces the start. The doors open and the monsters rush right at them. With them coming, everyone has to do their part. But Joro's sword is already pinned by a lizard monster. He wonders why they're so strong. Just then, his neck gets caught too, and he's terrified, because he can't breathe. But then Soryun appears, quickly cutting down that monster and attacking it with ease. He wonders if it's even been a minute. Meanwhile, the healer helps everyone with support, and everybody fights whatever monsters they can. The MC, for his part, is killing several at once, while thinking it's almost time, wondering what the ill-intentioned person on the ceiling's next move will be. The MC wonders if he's going to show himself first, but just then, something happens. Then, everyone is on high alert, and Joro himself and the MC don't really get what's going on. The healer is terrified, and the exit door ends up killing that hooded kid, impaling him on spikes. Seeing that the exit was a trap, they realize the guy was killed. They don't even know what happened. Then Joro tells them to snap out of it, saying that the raid isn't over yet. But then the monsters start to disappear in front of them. Thus, the first route has been forcibly terminated. 10 minutes from now, the second route will begin in its place. Please pass through the door and reach the exit safely. Everyone is completely confused, because they had less than 5 minutes left until the end of the challenge. And she asks who opened the door, and the healer says she doesn't know, and that he bolted right after the door opened. But then Barium asks if Joro can even stop the monsters, and he says it's impossible, because like he said before, there's a chance the monsters will be way stronger than the ones they've already faced. And since they were just fighting, everyone's out of health and mana. But Baron says there might be a trap on the escape route, but the MC tells them not to worry, calling everyone over. But the girl asks if he's blind to that body over there, asking where the hell they're going and if he wants to commit group suicide. But the MC says they really must not know anything. And the system said this about Method 2. The summoned monsters will chase them. and there was no mention at all about avoiding traps. But they're saying there's a trap right in front of them. But the MC says the system doesn't lie. It's possible the trap was only activated against someone who ditched the chosen route. He asks if they're serious. How do they not know this as people who've climbed the tower? And besides that, they should use their heads. Everyone's gonna die in 3 minutes anyway. So he asks if it's not better to at least give it one last shot. And Joro agrees with the kid, saying that whoever has a problem can stay, but he thinks it's better if they get going, like Soryeon said. Then someone tries to argue back, but he says they can all say he's not fit to be captain and can even call him a piece of crap if they want. But first they need to think about how to get out of there alive. Then the blonde girl says she's in. After all, whatever the choice, it's always better to act as a group. So he tells everyone to get a move on, because they don't have much time left. And they say that as soon as the door opens, they're leaving. But then they ask if Soryeon isn't coming with them, and he says he's staying behind. They question what the hell the kid is talking about and why he wants to stay, saying he must have a screw loose for wanting to fight those monsters alone. And the MC says that of course he's not going to stay there alone, and that there's someone who needs to stay with him for everyone's sake, asking Hiller if she doesn't agree. She thinks that's weird, and he calls on her to stay with him. So she says no, saying she wants to get out and asking why the hell she has to stay. But then everyone leaves, ditching the girl with the MC, and Bagan asks what this is all about and what she did wrong for him to do this to her. He says he'll explain later, but then Hiller begs the captain to wait, because she doesn't want to stay there, asking him to take her with them. But the MC calls out to Joro, asking if he forgot his promise, and he confirms that he hasn't, closing the door and leaving the two of them behind. As she collapses to the floor, she asks why Soryeon is doing this to her. Because if they stay there, they're both going to die and she wants to live, and she's sure it's the same for him. However, the MC says, if you want to live, why don't you say that after you lower that dagger? And asks if she thought he didn't know who she was affiliated with. And with that, he slashes the girl's clothes and says that she's from the Dump Guild, the worst group of assassins in existence. Dump is an assassin organization that serves as an front for all kinds of crime and will commit all sorts of atrocities in the future. And up until now, the Dump Guild's name isn't publicly known, but in a few years, it becomes a threat to humanity, comparable to the outbreaks. They're also the ones who sped up the end of the world. And if he wants to stop the world from ending, he needs to cut the evil out by the root. And the MC says she was planning on scoring achievements within the guild by wiping out that entire group. And the girl realizes he knows, and he says she made a pretty clever plan. Lee might have been the least cooperative person, but at least he valued his own life. And even during the fight, he saw how she kept trying to find a way to escape. Yamuk might have been pretty greedy during the exploration, but his fighting skills aren't good enough to take out the whole group. About that mysterious guy, he came in hiding his identity, so he was clearly suspicious, and you used that to make him the first sacrifice. And on top of that, she leaked information about Joro and Baryon to make it easier to suspect them when someone was eliminated. But that's exactly what made him figure out what was going on, and she starts to laugh, saying she could already tell from the moment he defeated the Cyclopes. She says he's no ordinary guy, realizing he really is Kim Soryeon, one of the rumors, but says she doesn't care, because in a few seconds he's going to die. And she says that when he's dying surrounded by those monsters, she'll open the door and escape because she has a stealth ability and isn't a healer. In fact, her skills are specialized in assassination. And that was also the skill that allowed her to open the door without them noticing. Then the second round begins and the girl tells him to try his best. And the MC doubts that, questioning if her ability really hides the smell of blood she has on her. Then she notices a blood stain on her arm and asks when that happened. Then the monsters surround her and she's killed. And the MC realizes that only monsters are left in front of him, several Cyclopes and other smaller ones. He charges forward, saying he's sorry, but no one is getting past him. The MC kills when he needs to, and that's a huge point in his favor. And the MC solos all those monsters by himself and manages to kill each one with a single swing of his sword. He thinks, as expected, they just keep appearing and there's no end to it. But actually, he thinks this is better, since the stage was set for him to use that technique efficiently. He tells them all to come at him, because he's going to wipe every last one of them out, summoning a bit of mana into the palm of his hand. Meanwhile, everyone is running for the exit, and Joro tells them not to stop, because the monsters will keep chasing them, and the blonde girl snaps that she already knows that. However, Bagan talks to Joro, asking if it was Eon who killed that man with the trap, and how the hell he knows about it, and he replies that he just got some information in advance. Then he remembers when they came face to face. The kid had questioned what Joro wanted. He asks Soryeon if he's really a C rank, and the kid questions why he's asking him that, and he says that, actually, he and Baron had a little chat, and the kid's strong enough to take out a Cyclops with one hand. They were wondering if maybe he's that Suryan from the rumors, and the guy already feels his peaceful life is totally screwed. So Joro says that if he's really that Suryan, he wanted to ask if he'd take over as captain of Hide, because he thinks he's a better fit for it than him. Handling a dangerous situation like this and leading the team is totally his thing. He asks Suryan to tell him if he's really a ranker. At first, the MC denies it, but then he comes clean, saying he's right and that he is the Suryan from the rumors. And Joro asks if he hid it on purpose, and the kid says he has his reasons, but he was straight with him because he decided he was worth trusting. So Joro asks what he's talking about. The MC apologizes but turns down his offer because Joro has to stay on as Hide's captain. He says that after seeing Joro try to hand over the captain spot, he was sure that he has the ability to calmly lead his allies even in a crisis. Besides, he doesn't hesitate to sacrifice himself for the group. He's a trustworthy captain and someone way better for the job than him. So, he hopes Joro will listen to his request. And Joro agrees. The MC asks if he remembers him saying earlier that he wanted to tell him something and says it's related to this, telling him that a murder is about to happen in this raid. And he's in disbelief at what the kid is saying. The MC says he can explain in detail, but first, he has to promise him that he'll get everyone out of there, except for him. He then asks what the kid is going to do. He says he's staying behind, since he came here to catch a criminal, and Joro then thinks about the best rookie of the abyss. And it's because he's that kind of skilled and famous person that it'd be possible for him to stay behind alone and buy some time. But even if he's ready for it, he questions if he can really handle the countless monsters in the dungeon. But then he thinks he should stop focusing on that, because even if he's worried, he can't do anything. Someone like him would just be a rock in his path. However, he thinks for a bit, saying, this really isn't going to work. No matter how much he thinks about it, he can't leave Suryan alone. He runs back, asking Suryan to forgive him. Then Bagyan asks Joro where he's going, and he says he doesn't think he can keep his promise to get the others out of there. And he runs back after the MC, busting the door wide open, only to find the whole place on fire. He wonders what the hell happened. Then one of the monsters goes after Joro, but the MC uses the sacred flame at that exact moment and incinerates that monster with the flame. And Joro is beyond surprised by this, while the MC is also surprised to see him there, seeing other monsters coming his way. At that, he uses the flame on his sword again, slicing and burning the monsters all at once. And Joro's jaw just drops seeing that. When the kid falls to the ground, Joro runs to Suryan. However, the MC talks to him, questioning why he came back, since he thought he told him to get out of there. He says, my bad. He couldn't stand leaving him behind, but asks what happened to Eon. He says he was taken care of. Actually, to be exact, the monsters finished him off, and he says he rushed back, but the MC had already cleaned house. He says he wasn't any help at all, but the MC says no, telling him he can still be useful. Because this is really where the horde begins. That portal starts to morph and look way more menacing. And coming out of the portal is a lich. He says the final boss is finally here, and this is where shit's about to hit the fan. Seeing that thing, Joro wonders, what the hell is that? The MC says, like I said, it's the dungeon boss. He questions, saying the boss is some skeleton monster like that, but then the boss speaks to him, because calling him a skeleton monster is kinda rude. He's even more shocked that the skeleton can talk. Then the boss says he'd prefer if he called him by his title, instead of something as unpleasant as skeleton. So Joro asks what title that is, and the boss introduces himself, all cocky, as the Priest of Darkness, a badass lich, but the MC tells him to cut the act when he's nothing but a scrub. However, Joro doesn't really get what the kid is talking about, and the MC says he's not a real lich. To be exact, he's a creature that only managed to partially become a lich. A real lich's magic power count and density are on a whole other level. But the boss doesn't accept that, asking if he thinks he'd fall for such a pathetic taunt, but the MC just insults him again. Scrub, weakling, failure, all bark and no bite, you empty shell and fake-ass lich. And the lich, seeing the kid trash-talk him that much, gets super pissed, calling him an arrogant bastard. He says he's going to finish them and feed them to his monsters, summoning his magic and bringing the monsters back, even though they were burned to a crisp. And just like that, Joro notices the bodies are getting up, and the MC thinks that even if he's only a half-lich, he's still a lich, so he's able to command the dead. And the reason the dungeon turned yellow is probably because of his effect. Joro wonders why he had to provoke a guy like that, but the MC says he did it on purpose, because that way the boss will focus on him first. Then he summons the sacred flame on his sword and draws a circle around the two of them. Joro is surprised while the MC tells him, not to be a dick, but you're not on a level to face these monsters, and it won't be easy to fight while protecting you. He looks down, because he gets what the kid is saying. And the MC says the undead shouldn't be able to get inside this circle, so he just has to draw the monster's attention without leaving it. But he asks what the kid is going to do, and the MC says his opponent is that guy up there, then charges straight at the lich. But when he attacks, the monster vanishes from in front of him, and the kid is surprised, stumbling when he can't hit it. And the lich clowns on him, flying around while lying down, all cocky, saying he's fast for a human, but he'll never be able to touch him. And the MC wonders if that was just teleportation, since liches aren't strong creatures when it comes to close-quarters combat. They're usually the type to create undead and keep their distance, also avoiding direct fights, all to hide their biggest weak spot, which is the life crystal on their forehead, and the mana stone is their life source. Leeches need to keep their distance to protect themselves, so naturally, they develop the ability to teleport to get what they need. But that just means if you can keep up with its moves, you can kill it no problem. He goes all in on the monster, but Light dodges, appearing right on top of our guy. He realizes he used his cloak to create a blind spot for a second, and he's already on top of him, creating a Rasengan and slamming it down on the kid, who takes the full hit but activates his sacred fire to wipe out the lightning, causing an explosion right in front of Light. So, while he's sent flying, he jams his sword into the ceiling to hold himself up. He's wondering if he finished off that monster, but Light starts smiling again, thinking about the sacred fire, saying it could have actually dealt a critical blow to him. But even so, what's the point of an attack that doesn't even hit? He keeps taunting our guy, laughing from down below. Soryon gets frustrated, since he thought he'd hit him, and figures he's still not good enough to hit a flying target. And Light says it's funny watching him try to think of a solution while just swinging around up there, saying that thinking isn't a bad thing. But he suggests he take a look at his sword first, because the sword is imbued with Light's lightning. He says his death energy infects everything it touches and slowly eats away at its life. In about 5 minutes, he's going to lose his only weapon. But our guy, on the other hand, thinks that's not going to happen, because he's going to end this before 5 minutes are up, jumping at Light once more. Meanwhile, Giro notices he's surrounded by all those monsters, and that the only thing protecting him was the sacred fire. But he thinks he didn't come all this way just to be protected, and our guy keeps fighting Light up above. This makes Giro sure he'd only get in the way. If he left, a B rank like him would die in an instant, but he still summons his courage and steps out of the fire. Thinking that just standing by and doing nothing isn't his style, he charges at the monsters and attacks the first one he sees. He manages to hit its back and deal some pretty considerable damage to that thing. While he's attacking the lizard, our guy notices this and sees that he left the sacred fire. But then, he realizes Giro is doing something better. He's using the fire to fight, and now that he stops to look, he sees Giro's magical power has increased since they entered the dungeon. He wonders how he managed to evolve during all this, and says that in that case, there's a change of plans, and so he heads down to help Giro. So Light asks if he's running away, but our guy just charges at the monsters, dicing up several of them at the same time. Then he lands in front of Giro and asks Light what he's talking about, running away. He tells him not to be a spoil sport, and says that they're just getting started. Then Giro speaks to Soryon, asking why he came down to him, and our guy talks to Giro, apologizing for what he said before. He says Giro is strong enough to handle these monsters, and that first, he should help finish off the smaller ones. Then he wants him to help take down that asshole. Meanwhile, Light just keeps smiling, saying they're really in deep shit, and asking if they really think they can win a 2-on-1. And the two of them get into position in front of Light. Giro asks if he thinks this is possible, and the kid says, yeah. So Giro says that personally, he's not sure, but he's going to trust that he knows what he's talking about, telling the kid he'll try not to get in the way. And Light gets more and more pissed off, saying he's going to teach them the terror of death, and unleashes all his monsters on them. Then Soryon tells Giro to go, killing several of them with a single attack, while Giro goes straight for Light. Light notices that this time, they're coming right for him, but says that Giro is much weaker and slower than the other kid. But our guy gathers sacred fire on his sword, launching it in the direction of both Giro and Light. Light notices it's a split attack, saying they're pretty clever, but neither of the attacks will hit him. But Giro doesn't even hesitate, just summoning his power into his sword and using Storm Sword with Wind Rush on Light. And that Wind Rush catches the sacred fire, gets imbued with it, and creates a spiral of fire heading for Light. He realizes the skills have been combined, and the man ends up getting hit. And with that, as Giro is about to fall, our guy gets to him, catches him on his sword, and throws him back up. So Light, who just got hit, thinks he's not falling for that trick twice, and starts launching his Death Ray ability at Giro, who parries it with his sword. But our guy appears behind him while Light is gloating, and just like that, they're on either side of him. Soryon says it's over and attacks Light, but as he's attacking, his sword disintegrates, shattering because of the death curse. At this, Light starts smiling gleefully, saying what a shame and that it seems he forgot his sword was infected with death energy. He asks how he plans to defeat him without a weapon, but Soryon asks, "Who said I only have one sword?" And from behind, he strikes Light. He cuts through his monostone and, as he's sliced in half, all that's left for him is to scream, despair, and die, falling to the ground. And our guy says that when he started fighting with Giro, he knew Light would think he was just going to use him as bait. That's why he was way more focused on Giro's movements than his own, and thought he'd be able to defeat him when his sword broke. But ever since he decided to fight with Giro, he planned on letting him deliver the final blow, because he predicted that Giro would be able to pierce him, thanks to Light underestimating him. And even while crawling on the ground, Light says that this isn't the end, and that when the darkness blots out the sun, his king will be reborn. But even so, he turns to dust, still saying that his king will banish them to a realm of pain. At this, the two just watch as Giro asks if it's over, and our guy confirms that it is, and thinks to himself that it's over. But his final words are giving him a bad feeling. After all, he talked about his king and that shadow up there, which can't be a good thing. And after all the trouble, they somehow managed to get out. But he wonders what they should do about this, with everyone giving interviews in front of the portal. And the reporter asks Barian what happened to her companions, and she says she hopes they get out alive. But they might already be dead. She starts crying desperately, snot and all, and Giro thinks, looks like Barian called in a rescue team. This is kinda tough. So he tells the MC he can't, reveal his identity, especially the fact that he's actually Smiling Kim, one of the top rankers. He says he knows it's gonna get out eventually, but for now, he doesn't want to get mixed up in any drama. But then Joran says he'll go alone, and the MC is like, "You're gonna do that in this mess?" He says yeah, telling him he's good at making excuses and cleaning up messes, because he's handled Barian's screw-ups a bunch of times. But he says there's one condition, and from the reward he gave him before, he wants the MC to take all of it. The MC is shocked that he wants to do that, and he says that many ether stones would be worth a few 100,000. He tells Joran that even though he earns less as a B ranks still make good money. He tells the kid to just take it anyway, because he doesn't want it and doesn't deserve it. But then the MC asks why Joran thinks that way, and he says they only beat the Lich because he had his help, and because he got help that's beyond compare. Besides, he believes that if the MC really wanted to, he could have taken down the Lich all by himself, and knows he was just giving him a chance to grow. The MC starts to realize that looks can't fool this guy, so Joran tells him to take the stuff. While he handles the situation, the MC should sneak out the back. He's gonna call a taxi to pick him up and says he knows a guy who's a cab driver. He calls up Yeonjun, getting the MC all set to dip out of there. He actually leaves. The MC is surprised that a taxi would come this deep into the mountains, saying Joran has more connections than he thought. Anyway, he managed to find the culprit like he planned, but in the end, he couldn't save everyone. He was only able to save the rest thanks to Joran's help. It would have been way harder to do it alone, and he thinks he's still not good enough and needs to get stronger. In the past, he thought he was strong, since he managed to survive on his own when everyone else had fallen, but that wasn't enough. To change the future, he needs to get way stronger. So he's going to recruit people he can trust, although right now, taking care of himself is his top priority, because his exhaustion is at 83 and he's in bad shape. The driver says that even though he looks so young, he seems really fragile, and the MC just stares out at the horizon, thinking about making some cash for the hospital bills. Meanwhile, some guy in an apartment is looking at his phone until his secretary shows up, calling for him, and he asks what the problem is. He says there's someone who wants to sell some ether stones. That guy is the head of the ether stone management department. So he asks what the big deal is about someone wanting to sell stones, and when he gets the case file, he sees it's a C rank, asking if they can't just handle someone like that on their own. But the secretary says he brought over 500 grams of ether stones, and the guy is totally shocked by this. And the MC, while they're talking, is waiting in a VIP room. The boss comes in, all friendly, apologizing for making his dear client wait. He says it's a pleasure to meet him and introduces himself as Kong, saying he's in charge of the Etherstone auction house. He says he heard the MC brought a huge amount of these stones, and the MC shows them to him. He checks out each of the stones, noticing they're real and that stones that big could only come from a yellow dungeon or higher, asking if he got them legally. Our boy already finds his question sketchy and asks what Kong means by that. He apologizes, saying he didn't mean to offend him. It's just that they know he's a C rank awakened, so they're a little concerned about how he got a reward from a yellow dungeon. The MC realizes the guy is trying to use this to rip him off. He says he was just super lucky, and that thanks to his luck, he managed to get them as part of the dungeon reward. Then he shows them something that makes their eyes go wide. They're totally freaked out, realizing it's the high-rank life attribute Ether Stone, a Lich's life stone. A lot of people don't know this, but it's a type of Ether Stone, since you have to break it to kill the Lich, and you can only get it as part of the dungeon's reward chest. But the chance of getting one is super low. Honestly, it was an unexpected and lucky score. The MC says that if they're suspicious of him, he can just take his business elsewhere. But then, Kong tells him to wait, saying they shouldn't be so hasty, and asking why the kid won't just hear him out. Then he notices the stone is already gone. The MC says he'll only wait one more time, telling them he'll listen to their offer. The two of them are scared, stiff, and later that night, on his bank statement, he receives an insane amount of money. It's 600 million for all of it, and he thinks they gave him a fair price. And even though this will be nothing when the apocalypse comes, he still needs it right now. It's good that money won't be a problem for a while, and the best part is he doesn't have to ask his mom for money anymore. He tells her he's back, and she runs to him, happy that he returned safely. But when the MC looks at her, he notices a bruise on her face as she asks how his trip was, and seeing that, he's shocked in a really bad way. He was horrified looking at her. She says he'd told her he'd be home earlier and dinner isn't ready yet, asking if he had fun with his friend and saying his face looks so thin. But he calls out to his mom and asks about the bruise, demanding to know what happened. She says it's nothing, telling him not to worry, and asks if he knows the restaurant where she works, saying she got hurt while breaking up a fight between some customers. But he's absolutely furious, asking why she doesn't just quit that job and says he doesn't think she should keep putting herself at risk like that. But she asks what he's talking about, wondering if he isn't going to college soon, and says she has to at least make enough money for his tuition. She couldn't give him the healthiest environment to grow up in, but she wants to give him as much support as she can as his mother. He's always been her pride and joy after all, so she wants him to be proud of his mom too. Damn, for real, bro. What a scene. What a character. What a strong bond. This kid better give this woman the world. I swear to God. If he doesn't do it, I'm going to Korea to beat the living crap out of him. He's beyond surprised to hear those words, as he remembers his early childhood and his original mother. She would ask if he thought he was going to become the strongest, awakened with just that little bit of mana, throwing all of his results at the kid's feet. She'd tell him to try harder, because he needed to become a decent son. After all, he's destined to be a hero. Then, while he's dreaming, she calls out to Soryu, calling him back and asking if he's okay. And the protag thinks for a bit, telling his mother that there's something he needs to tell her. He sits down with her at the table and she's surprised that he's awakened, asking if he's talking about that thing that's always on TV. He says yeah, and that he can make good money with it. And the awakened also have a pretty good reputation in society. So his plan is to work as an awakened and not go to college. He apologizes to her because he should have told her sooner. He didn't want to hide it from her and says he wanted to tell her from the very beginning. And she's surprised, asking if this is really what he wants to do. She asks if it's not just because of the money and the social reputation, but if it's from the bottom of his heart. She questions if this is what he really wants to do, and the protag remembers the future, saying yes. He confirms that he really wants to do this. She says she understands, and he asks if she's not mad at him, because he thought she'd be angry since he hid it from her for over a year. And besides that, it's a dangerous profession. He thought she'd be worried and mad at him, but she says yes, she is worried about him. Seeing as he hid this from her for over a year, she knows that just getting mad at him isn't going to change his mind. She doesn't want to force him to change. She just wants him to make his own choices and be happy. But as always, if anything is bothering him or making him unhappy, she asks him to tell her right away. The boy agrees, thanking his mother. He says he made a little money as an awakened and believes it's enough for her to quit her job at the restaurant. Then he starts to pull his phone out of his pocket, showing his mother. She asks how much money he made and then looks at her son's bank account. Her eyes go wide, noticing he made 600 million won, and she asks how they got so rich so fast. She wonders if the awakened normally make this much money. He asks his mom if she isn't overreacting just a little. He thought she'd be worried about him, and she says that of course she's worried. But who in this world doesn't like money? She says she'll make something better for dinner, asking Soryu to wait a bit and if there's anything special he wants to eat. And in that warm home situation, he thinks that it's been a long time since he's felt this, a cozy atmosphere that he'd never experienced before. And sometimes this comfort becomes so comfortable that he almost thought about giving up on everything and just enjoying this peaceful life. But he isn't the real Kim Soryu who's supposed to be here. This warmth belongs to the real Kim Soryu, not him. But that doesn't make him sad at all, since he was given another chance to protect the peace in this world. So he speaks to Korean, saying that if by some chance the real Soryu returns to this body, he wants him to be able to face people with confidence, and he doesn't want him to lose such a loving mother. And he says he's going to make the real Kim Soryu a hero. A while later, he goes to his room, saying that he needs to get way stronger than he is now. He won't get anywhere if a monster of that level gave him so much trouble. He thinks he needs to climb the tower again. And to do that, he needs a weapon, and not just some broken weapon he got from the authorities, but a legit weapon, which means he's going to have to go to another place. And arriving at the blacksmith's house, he says it's been a while since he heard that voice. The blacksmith is preparing several weapons, and after finishing one of them, the protag comes face to face with the master weaponsmith, who ignores him and goes inside. So he keeps calling for the blacksmith, who ignores the kid. But after being called so many times, he comes out totally pissed off, asking who the hell is making all that racket. Because if no one answers, he has to assume no one's there and leave. However, the protag says that it's a pleasure to meet him. He doesn't understand a thing and asks, "Who the hell is this kid?" While the protag just gives the blacksmith a happy smile. Then he talks about the holy sword Balmung, and its name comes from the sword used by the hero Siegfried. Its name means a holy sword that slays dragons. And that was the weapon that he, Kim Sunwoo, used in his past, and the ultimate sword, created with countless precious materials along with the efforts of several awakened. And the one who forged Balmung was the master weaponsmith, the old geezer. In the past, he went to see the master, but when he got there, he just found him alone inside the forge. And seeing that the boy had arrived, he wasn't too thrilled, and the protag asks him about the item he had requested. And he says he already finished it, handing him an impressive sword. He says it's one of the best swords he's ever made, so the protag accepts the sword. He says he already knows that the materials the blacksmith was saving for his ultimate masterpiece were used to make this. The blacksmith then realizes the kid already knew, and the protag asks how he can just accept it like this, since he hasn't even been paid for the job. He questions how he could simply accept an item that contains all of his treasures. But the blacksmith talks to him, saying that lately, everyone has been calling him a hero, and the legends about him are so great that they've even reached him. And that's even though he's stuck in his workshop all the time, which is isolated on a mountain. But the more the kid's legends grow, it seems his life gets more complicated, and he asks if the protag doesn't think that's unfair. Because even though no one has done anything for him, people expect him to just help them unilaterally. He has to live constantly meeting the expectations of others, while his own face becomes more and more serious and sad. And the kid has no way to argue with that. So the blacksmith says it's because he's the only one who can do it, and that's why he decided to create an unfair relationship like that. And just as people can ask for his help without giving anything in return, someone can come and help without asking for anything in return, too, because making a good weapon for him is something that only he can do. So, he was his master smith, his benefactor, and one of the people he couldn't protect in his past life. And now he's in front of Daerong, telling him it's been a long time, and this time, he's going to protect him. And our hero says it's a pleasure to meet him. He introduces himself as Scion, but the man says he doesn't recognize the name, asking if he's some big shot or something, and questioning how he found this place. He says he heard that he makes weapons for the awakened. But then Daerong asks who told him that, saying he doesn't make weapons for just anyone, and tells the kid to get lost. He thinks that's exactly what he expected to happen, because the old man is always the same. He says he came prepared, and that he brought materials, but he gets no answer until the old man walks over to him, saying he guesses he can at least take a little peek at those materials. And our hero notices he's taken the bait. Inside, he shows the materials to Daerong, who is shocked. He says that it's a highest rank ether stone. This was the other item he got from the elite's reward chest. The highest rank ether stone is an item that's almost impossible to get at this point in time. And in his past life, the highest rank ether stone was only discovered after the Gwonju dungeon outbreak, and that was the other reason he had to attack that dungeon. This ether stone has several uses, but they really shine when they're forged into weapons. He asked where the kid got it, but our hero just smiles and asks if he really cares. The old man says of course not, and asks what he wants. And our hero says he wants a sword, and he'd like him to make a powerful one for him. And he says he thought he was just some stuck-up brat, but if that's what he wants, he came to the right place. He also says he doesn't have to pay, since he brought such a sensational material. He thinks that first they have to sign a contract, but our hero says they don't need to. And Daerong asks why, questioning if he's crazy. He also asks if he has any idea how valuable this thing is. And he says he's well aware of that and trusts the old man completely. He knows that what the old man really wants is the process of forging that sword with the ether stone, not the sword itself. Then the old man starts laughing, saying he's pretty amusing and that he's taken a liking to the kid. He says he'll accept his request and will make the best possible sword to match that material. And our hero agrees, asking him to do his best. He says it'll take a while to make, and if he needs a weapon in the meantime, he can take anything useful from the workshop. And our hero actually grabs one and heads home. He remembers it will require a production period of 10 months. He was already expecting that, but it's still a really long time. And at least he got a sword that looks good. As expected from the old man's work, it'll do the job. He thinks that all that's left is to advance in the abyss. He enters the place, heading to the Guardian again, and upon arriving, the Guardian realizes the kid has passed. He begins the trial for the 11th floor, returning home and climbing floor by floor, always being the first. He pushes through to the 14th, 15th, 16th, and so on, even when it gets tough, conquering each and every floor. And so, half a year later, Joro is in pretty bad shape, lying in a hospital bed. And Baryon tells him he's an idiot because he's going to be stuck there for 6 weeks for a full recovery, saying he should have taken it easier. But he says it wasn't as easy as he thought it would be. But she says that out of nowhere, he just decided to challenge the tower again and even crank the difficulty up to 5. She asks if he isn't pushing himself too hard, saying he got away with just injuries this time. But what if something serious happened? He just says he can't give up just because it's hard. With that attitude, he'll never catch up to that kid. But then he gets a call, wondering who could be calling him. But as soon as he looks, he sees it's Sorum. And our hero speaks to Joro, saying he's glad he answered and that it's been a while. He says if it's cool with him, he has a favor to ask. And so, our hero says he asked Joro for 3 things. First, was to check if there were any good buildings for the awakened to live in. Ever since he got the shop for his mom, he's needed a good place to live and be independent. The second request was about the Doom Guild. There's no way the news of the Gwonju dungeon hasn't reached them yet. The death of one member might have been the end of it, but they might be wondering why their guild member died without achieving his goals. Because of that, he was worried it would be dangerous to go after them. But Joro says it's all good and that he'll be careful not to get caught. And our hero says that from the looks of it, he can stop worrying about that. So he tells the kid to leave it to him. On top of that, the third and final request was about him. He said that on December 24th, there's going to be a break in Anang. He says there'll be at least hundreds of thousands of casualties and it'll be an unprecedented disaster. But Joro asks how the kid knows that. He says he can't get into the details right now and admits he's asking for something big. He can refuse if it's too much, and he won't blame him for it. Why did he say that? Joro trusts him. He says he already told him that, adding that he'll do what he can. And our hero agrees with that, saying he'll leave everything in Joro's hands. And as for the last request, about the disaster in Anang, he says he asked for help to stop a green-level dungeon break. There isn't even half a year until Christmas Eve. He needs to get a lot stronger before the Anang incident. He'll be getting the sword back from Daerong soon enough. And if he can pass the trial on the 20th floor, he's sure he'll be able to stop them. And of course, if he can get a perfect clear on the 19th floor, that'll be even better. So he arrives at the 19th floor, faces a desert in front of him, and, dropping down, he sees a bunch of monsters around a carcass. They're thief rats. The system says he's in the rat's lair and that he must survive and escape. And our hero realizes there are a ton of them. He lands near the things, startling all of them. The monsters look at him, and he notices that those are the bones of something. And it looks like they were picked completely clean a while ago. He figures those guys must be starving, and in their eyes, he must look pretty damn tasty. So the rats charge at him, but our hero kills them all in a single sweep. However, one of the rats manages to pounce on the kid, attacking and ripping his clothes, but he still manages to finish off all the nearby ones. He notices he let his guard down, wondering if it's poison or something else. But no matter what it is, it looks like it'll hurt like hell if they bite him, and they all come at him again. But our guy uses the sacred flame to wipe everyone out in one go, then hops on top of one of the bones. He realizes they're total weaklings one-on-one, but there are a ton of them, and it's a huge waste of mana to keep using the sacred flames. Besides, he has no idea how many are still left. It'd be way better if he could just finish them all at once. But just then, the rats start climbing the bone he's on, and he has to jump off so he doesn't get bitten. And he's like, crap, no time for a strategy, as he kills the rats and sees more swarming to get to him. So he slides down the bone, slashing every single one in sight. That's when he spots a hole in the ground and notices cracks all around it, wondering if there's, like, an open space underneath. And he figures there's only one way to find out. Use the sacred flame, blast the hole open, and go down there to end them all for good. So, with his sword planted in the ground, he just uses a kick to bust their hideout wide open. He enters their den, and after blowing that crater in the floor, he drops down into the underground, finding some lost ruins. And as he looks around, he sees he was right about the open space and bets this is the real trial location. Then he spots a single rat nearby, realizing it's the only one that survived. But he wonders why it looks so scared of something, and the rat just bolts, but ends up stepping on a trap and gets impaled on spikes. Our guy starts to figure out what this place is all about as a bunch of torches light up around him, lighting up the whole path. And he starts to realize he's totally screwed, because he knew this wasn't going to end with just a bunch of rats. And just as he thought, one of those things was there, and it looks like a basilisk. Face to face with that monster, all he can do is dodge its massive tail whip. But even after escaping that attack, he charges right back in, trying to stab the monster with his sword, but it's no use. The sword just bounces right off, and he realizes that even Darrow's sword is useless. This thing has insane physical resistance. But he wonders what would happen if he used the sacred flame on that thing's mouth, and the monster just swallows his flames whole. But it doesn't even look phased, just staring at him calmly, like it's about to swallow him. He notices the monster took 0 damage and thinks, great, it's not just the physical resistance, its magic resistance is crazy high too. Winning with the sacred flame is gonna be tough. The monster comes at him again, attacking one more time, but our guy manages to dodge to the side, and the monster uses its tail to attack him. So he jumps up, but the monster doesn't stop there, coming in for a bite. And just as he's in a spot with no footing left, the only thing he can do is use his sword to block the monster's jaws. He keeps the monster from snapping its jaws shut on him. He realizes this beast is way faster than he expected, but then he's slammed against the wall, pinned by the monster, and after taking that hit, he collapses to the ground. He starts thinking, realizing that thing is way too agile for its size, and it seems like it doesn't have a single weak spot. He knows he's getting his ass kicked, but still thinks the monster is no match for him. Dude, for someone getting their ass handed to them, you're pretty damn cocky, you know? Then the monster tries to bite him again, but our guy dodges out of the way. Still in midair, he thinks he's only got half his mana left, and before he uses it all up, he's gonna stop that thing's movements, striking the top of the monster's head. But when he attacks, he's thrown backward, sent tumbling. When he looks back, he sees a pipe nearby and grabs onto it, using the ceiling to run in another direction. He thinks that no matter how high its magic resistance is, it's still gonna hurt if he attacks that spot, hitting the side of its head, right near the eye. The monster starts thrashing around until it whips its tail at him, nearly hitting him, and he has to pull off some acrobatics to dodge the attack. And right then, he imbues his sword with magic flame again, attacking the bottom part, the monster's soft underbelly. Because of the attack, the monster starts to thrash wildly, throwing him away and getting more and more pissed. It goes all out, right on top of the kid, but he just cracks a smile, and the snake realizes it's totally screwed. because it's all tied up and trapped with just its head right in front of him. And he goes on about the thing's physical and magic resistance, and even its regeneration. And this is seriously the first monster he's fought with all three of those stats jacked up so high. But even with all that, it's no match for him. He's way stronger than that monster, grabbing the flame and shoving it right up into the snake's mouth, finishing it off for good. And after the battle, his sacred flame gets an evolution. He summons it to his hand and just tosses it into the air, and out of it comes the sacred flame bird, which flies back to our guy, descending through all that fire. And boom! He creates the phoenix, the evolution of the sacred flame. This is a skill you can get on the 18th floor when the sacred flame ability evolves. And it's not really a skill, it's more like a summon, and you can actually control it and give the phoenix orders. He says the only downside is that it's a massive mana drain, but it's totally worth spending all that mana for this skill. And he says that cause its destructive power is like 10 times greater than the sacred flame. And the snake, which I thought he'd already wasted, is still just sitting there waiting. So he launches the phoenix right at the snake, and it blasts straight through its chest, killing it in one shot. And so he clears the 19th floor like a total boss, and is relieved it's finally over, because the difficulty in the Tower of Trials spikes exponentially every 10 floors. That means there's a huge chance he's going to run into some major crap on the 20th floor, just like what happened on the 10th. He's already done everything he could in half a year, and now there's only one thing left for him to do. Go back to Darar to get the sword he asked the blacksmith to make. And that's when everyone starts freaking out about the rankings, and it looks like he did it again. The MC snagged the #1 rank on the 19th floor. They're all wondering how the hell someone can clear the 19th floor with a score like that. That means he's been at the top of the ranks for 9 floors straight for half a year. They're asking, who is this kid? He's also ghosting all the calls from the Awakened Association. Word is, he's not answering any recruitment offers from the big shot guilds either, and nobody has a clue who he is. He's a total mystery man. But Joro knows what's up, and the MC is going to meet him. Joro is totally stoked that the kid is here. He says it's cool, he just got there, and what's important is what they need to talk about. Then he asks if the kid liked the car he hooked him up with, and our protag starts saying he thought it was a little over the top, and Joro's like, are you kidding me? Give me a break. He says it's the least someone like him should be doing, driving a car like that. And he says that when he asked how he gets around, our guy said he just takes the subway and bus. He says the MC has no idea how shocked Joro was, and tells him that awakened people need to get around a lot. That sports car has 8 cylinders next to a naturally aspirated engine and a bunch of other stuff, but the MC just tells them to cut it out and talk inside already. Once they get in, he asks how the kid's been, wondering if his prep for the 20th floor is going well. And our guy says, yeah, explaining that he's been putting it off for a while because he's waiting for something. But luckily, he was told to go pick it up today. He thanks him for finding a new house for them, and also the shop for his mom. But Joro is happy to help, asking where he said they lived, and he says it's Ansan. He thinks about it for a sec, since it's not too far from Anang, and our protag gets a little awkward. And Joro says that he somehow managed to score a meeting with the director of the certification agency next month, and if he tells them what's going to happen, he might be able to get some help. And the MC thinks to himself that next month means 2 months until the outbreak, and that's not exactly the ideal scenario, but he asks about the Dump Guild. So Joro says he's been keeping an eye on them, but hasn't dug up much. It seems like they're crazy good at hiding their activities, and there's been a spike in deaths and disappearances of awakened, but that's just a result of tougher dungeons popping up lately, so he doesn't have to be too suspicious about it. However, there was a weird case recently where an awakened just dropped dead in the middle of the street, and the autopsy showed poison was involved. The MC thinks about this, remembering the leader of the Dump Guild, and he asks if there's any way they can look into it, because he's got a feeling they'll find something if they follow this lead. So Joro agrees to do that for the kid, and tells him to be careful on his way home. And our protag walks to his car, thinking that there are only 3 months left until the outbreak, and he knows Joro is doing his best. But this whole situation still seems pretty screwed, with the guild leader still having an ace up his sleeve. He figures that stopping him alone seems like the safest bet, so he heads over to the blacksmith's, and when he gets there, he notices all the weapons are seriously high quality. Then the blacksmith thanks him for waiting, brings out the weapon, and says it was tough to make because of how insane the materials were, but that just made it more fun, and says he can guarantee the specs are awesome, so he shouldn't worry, telling him to go ahead and check it out. And when our guy grabs it, he realizes it's an excellent sword and looks more normal than Balmung. But from the moment he picked it up, he could tell that the sword was alive. Then, he tosses the sword he had in his sheath up into the air and lets it fall onto the sword he just had made. And when one sword touches the other, it shatters instantly. He realizes this thing has the highest degree of sharpness and durability, and it can react to his mana and figure out exactly what he wants to cut and what he doesn't. This is a perfect sword. And then the blacksmith asks if he's thought of a name, saying the sword is his now and he should name it. And our protag says it's going to be called Gram, the Dragon Slayer. And he's like, what do you mean, like 100 or 200 grams? He's like, what kind of a lame name is that? Because he really didn't like it. but our protag explains that Gram is just another name for Balmung in Northern European countries. He can't use the name Balmung again, but he doesn't want to give up the meaning behind the name of a dragon-slaying sword. After all, he's gonna fight one. Then he says, "I'm out of here, old man." The blacksmith asks if he's leaving already, wondering why he doesn't have some tea before he goes. But he says he'll do it next time because he needs to head straight to another place. In a fortress far away, a guard is on duty until someone taps him on the shoulder. He whips around, but then he sees it's Commander Maximin, so he apologizes for freaking the guard out, asking how the border patrol is going and if there's any trouble. He says no, everything's cool, but Maximin says he must be exhausted, telling him he just needs him to hang in there a little longer. Because if the kingdom launched a surprise attack on them, the entire castle would be screwed. He agrees with that, telling him not to worry, he'll give it his all. As the guard walks away, Maximin thinks to himself that it's already been a month, and the situation inside and outside the castle is a total disaster. And if this keeps up, the common folk are the ones who are going to suffer. He wonders what the hell he should do now, but just then, someone appears, telling Maximin he's got a lot on his mind. He jumps, looks over, and asks who's there, calling the super shady-looking guy a retainer. He asks what brings him to this part of the world, asking if he wasn't supposed to be helping His Highness. And the retainer says he came to see how the guards were doing and asks what the current situation is. And Maximin says they're doing everything they can to protect the castle, but they're not in a good spot. After all, Old Ren's army is way bigger than theirs. So, while he's talking, the retainer tells him to hold on, asking if he's thinking about ditching the castle. He brought up that possibility, asking if he heard him wrong, and Maximin says he's just saying it's a possibility, and if this fight drags on for too long, it'll be hard to keep the army going. So, if that's the case, that's what he's going to do. But the retainer says he can't, that they'll all die there together before they even consider abandoning that castle. And Maximin thinks that's messed up, wondering, how can times say that? It's not like he's going to join the battle. And he asks what the retainer thinks a soldier's life is. Not long after, the declaration of war came from Old Ren. That guy, who was supposedly His Highness's #1 aide, came to them as commander-in-chief and demanded absolute obedience to his superiors. That's a soldier's duty and the rule of war, but that man considers a soldier's life to be worth less than an ant's, and Maximin wonders how His Highness could appoint someone like that to be commander-in-chief. Then the retainer says that, either way, he shouldn't get any funny ideas and should just hold out for another month, asking if he isn't more than capable of that, calling him the hero of the old kingdom, Captain Maximin. And he thinks about holding out for a month and tells the retainer that nothing will change, even if they do. But then the whole castle starts to shake and he questions what's happening. Just then, a soldier runs up calling for Maximin because they've got a problem. There was an unexpected attack on the castle gates just now, and the MC shows up, wrecking everything. A few hours earlier, in front of the 20th floor entrance, the MC gets near the gate and finds another drunk passed out over there. And he asks who's there, because he's the gatekeeper of the 20th floor. He says it's rare for a kid to have a vision these days, and asks if he's come to him for advice. He says yeah, asking if the guardian could help him out. He says he doesn't know. Maybe after hearing a single offer from him, if he likes it, he'll help. And the MC says he figured as much, because the gatekeepers get sneakier with every passing floor. So the kid says he'll hand over 100,000, and the gatekeeper doesn't quite get it, looking surprised. The kid says he'll give him 100,001 points, asking if that's enough. But the gatekeeper starts laughing, saying he's going to pay an amount that would take most people 10 years to save up all at once. Saying he's really different, he asks where he's going. He says he's thinking of challenging the floor on level 10, asking if there's anything he should watch out for. He tells the kid not to worry, because he's not going to die in there, and other people would die before that happened, although he shouldn't kill anyone if he can help it. And the kid doesn't really get it. The gatekeeper says that besides that, he should be aware of what his goal is at all times. He asks if that's it, and the gatekeeper says yes, but he replies that he gave him 100,000 points. However, the gatekeeper says he said that's it, telling him to get in there already. And as soon as he passes through, he notices the gatekeeper is at it again, always talking in riddles. And even though he knows his advice always helps in the end, he questions what he meant by his goal. But as soon as he walks into that white space, he falls into a black hole and ends up inside a forest. He grabs onto a tree, managing to land safely and realizing he's right next to a kingdom. And the system tells him that the level 10 trial has begun. The kingdom of Grandalum is an iron fortress, protected by thousands of soldiers. Then it's said that within his 1-month time limit, he must take down the castle, but he should keep in mind that he is not their enemy. He might be able to gain an ally during the suffering of the trial. He must uncover the secret inside the castle and survive. And the MC notes that the explanation is being way too chatty today. But because it was so detailed, he was able to understand a lot about the situation, and the system said he needs to take down the castle and find the secret. That means it's not a simple case of just steamrolling them head-on. And the same goes for what the system said about him not being their enemy. And the gatekeeper said something similar, about not killing anyone if he could help it. He thinks it means he should avoid useless fights, but questions how you take down a castle without fighting. Then, during the night, he keeps thinking about it and notices there's a thick wall in front of him, worthy of the name Iron Fortress. The guards and mercs on watch are also pretty skilled, and there are even some people who can use magic. They must be at least C rank in terms of awakened. They're all over the place, and they have a huge geographical advantage. He has to take down the castle, but he can't kill anyone, and he also has to find the secret. And he has a month, which is plenty of time for the trial, but he doesn't have that kind of luxury. After thinking for a bit, he says he's decided, walking up to the gate and scaring the guards who were there. He tells himself that he doesn't need to overthink it, and he'll just do what he always does. A head-on fight. He tells them he's a traveler passing through and apologizes, asking if he can crash at the castle for a night, but the guards ask if he's crazy. They ask what kingdom he thinks this is, questioning if he can't see that they're prepared for battle. So he's thinking, he's only got 2 months till the outbreak. He's got to finish this trial as soon as possible and start prepping. So the protagonist is like, I get it, grabbing his sword and telling them sorry, but he's got to force his way in. He leaps over them, lands on top of the gate, and just hacks it to pieces with his sword, bringing the whole thing down. Everyone's totally freaking out at the destruction, and he just stands there in front of it all, barging into their fortress by force without killing anyone. After his super subtle entrance, everyone starts panicking because the intruder just wrecked the castle gate. Meanwhile, he's just checking out his sword, all happy with it, because now that he's got a feel for it, he realizes this sword is seriously insane. The way it was forged lets him adjust the edge however he wants. So all the guards charge him, but he's in no mood to mess around and just plows right into all of them, taking them all down and moving on without a second glance. He realizes there's nothing this sword can't cut, but at the same time, if he wants, he can choose not to cut, since he just beat everyone without killing them, just knocking them out of his way. Then more soldiers start shooting at him from above with bows, and arrows start flying his way. But he just deflects every single one with his sword, blowing everyone's minds. Seeing they can't even hit him with arrows, they're completely terrified. He uses the chance to jump up onto the wall, right in the middle of them, and just throws their leader off. But he thinks to himself he's sure the guy didn't die from that. And one of them asks if he's okay. And yeah, the guy really is still alive somehow. Well, alive, I guess? Can't say if he's walking, though. Then they start talking near the protagonist, who can't understand a word, and he wonders what's up. What's that? Orders from up top say to let him go and protect the castle walls because he's going to fight that man himself. But then they're all like, Commander, you can't. If you go up against that intruder and something happens to you, the future of the kingdom is screwed. And the protagonist is surprised it's the commander, since the soldiers are prioritizing protecting him over fighting. So they start apologizing to Captain Maximin, and one of them tells the soldiers to escort the commander inside. But he keeps telling everyone to let him go, but they drag him to the safest place possible anyway. The protagonist notices that even though that guy is their superior, they're ignoring his orders and doing everything they can to protect him. He was planning to just push forward without hesitation while figuring things out, but he realizes it'd be faster to just capture the guy. He leaps over all the soldiers, getting close to the captain, but one of them yells that he won't let him get near the commander, and shoots an arrow that snags the protagonist's foot, holding him in midair. But he just gives it a yank, pulling the guy right to him and making them crash into each other. As they collide, the protagonist falls with the guy, but still manages to land on the wall and leap off with him. They start thinking he's taken their ally hostage, yelling not to attack, but as he gets closer to the commander, there's not much they can do. He tosses the soldier aside and goes straight for the commander, who quickly breaks free from his own men. The protagonist cuts the rope, realizing he can see it clearly now that they're face to face. This guy is definitely strong. He clashes his sword against the commanders, and the shockwave sends all the other soldiers flying. After they're all cleared out, the protagonist is face to face with Captain Max, and one of the soldiers asks if he's okay. He tells the soldier not to worry, saying he'll take care of this guy. Then they should check the situation outside the castle, he says, noting that this guy isn't an agent of the Oldran Kingdom. The protagonist is surprised he knows, and Maximin thinks he must be a third party acting alone. And the protagonist is totally blown away by him. The guy's situational awareness is insane, totally fitting for a commander. Plus, his skills are comparable to a rank A awakened. This dude is the real deal. His men tell Maximin to be careful, because they can't do anything without him. But Maximin asks how many times he's told them not to look so pathetic. But they say it's true, believing that just like he brought them victory 20 years ago in the war against King Noldren, they'll easily stop Oldren. The protagonist was wondering why these guys had such strong faith in him, and he gets it now. It's because he's the country's war hero. But still, he thinks, no one realizes that this same trust is the very thing holding him back. Because he was exactly the same way when he was a nobody. So he speaks to the commander, apologizing for wrecking the castle gates without permission, but says he has urgent business and asks if he can come in. The guy says that's unthinkable, telling him he's talking crap. Because his kingdom is at war, and there's no way they're letting a dangerous individual who destroyed the castle gates and threatened the soldiers just walk in. So the protagonist says, if that's the case, I'll have to apologize one more time, and adds that the way to take down the castle without bloodshed is to persuade the person they trust the most, and he lunges at Maximin. The commander is about to ask who the hell he is, but the kid ties up his hand, and he realizes it's the same rope that caught him earlier. So the protagonist grabs the rope in his mouth and uses his Gigantomachia transformation, raising his hand and turning it into a giant's, thinking he'll use this guy to uncover the castle's secret and clear this trial perfectly. And if possible, he'll also free him from these shackles. Then he smashes the entire ceiling, and everyone starts calling for the captain, asking if he's safe. But when they look up, they're stunned by what they see. Since they can't find the captain anywhere, they order everyone to inspect the area and to keep defending the castle. And everyone there agrees. One of them says he was right in front of him, wondering where he went. And the protagonist, already inside the place, emerges from a shadow with the captain, tossing him out. When the captain comes to, he asks, "What was that?" He thinks to himself, guess it wasn't a waste using those points at the 15th floor shop. The shadow assimilation skill lets him jump from one shadow to another. It's a darkness skill that awakened assassins usually use, but it takes forever to cast and eats up a ton of mana. It's a tricky skill with limited uses and range, but it's perfect for infiltration. He got it just in case he needed to sneak into a place or stay off the radar while messing with someone, and it looks like it was the right call. Besides that, he's sure he's inside the castle now, but he smells something weird in here. His scent. And now there's just one thing left to do. Get the secrets of this place out of that guy over there. So he asks if the captain's all right, unties him, and apologizes, saying that with the way things were, it was the only way he could think of to talk to him alone. But the captain questions if he was trying to attack the kingdom, and the MC says no, so he asks why he broke down the castle gates and attacked his soldiers. He says he had no choice, since they wouldn't let him in. He says he was in a hurry and couldn't waste any time, but the captain doesn't get it at all, asking what the kid means. And the MC says that a huge problem is about to go down in this castle. The captain is shocked, asking what kind of problem he's talking about, wondering if the kingdom of Odron is going to attack. The MC says he doesn't know either. He came here to find that out. But if something really does happen, it's going to be a way bigger problem than a war between two kingdoms. He's surprised, and the MC asks if anything suspicious has happened inside the castle lately. He then remembers something, that conversation he had with that weird guy earlier. He says that even if that's true, how can he trust him enough to tell him anything? What if he's a spy from another kingdom? And the MC says that if he were really a spy, he wouldn't have gone through all this trouble, because he can take down this castle all by himself. As soon as the captain hears him say that, he remembers when he crossed swords with the MC. He says that, to be honest, he realized the moment their swords clashed that there isn't a single person in his kingdom who could take this guy on in a fight. So, the captain realizes he's saying that he has no choice because he can't stop him, even if he doesn't believe him. The MC asks if he's going to tell him, and he says he has some suspicions, but in exchange, he's coming with him. The kid is happy that things are going his way, saying he's more than welcome. As he follows the captain, he asks if it's still far, and he says they're almost there. When he opens a door, he says they've arrived and explains that the place used to be a prison about 100 years ago, and maybe it had a strong aura of death because so many prisoners died there. So he says they ended up closing the place down and building the prison somewhere else, and not many people know this place even exists. However, he asks the MC what this place has to do with the problem he mentioned, and the MC says he'll find out soon enough because he can smell his scent in this castle, that unforgettable stench of the dead. But then, they hear a voice asking who's there, and they're both surprised. And when the captain looks back, he sees it's the retainer. He then speaks to Commander Maximin, asking what the hell he's doing there, saying a commander can't just abandon his post during a time of war. And this man, with him, isn't that the intruder from before? At that, the MC asks what he's doing there, since the prison was locked until the commander opened it, questioning how the retainer knew how to get there. He said he was just passing by and felt a presence in this place, and that's all. And that they also have to be careful inside the castle at a time like this. But the MC thinks the timing is a little too perfect for that, and that he was probably following them. But the retainer says that's ridiculous, telling Captain Maximin to get a grip, and says that he's an intruder. He asks why a commander like him is doing something like this, questioning if he's being controlled or something like that. However, while he's telling Maximin to snap out of it, the MC just beheads him right in front of the captain, shocking him. And as the retainer falls to the ground, Maximin asks what he's done. To kill His Royal Highness's retainer and the chief commander. He really must be an enemy spy. But the MC just says, the king's retainer. That's a pretty interesting disguise, isn't it? Then, when he sees that thing getting up, Maximin is shocked. It's a lich. And so, Maximin can't even believe his eyes, asking if he's saying that thing wasn't a man but a monster this whole time, and what is happening to this country. And the MC immediately connects that smell of death and darkness to a castle that isn't even at war yet. That smell was all the proof he needed to know it was lurking inside this place. He'd run into something similar in the past, so he was able to figure out its identity faster than usual. However, there's a clear difference from last time. This is a real lich. It's on a completely different level from that fake one he saw in the Guangzhou dungeon. And the retainer says he knew he wasn't what he seemed to be, asking where the MC came from and if he's from a different castle in the neighboring kingdom. But the MC isn't in the mood to talk, saying he might have even come from a world he doesn't know. And so the retainer says it doesn't matter if he answers, saying that the plan has changed. Maximin is shocked by what he's saying, and he just confirms it, starting to use magic in front of them, leaving them surprised. The lich says they're both going to die there. Then he shoots that purple and black beam at the two of them, but the MC steps forward, throwing his sword toward the blast. He slices it instantly, surprising both Maximin and the lich, and the MC realizes this sword is surprisingly good at handling magic. He wonders if it's because he's using the highest quality ether stone, since it seems this sword won't break like the other one. But just because the sword is good doesn't mean it's going to be enough. Model: the lich is a darkness-type monster, and unless you use a holy ability or land a direct hit on its lifestone, attacks won't do crap. He remembers Maximin pointing out that this dude is pretty strong, but you can't really expect help from anyone without a holy skill. So he imbues his sword with his flames, thinking, if that's the case, I'll just end him with my sacred flame, and he leaps at the lich to attack. But the monster just flies out of the way, then summons another one of those beams right at our hero, but he throws his flames at that thing, taking it out fast and cutting off the beam's effect, causing a huge flash of light. He puts his hand up so he's not blinded, and he thinks that was unexpected, because his sacred flame couldn't even overcome the lich's death aura. This thing is way stronger than that half-assed lich he fought before. He could probably survive for a bit if he kept using his sacred flame, but he doesn't want to waste the mana. Nothing good will come from dragging this fight out, and he realizes that it looks like he's got no choice but to aim for its life stone, charging full speed at the lich. He tries to land a hit, but the monster just dodges, and our hero is surprised, but then he plants his foot on the wall in front of him. He gets ready to attack again, throwing his flames at the lich, who just keeps dodging. And besides dodging, it preps an attack to launch at our hero. And when it shoots another one of those purple beams, the kid dodges it this time, appearing right behind the lich, ready to smash its face in. And he lands one hell of a kick on that pile of bones, sending it flying even faster. He drops down right in the monster's path. And when the lich looks back, it sees it's about to get hit. But before our hero could nail it, it just sprouts wings on its back using that purple ray magic. And our hero notices that it defended itself by releasing that aura. So the lich turns and preps another attack, firing it at our hero, who now starts slicing those things up. But then the lich lands calmly in front of him. Then Maximin asks if he's okay, and our hero, for his part, just says he's good, but keeps thinking that something's weird. Even though it has such a strong aura, it feels like it's not taking him seriously, because it hasn't revealed its full power yet. He wonders if that thing has some kind of plan. But the monster just stays quiet, and our hero feels an aura coming from that small door to the side, and the lich says it looks like the preparations are complete, and the kid doesn't understand a thing. But it starts getting happy, saying, playtime is over. Behind Maximin, something comes out of that door as it gets blown open and flies toward them. And an aura rushes out from there toward the captain, but our hero jumps in front of it, saving and also surprising the captain. So our hero comes face to face with whatever is coming from inside, saying that he finally gets it. Now he understands everything. Maximin notes that something suddenly attacked them from behind, wondering if the lich can also control darkness from a distance. And our hero says, that's not it. After all, this is a lich's house, a grim, dark place where light never touches, and a place where evil intentions, hatred, and death linger. And so the lich says, it seems he's figured it out, and that this is its home, where the sweet screams of the dead are echoing. It's their home. And as Maximin turns around, he's horrified to see another lich there. And he thinks this can't be real, noticing there are several liches in this place. 3 of them for them to fight, and our hero thinks that he's finally figured it out. Thousands of soldiers and a castle with a large but enclosed and limited area, and they infiltrated it, disguising themselves as the king's aides. There are 3 of them. This can only mean one thing. And one of them says that he dragged this out for too long, that they won't waste any more time on weaklings like these. And the other one there, the kind of shy one, says he should have killed them when he was coming down the stairs, asking if he really thinks he can go on with his plan being so careless. At this, Maximin asks what the hell are those guys talking about? And besides, what the hell kind of plans are those? And our hero asks if he knew that the lich have a king, and Maximin is shocked. And our hero talks about the Lich King, the sovereign of the kingdom of the dead. And there are a few ways to summon him, and one of them is human sacrifice, and Maximin believes it. Remembering that the retainer talked to him last night about abandoning the castle because he wanted all of them to die there together. And our hero says he's right, because they've been using the kingdom's soldiers as sacrifices to summon the Lich King here. Then that shy one says our hero is pretty sharp, and the one in the red cloak asks how a mere human like him knows about the existence of their great king. And so the other one says he's right, saying that while they were looking for sacrifices for the king, they found this castle. And after they killed the king, they controlled his body to disguise themselves as his aide. Hearing that they killed the king, Maximin gets more and more pissed off, ready to lunge at the Lich in the purple robe. It says that the ritual was supposed to happen in a month, but they managed to complete the altar faster than expected. However, our hero stops Maximin, and the Lich says that once they take care of them, they'll begin the summoning. So our hero looks back, surprised that he's going to have to face 3 leeches. They're not easy opponents, but he can definitely handle them alone, as long as he controls his mana well. However, one of them already starts attacking, summoning a square around them, and that square becomes a prison, and our hero can't even believe it. It's the Guidance of Darkness. This is one of a Lich's highest-ranking skills, which distorts space with summoned darkness. And no way, a normal Lich shouldn't be able to use that skill. He can't believe they are apostles of the Lich, and so they bid farewell to the humans, sealing our hero inside, because not even sacred flames work against this kind of ability. He starts to realize he's screwed, but then that barrier shatters right in front of him, getting diced and sliced into a million little pieces. And our hero can't believe what's happening. When he looks at Maximin, he's shocked that he broke the Guidance of Darkness, and the Lich can't believe it either, since no physical or magical skills work against a Lich. They're wondering how he managed to shatter it with a sword. Like, who the hell is this guy? And they figure his weapon has to be a holy sword. But Maximin asks what the hell they're talking about. He says his sword is just a plain old blade, and that he's simply a holy knight. The MC finds this out too late, and Maximin says they killed his king. They tried to turn all the soldiers into sacrifices, and that's why he'll never forgive them. He declares the plan ends here and lunges at them. The one in red says they found a real pain-in-the-ass opponent, but the others say he's still just some human, telling them to crush him to death and stop wasting time, since they're so close to their goal. With that, the one in purple goes to bring in the dead from outside the castle. He orders them not to let a single human escape, and the one in blue rushes off to obey, but Maximin says he won't let them. The one in red asks where he thinks he's going, readying a spear to attack Maximin and telling him to just die already. However, the MC uses his divine flames to shatter the attack, protecting Maximin and launching the flames toward the Lit. The Phoenix just breaks the spear and goes right for him. He wonders what the hell that firebird is, and the one in blue gets freaked out too. When the Phoenix looks at him, it charges. He yells that he didn't do anything and takes off running. Meanwhile, Maximin demands to know who the hell the MC is. He's surprised to see that look on his face, and the MC says he gets why he'd be pissed off. He says they killed his king and turned soldiers into sacrifices, but even so, he shouldn't let his anger consume him. But then Maximin asks what he should do. The MC says that he's the commander of this battle. But if it's cool, just this once, he'd like to take the lead. Maximin is surprised by the kid's request. While the one in red is fighting the Phoenix, the MC asks Maximin if he's ready. He says he's not sure if this is the right thing to do, asking the kid if the right move is to just let the Lit escape. The MC says he's been getting his help this whole time, and if he doesn't fight with him, things are going to get really bad. But the MC says he's out of time and tells him to hurry up and decide, because the castle and the soldiers' lives are on the line, asking him what's more important. So, he agrees and gets out of there, leaving the MC behind. He remembers the gatekeeper told him he had to be aware of his objective at all times. That means he has something to do that's separate from what anyone else has to do. He's going to leave the protection of the soldiers to Commander Maximin. So he charges at those Lits, saying he's going to do what has to be done, and attacks the first one. As soon as the one in the blue cape sees this, he looks up in shock, asking what the MC just did. The MC sheathes his sword, and a massive slash splits the Lit in two. They're all stunned, because that kid is insane. With the collapse, all the soldiers outside realize what's happening, since the castle roof caved in. The Lits try to defend themselves with their magic, and one of them, the one in blue, says they're really going out of their way to piss him off and that he won't repeat himself, ordering him to summon the dead. If he doesn't do it, he'll kill him before the MC can. So, he gets ready, and their leader tells the one in red to go check the altar, saying it has to be intact for the ritual. He tries to run, but the MC's Phoenix goes after him, almost hitting him, and he runs for his life. But the MC is right behind him, asking where he thinks he's going. And before he could even process it, the MC lunges at him, cuts him in two, and shatters his life stone. The one in purple gets more and more pissed off, cussing out the MC. But when he fires his beam, the MC manages to dodge and casts another spell, creating a cube around him. The cube closes before he can do anything. But the MC calls his Phoenix, and it slams into the cube, making him let go. The MC wonders if he went overboard. However, the Lit tells him to stop because he knows the sacred gem bird is devouring his mana. He says that if the MC surrenders now, he'll give him a painful death. But the MC just laughs, saying he's right and that the phoenix eats up a lot of mana and tells it to return. But then he asks whoever said he'd be useless without mana, since he's still got his sword. At that, the MC remembers when Maximin was talking to him. He'd asked if there was anything else he could do to help before he left, but the MC said it was all good, because he'd already done something for him. Maximin is totally confused. The MC says that now he can use the divine affinity of the Holy Blade and asks, how about we start this little game over? After the destruction, the soldiers are still asking if there were any fatalities, telling each other not to waste time and to try and find the enemy's location. Everyone's wondering what's going on in the palace. Then the purple lid emerges, surprising everyone outside, and they ask what that thing in the sky is. He thinks the other guy is a massive pain in the ass for not doing what he said. The creature gets seriously pissed and terrifying when it's angry, so he starts unleashing his magic, ordering all the dead to rise again, summoning zombies. And the soldiers, who have no idea what's going on, are shocked to see monsters coming right at them. They look up, see who's summoning them, and order an attack. But they're asking who that guy even is. The lit hangs motionless in the sky until someone calls out for Luke and Maximin arrives. He says he's relieved to see him okay, but is scared about what happened after the castle gates were breached. And Maximin says it's all good, telling him he already evacuated all the soldiers from the area, so there shouldn't be any fatalities around there. He says that's not what's important right now and asks if the castle gates have been fixed yet. The Lich says no. But while they're talking, a bunch of undead are climbing the walls. So, Maxim tells him to do whatever it takes to protect the castle gates, no matter what. Maxim will handle the Lich, so the kids gotta take care of the soldiers. But then Luke calls out to the captain, saying they're gonna help too. But Maxim asks about the monsters outside the castle walls. He says the kid is on another level and can handle them easily. They're not gonna let him fight alone again. Maxim is surprised, but he ends up agreeing, telling them to get into defensive formation and follow him. So, he thinks that they won't be fighting at full strength. His job here is to protect the other soldiers, and that guy will take care of the rest. The kid is really going at it with the purple lich, totally throwing down with him. The two keep trading blows until the kid tries to hit him with everything he's got, but misses because the lich dodges. But even though he missed and is still in the air, he manages to twist around and nail the lich, almost shattering his mana stone. The lich hits the ground and the kid is already on him, but the lich still thinks it's impossible, since he's been getting stronger for almost a century. The way he is now, he could be considered the strongest among the disciples. He's in shock over what's happening, but he keeps staring at the kid, asking himself, why? Why can't he kill this human? The kid actually shatters his mana stone, and the lich falls to his knees, refusing to believe it, thinking he can't die in this place, and that his plan will fail. But the kid thinks that he isn't disappearing, even after having his life stone cut. He figures he must be a special kind of being, but tells him to just chill, because his plan failed. The lich asks if he told him to chill, saying he's the one who should be chilling. He asks if the kid really thought they were the only ones with a plan to summon the king, saying that countless disciples are working day and night to revive the Lich King. And even if there were 10 guys like him, they won't be stopped by anything, because the king will rise again and bring darkness to the world. However, the kid is totally sick of this crap and says, like he already told him, he needs to chill out. He goes after the Lich, saying the Lich King is gonna die by his hands anyway. The Lich asks what he just said, but the kid finishes him off without much explanation and says that what he told the Lich is the truth. The Lich King invaded reality during the outbreak in his past life, and the one who killed him was him. He says it was the same thing at the Gwangju dungeon, with all the Liches running around. And his resurrection might happen sooner than it did in his past life. This is a problem, because it seems like everything is happening faster than last time. So he thinks it's better to worry about what's right in front of him than to think about the future right now, because there's only one Lich left. And what about that captain? He wonders how he's doing. Maxim is trying to hit the timid Lich any way he can, but the thing just keeps flying around and making fun of the captain. Maxim thinks it's tough to fight against these free-form movements, and the Lich is taking advantage of the fact that he's not good at aerial combat. But he thinks it doesn't matter, since he never planned on beating him in the first place. He just needs the Lich to focus on him so it won't get close to the other soldiers. And that guy will be back soon, so if he can just hold on a little longer, everything will be fine. But the timid Lich notices that his friend is dead and can't believe it. He wonders why the other one is dead. Maxim is surprised to hear him say that, because it seems like that kid finally did it. Actually, the Lich is happy that the other one died and starts summoning a huge magic circle, making it so the soldiers can't even breathe. Luke calls out to the captain, and Maxim gets scared by what's happening. He asks what the Lich thinks he's doing, telling him to stop it right now. Because regular soldiers can't take this. He's gonna end up having to use that skill. But then the kid comes flying out of there, heading straight for that Lich, and nailing it with one hell of a punch. As he lands the punch, he slams the Lich into one of those buildings. Maxim is shocked to see him there, and asks if the kid is there to finish it. The kid says yeah, But the situation is really bad, because it would have been dangerous if he'd been even a second later. Maxim thinks it's a relief. The damage wasn't worse. The kid talks about the Great Death Drain, which drains the life force from all living creatures in the area and strengthens the undead. And the fact that he didn't kill anyone must be why, because if more people had died, the spell would have been way stronger. And even though he's just an apostle of the Lich King, he never imagined he'd be this strong. He acts like he's a subordinate to that other one the kid defeated, but he's just as strong as him. Then the Lich says he will never forgive him, no matter what, and keeps saying it over and over again. He summons a large scepter from inside his mouth that surprises both of them. He pulls the scepter into his hand and begins to use his magic through it. And he once again summons a gigantic magic circle in the sky. Maxim says he's made a protective barrier for the spell using the staff. The kid thinks the Great Death Drain is going to activate again like this and that he needs to break his life stone, fast. But when the kid attacks, he hits a barrier and the Lich starts laughing, saying he'll never be able to break it because he cast the spell with his own life force. And if he wants to break the spell, he'll have to kill him. So the kid is knocked back and is left wondering what to do. He might be able to get to the Lich, but if the spell lasts any longer, countless soldiers will die. But Maxim tells him not to worry, because he's already said it before. The kid's job is to finish off the Lich, and as for his job, he's going to do it damn well, slamming his sword into the ground and saying his job is to protect the soldiers. And with that, he raises a kind of barrier that comes from the tip of his sword, rising over the entire castle. And the soldiers, seeing that, are amazed, because the oppressive aura is gone. They're all freaking out, like, what's happening? And he realizes, that's the sacred sanctuary of the shield. He says it's his ultimate, most badass skill as a holy knight. It jacks up the morale of all his allies in range and nerfs the effects of darkness. As awesome as it is, it eats away years of his life. But even if it kills him, he's got to protect the soldiers, no matter what. So he leaves the rest to the kid, and our guy doesn't waste a second. He leaps onto that bubble and gets ready to strike Light from above. He can see everyone's fighting their asses off, each one putting their life on the line. Then Light pops up behind him, ready to strike, but our guy blocks the attack like it's nothing. Light demands to know how pathetic humans like them killed his friend and dared to oppose him, not knowing their place. He calls them weak, powerless, unable to do jack shit on their own, that it takes thousands of them for a single sacrifice and that they're all just bugs. But as he keeps blocking, he calls him out about the other guy being his friend, pointing out that even a monster like him seems to give a damn about his buddies. But then he asks, you know what? As he grabs the staff and completely shatters it, saying that the people he killed and the thousands he planned to kill all had friends and family. Then he summons the Phoenix Flames again, blasting them right at Light and asking if he gets it now what it feels like to lose something important, torching that piece of crap. He tells him to take those feelings and shove them deep down in hell, right along with his dead friend. He finishes Light off for good, slicing right through him and the Mana Stone. And Light can't believe it, how he lost to some pathetic human as he drops his staff. But the staff doesn't even hit the ground. His Phoenix swoops in and completely shatters it. And just like that, all the undead inside the barrier crumble and start to fade away. With that, Maxman manages to stop his skill and wonders if it's really over. But he passes out before he can find out. But then, our guy shows up and catches him, keeping him from falling, telling him he did an awesome job, and Maxman asks, is it really over? He tells him, yeah, it is. So he sits down, relieved, but says before they celebrate, he'd like to just rest for a bit. He asks our guy if he's okay. But then our guy just collapses right there on the ground too, totally wiped, and says he's down to rest for a bit too. They're actually shocked he only wants to rest for a little bit. And a while later, at the Awaken Management Agency, some guy is thinking, this is impossible, because a dungeon is going to pop up in the middle of Anong and cause an outbreak. And that guy is Schoolboy, the director of the Awaken Management Agency. He asks Joro if he really expects him to believe something so ridiculous. And Song says humans can't just predict when a dungeon's going to show up. He's like, are you telling me this dungeon is going to immediately cause an outbreak and throw the whole city of Anang into chaos? He says that even if a dungeon shows up, an outbreak doesn't happen that fast. It takes at least a month, saying that's common knowledge. But Joro argues that last year, dungeon appearances didn't make any sense either, saying he can't just blow something off when they have no clue how it works. The city of Anong has 600,000 citizens, and they're in danger. But Song says if nothing happens, he's the one at risk, because they could end up freaking out 60 million people, not just 600,000. But then someone shows up and tells them to knock it off, saying it'll never end if they keep this up. And that's Doi. Song turns to him, asking if he thinks any of this makes sense. Doi says it's never happened before, but Joro's got a point. But he says the real problem is how reliable the source is. Because if he isn't just being pressured by some agitators, then who's the person who gave him this info? And Joro says the source of this info is a rumor. He says they've probably heard the name before, telling them it's from King Sorium, the guy who's been climbing the ranks in the abyss and causing a huge stir, the mysterious super rookie. and Song asks if he knows this King Sorium. Doi says a few months back, there was some guy named King Sorium who entered the Guanju dungeon, the same one he was in, but it was C rank. Joro confirms that's the guy, asking if that changes Song's mind, but Song says it doesn't, and that there's not enough proof. He asks if Joro really expects him to just trust him now. Joro tries to push it, but Song asks what happens if they evacuate everyone like he asked, and then nothing. He says the fallout will be on his head, as the director. But he tells Joro that dungeons are like natural disasters, and even if a few citizens die because of it, it wouldn't be his fault. And Joro realizes he's just gonna act like nothing's gonna happen, all because he doesn't want to take the heat. He almost cusses Song out, but Song says he's the one who makes the calls, and he's the one who takes all the responsibility, and he's going to pretend like nothing happened today. Meanwhile, our guy totally aces the 20th floor's trial and gets 100,000 points. His stats got a boost too. Strength +1, agility +2, vitality +2, and mana coefficient +2. He's shocked because that was insanely hard. He can't believe there were 3 apostle-level lights. Even if it is a 10th floor, it's still only the 20th, but at least he got some major results. His coefficient went up to 70 and his mana rank hit 7, and that's high even for an S rank, which used to be his goal. But he wonders if it's still not over, because the system is still calculating the reward level. He gets a ton of notifications and doesn't get any of it, wondering what the hell it all is. He realizes he could have gotten help from those people, and that's why the gatekeeper said what he said and why he had a whole month. And he wonders if he's just too used to doing things on his own, because it feels like he kind of lost in a way. And so, when he looks down, he sees all the soldiers helping rebuild with Maxman. He says that maybe he didn't do it all by himself this time. He tells Maxman that the castle problem is handled, but the war against King Uldran isn't over yet. He tells them to prioritize the walls and the gate before fixing up the inside. And everyone agrees. He goes up to him, saying Maximin is pretty busy right now, and the guy looks surprised, since he was looking all over for him and thought he'd already left without getting his wounds treated. But he just says he went for a walk to get some fresh air, and Maximin says he wanted to recognize his achievements in front of everyone. But he says that's exactly why he dipped out of there. It's kind of awkward getting praised or having people put expectations on you. And to that, Maximin says he used to be the same way back in the day, the war hero of the Old Kingdom. And after all his efforts in the last war, that's what everyone started calling him. And of course, he wasn't sad about the nickname, but the pressure just piled on like crazy over time. Eventually, he was crushed by it. He realizes that ever since they started calling him a hero, he's feeling the same pressure he felt in the past. But then Maximin says he taught him something, that his job is to protect the soldiers here, and thanks to that, he feels a lot lighter. And he notices that he really does seem lighter, saying that the answer is always right under your nose. He says it's true, asking if that isn't just how life works. He mentions that His Royal Highness was assassinated, and there's a ton of stuff they need to do in the main country, but the current plan starts right here. And he says that sounds good, telling him he's heading out. Maximin is surprised, saying it's still early, but he says his work here is done and leaves the rest to the commander. Maximin says he told him it was uncomfortable being praised and having expectations put on him. And this might sound rude coming from someone like him, but he'd like to say that the hero who saved the castle, the soldiers, and him too, was you. He smiles, thanking him for it, and tells the kid to take care of himself from now on. He just says, thanks. And with that, he reaches the maximum reward level, and an extra reward is given for the reward level. And on top of that, a new skill of his is unlocked, the hero and immortality. Meanwhile, in the real world, Rui is training, yelling for Joro, telling him to grab his damn phone already because she doesn't want to hear that annoying ringtone anymore. And he wonders, who the hell is calling at this hour? And when he grabs the phone, he's shocked, and the redhead is too, because he just dropped the weights and shot right up. And he says with a grin that he's been waiting for this call. But then when he speaks with him, he's shocked, asking about the hospital, and also, where's the context? Because the dude just dropped a bomb on him out of nowhere. And over at the hospital, they're telling him he shouldn't be walking around, asking what he thinks he can do with his body in this state. But he says he's an awakened, so he recovers fast. He tells them to just give him some meds, slap on some bandages and a paracetamol, and everything will be fine. And after a while, with a lot of insisting, he finally gets out of the hospital. He says, I told you I was fine, muttering that they didn't need to make such a big deal out of it. But then Joro shows up, asking if he's hurt bad, and he's surprised to see that Psycho just appear like that. Then, after they go to a park, Joro asks him again if he's really okay, because his arm was making some serious cracking sounds earlier. And he says that as long as it's moving, it's fine. And Joro says that after hearing he cleared the 20th floor and went to the hospital on the same day, he thought he was seriously messed up. And he said he saw his rank, which was insane again, asking if the kid could give him some tips. But he's surprised that he just asked like that out of the blue. In reality, he doesn't have any tips. He was just really persistent. So Joro starts to wonder if that's why he got hurt, because it seems like he doesn't need to worry about him. but he says there's something more important, asking about the thing he asked him to do. But Joro just cuts right to the chase, telling him that he failed and apologizing because on top of failing, he ended up revealing his identity. He doesn't even look that surprised, saying he already knew and that he wasn't expecting anything from the director. Anyway, and so he asks if the kid is close with him, and he says he was an awakened from the agency in his past life, and that guy was his superior there. And so Joro says that he failed in the negotiations, but he managed to squeeze some info out of King Doi, who was close to him, saying he heard a green dungeon appeared in Yansan and a raid is being planned. And apparently, most of the awakened are gathering in Anang. He realizes it's already starting. He went there in his previous life, too. Because of that, he couldn't prepare properly for the outbreak in Anang. And part of the reason was that idiot, director Song Ti, who was too busy trying to dodge all responsibility. And that idiot Song, who can only ever look out for himself. He's gonna make damn sure he's really times busy soon. And at this, Joro is shocked at how pissed he is, saying the times the dungeons appear are just like he said, and asking how he knew. And he says it was just a gut feeling, but thanks Joro for trying, telling him they'll have to move on to plan B, saying he's going in alone from now on. Joro is shocked, questioning if he's really going alone, and he says yes, telling him he's already gotten enough help from him. But Joro says it wasn't nearly enough, and he doesn't understand what he's getting at. He says they can't wait for the agency's help anymore, so he has to tell him his plan, saying there has to be something else he can do to help. And he's surprised and realizes he was going about it the wrong way again, saying he'll tell him his plan. 2 months later, on December 17th, a week before Christmas Eve dinner, some people are talking about that online post they made. And the post says that on December 24th at 6 o'clock, the city of Anang will be the victim of a terrorist attack, and the party responsible will be the Doom Guild. They are a wicked organization, filled with the world's worst assassins. And if you value your lives, you should run as far away from Anang as you can on that day. And I hope no one loses their life because they thought it was just a meme. And everyone thinks it's a joke, but they're wondering, what the hell is this Doom Guild? And a journalist says there's a new post on the Abyss Online website that's been causing a stir on social media about the terrorism warning. He wonders if it could actually be true. But the reporter says they brought in some dude who claims he's seen the Dump Guild in person. And he straight up asks Joro if the Dump Guild is even real. He says yeah, that he saw him with his own 2 eyes, putting on this total poker face. But inside, he's freaking out. He's thinking, Sion really dumped a messed up job on me. And he says that a while back, they almost got wiped out during a dungeon raid in Gwangju. They're like, is that for real? But the redhead, seeing this, is wondering what the hell he's spouting. And as for Song, he's questioning how he's using Aramasia like this, cause he's already in deep crap because of the dang guild. But Doi says there's nothing they can do, and that not even an agency can control what an awakened being does. And he thinks it's gotta be that Sor Ron guy's fault, asking if he's figured out his identity yet. And Doi says yeah. But he couldn't drag him here right away, cause word is he's been hiding out in the abyss for the past month. So he's left thinking about Sor Ron. Like, he doesn't get why he'd stir up so much trouble, wondering what the hell he's planning. Meanwhile, the MC is just chugging potion after potion until he drinks the last one, and his heart gives this massive jolt and he feels the power surge. And then they ask if this is what he wants, and he just starts screaming. But outside, some guy starts banging on the door, yelling and calling out to him, saying he rented the room for a whole month and hasn't stepped out for a single second, asking what the hell he's doing in there, because if he's gonna croak, he should at least pay up first. But then, he notices the doors open and this insane aura is pouring out from inside. He says at least the MC seems to be alive, and is glad he didn't just bail, but when he looks inside, he's like, what is this monstrous aura? And at that, the MC just apologizes, saying he'll pay double. The old man starts breaking out in a cold sweat, saying it's fine and asking how much longer he plans on staying. And the MC says he's leaving, and as soon as he moves, the old man just sees this insane pressure radiating from him. When he looks, he sees a bag of gold coins. The old man is left wondering where the hell he went. And on December 23rd, it's been a month since he left things to Lior and headed for the tower. He used the points he'd saved up to buy a higher-ranking mana catalyst, and, a while before that, when he was buying it, the vendor was practically dissing the MC, saying he can't believe someone on the 21st floor would need this, talking about how he'd need at least 2 million points to even buy it. And the MC actually dumps 2 million points into his hand, and the guy almost drops them. He says that after holing up in a room and chugging the catalyst, he trained to control the ambient mana around him. Honestly, it tasted and smelled like total crap, but thanks to that, he managed to reach peak condition, and now he's heading out, moving like he's a character from Attack on Titan, thinking that tomorrow's the day, and he's ready. Elsewhere, a man goes to the guildmaster, telling him it's time. He agrees to go, and tells Rockjun it's starting, and he agrees. And so, when they're out on the street, he brings up a terrorist attack by the Dump Guild, and the kid asks, aren't they a criminal guild that just sticks to the underworld? and to think their existence would be revealed to the public. It's insane. And the leader agrees, asking the kid what he thinks about it. And he says they definitely have a shot, probably because a green dungeon showed up in Yan'an, but he doesn't know if they needed to go this far. But the master says that's not it, because he's talking about the bastard who wrote that post, and Rockjun thinks what he's saying is weird. And the master says he was wondering who the hell exposed a guild that only a small group of awakened even knew existed. So he ended up doing some digging, and the name of the guy who wrote the post is Kim Soyul. That name sounds real familiar to the kid. And he says his plan is to investigate more into why that scumbag is so obsessed with the dump guild. And just as the car pulls up, Rukjun just stares at the master in the car, thinking it's weird, wondering why someone like him, who doesn't give a damn about anything but himself, would be so bothered by what's going on, questioning what the hell the dump guild has to do with anything. And when he gets in the car, he starts thinking that the Aris Jongdong Yang guild and the dump guild have to be connected somehow. But he thinks there's something off about Khan, and remembers when the kid took his test and how he was talking outside, and he gets lost in thought, but he doubts that some C-rank nobody could really be the rumored Kim Soyul. But still, he remembers the MC handing him that number, saying that if he ever needed help, he could give him a call. And so he thinks something is seriously wrong with all of this. And in Ansan City, there's this pissed-off blonde dude, complaining that it's the middle of Christmas and there's no one around, seeing that there aren't any rich old ladies to rip off. And the bald guy in the back says they probably all bailed because of that post, but asks if maybe they should have booked it too. And the blonde just curses the guy out, asking if he really believes those rich little pricks, because those dudes went totally nuts in that post. While he's ranting about how it's all lies, the MC pops up behind him wearing a seriously ugly mask, saying it's not a lie, and the four of them are stunned, asking who the hell this guy is, saying he's some kind of freak. The blonde asks what's with the mask, wondering if it's cosplay and laughing at the MC, saying he's stoked because now he's gonna mess this sucker up. He says the MC looks like he just busted out of a nut house, but the MC yanks him, grabs him by the collar, and lifts him up with just one hand, asking what the hell he was just saying that unfortunately, that's not what happened, and that he's just your average terrorist, putting his sword to the blonde's throat. And right then, a bomb goes off right behind him, shocking everyone there. At that, they all start running for their lives, yelling that there really is a terrorist there, and news reports start flooding in, saying there's been an explosion in the Pyeongchon district of Anyang City. And it's assumed this is the attack mentioned in that heavily debated Abyss Online post, and citizens are currently scrambling to evacuate. And at that, a man goes up to Director Song, and he is absolutely furious, because he thought Jorah was just screwing with him when he told them to evacuate everyone. But something still went down, and Dio says that according to the witnesses, it looks like the whole attack was started by just one guy. And he starts connecting the dots, since the one who started the rumor was Kim Sari. So he tells Kendo he's leaving it all to him, and Kendo just agrees. So Song orders them to round up as many Awakeneds as possible to capture this Kim Sari dude, calling him a terrorist, which, in a way, he kinda is. And our guy is on top of a building in the middle of this whole sea of flames, wondering if he's finally got their attention. After looking over what he did, he's pretty satisfied, thinking this looks a lot like a terrorist attack. It looks like the buildings and cars are burning, but it's all a lie. He says he's improved his sacred flame and figured out how to make things look like they're really burning without actually setting them on fire. Thanks to that, he pulled off this whole scene with 0 casualties. He's sure most people have evacuated by now, but it's not over. He's heading straight for downtown Anang, and it should be about time for Times to show up. And he actually does show up. Our guy notes the creepy timing and realizes it's the Awakeneds, here to stop him. And Dio yells that they're here on behalf of the Awakened Management Agency, telling him to stop his terrorist crap right now. And Kendo introduces himself, saying he's the state-contracted Awakened and Associate Director of the Awakened Management Agency. He tells Kim Sari to come with him quietly, and everyone is shocked that he's Times. Kim Sari, that so-called super rookie. Kendo says he knows he's working with Lee and caused that whole incident, telling him that if he cooperates, everything will be fine. But our guy just says he talks too much, telling him to cut the crap and for all of them to just come at him at once, because he doesn't want to waste time. Everyone there gets pissed, asking who gives a crap if he's a super rookie and telling him not to get so cocky, and they all charge, attacking him head on. The blonde guy says he finally gets to meet Kim Sari and asks if he's been part of the Damp Guild this whole time. Our guy clocks him as a high B rank and starts trading blows with him. Meanwhile, another one preps a long-range attack from the side, yelling at the blonde guy not to just charge in blindly, but to try and create an opening. He fires the beam right at our guy, who dodges at the last second. He also recognizes that one as a low B rank. Then some other dude asks if they're really just ganging up on him because he said so, questioning if they have any pride. But then he asks why Kendo isn't doing anything, since he's the strongest one there. And Kendo says no matter how he looks at it, something's weird. So the guy asks, the hell does that mean? Meanwhile, the ninja girl charges him, attacking like crazy, but our guy just stops her arm. And right as he stops her, an attack comes from above with a massive warhammer, aiming right for his arm joint. He almost loses the damn thing. So our guy jumps back, thinking that most of the people here are around B rank, and that's not going to be enough. Then Kendo uses page and wings, and a literal page with wings appears above our guy. He points out there are 0 civilian casualties, and though the buildings look like they're burning, not a single one has collapsed, so there's no real damage. So he says he wants to ask him, something, asking why he's acting like a terrorist while also evacuating people. He asks if he's trying to get everyone away from the outbreak. Our guy is surprised he's a mage, wondering why he doesn't just finish him off instead of asking questions. And Kendo says if that's how it's going to be, he has no choice. He swaps places with our guy, throwing him off the building and jumping down with him. Then he uses marker page, invoking the 5th knowledge, lightning. And those bolts come flying at our guy, who puts his sword up to block, causing a huge explosion. Kendo then lands down below with him, only to see that he's completely unharmed. He notes that he was attacked by all those awakeneds with no way to dodge in midair, but still, he doesn't have a single scratch. He wonders if even he is no match for this kid. And our guy says, "You must be around a high A rank." And so he asks Kendo, "I think I've shown you enough proof that none of you are good enough." Kendo gets it immediately, but the other 2 show up, yelling that they're going to finish him. But as they charge him, one of them asks if Kendo's okay. He says he is, but asks the guy if he can buy him some time, and the dude has no idea how he's supposed to do that. Kendo says he'll have to call the agency for reinforcements. He's going to tell them to call every available awakened and send them over. And when the little blonde dude charges at our guy, he just easily flips over him and kicks him in the back of the head. Seeing how he's being toyed with, the guy demands to know if he's even going to fight him seriously. The other one realizes this guy is way stronger than they expected, saying he heard it hasn't even been 2 years since he cleared the first floor, and the others confirm that's what the rumors said. And that guy, even though he's a magic swordsman, only ever uses his sword to fight. So they keep going at our guy and just get totally wrecked. And Kendo thinks to himself that he's sure he hasn't even shown his true power yet. And even though he's so strong, he wonders why he laid low for so long only to show up out of nowhere. But he thinks one thing is for sure. He remembers our guy saying he's shown them enough proof that none of them are good enough. He thinks that Kim Sari has the power of an S rank, or maybe even something higher. So Kendo tells them not to attack recklessly, ordering them to just wait for reinforcements and focus on defending against his attacks. Our guy thinks that, as expected, he catches on fast. He's making the others conserve their energy and strength for the real fight. It'll work. And he thinks that he has 2 reasons for hiding his identity and putting on this whole show. First, to gauge the full strength of the awakeneds they have, and he had to find out just how prepared their combat-ready awakeneds are. And second, to draw in more awakeneds as reinforcements. If he revealed he wasn't a real terrorist, Director Song wouldn't send reinforcements. At the end of the day, he doesn't give a damn whether there's an outbreak or not. But if he starts causing a scene just to get on the national news, that's a whole different story, and he just has to stall until backup arrives. There are 2 hours until the outbreak, and Du is wondering if he's even going to attack. Just then, other people start showing up, saying they're the reinforcements. And just like that, they hear those voices, and the MC looks up too. Everyone is stoked that they're here. Du can already tell the director must be pissed. And they're told that's the state's Awakened group, handpicked by the Awakened Management Agency, the agency's special forces, also known as ACT. And the MC thinks to himself that it's been a while. And so the blondie is shocked that the guy over there is the S-rank Park Young. And what freaks them out the most is that the S-rank actually came to fight. The blondie immediately shoots his shot and asks Yonggu to let him into ACT. But one of them says he should get first dibs. Meanwhile, the MC remembers Jonggo talking about how he was one of the strongest S-ranks back when he was King Songin, and that things between them were complicated. So he asks what the situation is, and the guy behind him says that, as they can see, they're seriously outnumbered. According to the reports, that smiling dude is registered as a C rank, but his actual skills are S rank, or maybe even higher than that. And Du says he might even be stronger than Yonggu, but some guy up there asks what the hell he's talking about. He asks if he's just getting cold feet because he hasn't been in the field for a while, and that's ACT's second in command, Kang. And the kid says, no matter how you slice it, he's just some punk. But then Yonggu himself tells him not to underestimate the guy, and the kid shuts his mouth real quick. Then he tells director Du that he doesn't know how strong the guy is, but he plans on sitting this one out for now. And Du is like, what? He says he'll jump in after them, sending in all those Pokemon to take on the MC. So Kang says all he needs to do is grab that guy, asking his master if that's really it. And Du says that even if he is Jonggo's student, he's still just an A rank, so he apologizes, but doesn't think he'll be much of a match for him. But Yonggu says it's cool, telling him that ACT members are a different breed from the other Awakened. So he steps up to face the MC himself, while Suryun thinks that he hasn't changed a bit and is still the same guy from back when he was training there. Then he says, now let's see if your teaching skills are still up to par. They really do go after the MC, all at the same time. And he tells his master he wants to see this with his own two eyes. Kang lands right in front of the MC, who just braces himself. As they charge, they start to split up, each one running past the MC and getting into position. And when the kid looks back, the blondie is also shocked and is like, "What is this?" As they all run around Suryun, none of them get what's going on, because it looks pretty lame for a skill. And Do says they might think they're just running in circles right now, but each one of them is prepping a skill to hit the MC with. And as soon as he sees those skills forming, he starts looking everywhere and dodging them. The blondie notes that it's an insane barrage, and Do says that the different attack patterns are all focused on a single target at an incredible rhythm. And it's not just powerful, he's also going to have a tough time defending against all of it. It's a systematic attack that combines support, restraints, and heavy-hitting blows. It's a killer coordinated attack, used to take down strong individuals and bosses. Yongu says it's the perfect coordinated attack, and it's Axe's signature move. Then Kang yells at Suryun, telling him to stop running like a coward and show them what he's got. And so, when the kid attacks, the MC just takes one step to the side, dodging the attack. Everyone is shocked, and Kang says he didn't just dodge. The moment he touches the ground again, he'll naturally lose his balance. That's how the MC goes down. And with that, another chain appears in the kid's hand as part of the coordinated attack, trapping him in a tangled spider web. He gets caught by all those chains and hoisted into the air. And the blondie is shocked they actually got him, and Kang prepares to go all out. His attack kicks up a massive cloud of smoke everywhere, and everyone gets hit by the shockwave. The blondie wonders if they did it, and Shikamaru reminds Kang that he told him to take it easy, and he says the guy broke his chain. But the MC walks out of there totally calm, and Yongu is even more stunned. No one can believe their eyes. Because it's Kang who's all tangled up in his own sword, and he's wondering how the hell the MC pulled that off. And so, they realize the pincer maneuver didn't work, asking if they messed up. And Kang says the guy knew their plan from the very beginning, and none of them get it. And Kang says that when he struck with his sword, while that bastard was tied up, he just used the blade to cut the chains and twisted his body along with it. And on top of that, he used the chains to trap him, but he's not even going to talk about that part, since it'll make him look bad. And Do says that even with his insane reflexes, how did he pull all that off in such a short time? And Yongu watches on, worried, and the MC says that of course he knew what they were going to do. Because ACT was the unit he was part of in his past life. He was drilled in their tactics to the point he got sick of them. At this, Yongu says he thinks he was wrong, because it looks like he should have been the one to handle the kid from the start, asking if his name is Kim Suryun. He says, "So it is. Youth is treating you well. If they'd met under different circumstances, he'd be tempted to recruit him to work with him, obviously to make sure his power isn't used for the wrong shit." But Do cuts in, saying the Awakened are starting to show up, telling him to be careful not to piss off an S rank. He just says he'll try. And so, as everyone starts to gather, the MC sees his plan is working perfectly. Then he says that for a long time, he's wanted to fight Yongu one-on-one, but he drops his sword, thinking that now's not the time for that, and he surrenders. Yongu and everyone else there are completely clueless. And just like that, the MC has completed his plan. So they're all left wondering what the hell he just said, asking if he really just surrendered. But they only showed up cause of him, asking what the hell he's planning. Gui asks what he's even talking about, and the MC says he meant exactly what he said. They don't need to waste their strength on some pointless fight, because the real battle starts now. And then, a dungeon break actually happens for real. An earthquake rocks everyone, and when they look up, Doi realizes a dungeon just opened, and it's a green one. And Kang says it's not over yet, because there's an outbreak right there. And an outbreak just starting out of the blue like this. It's insane. And the MC says that, as they can see, the way dungeons appear and the speed of outbreaks are going to get more complicated and way harder to predict. Then he retracts all those flames, and Doi realizes that the fire that had spread everywhere is being absorbed, and, just as he suspected, it was all his power. He says he's sure this whole situation is confusing. They might be pissed at him for not revealing the truth from the start, but he asks all the Awakened there to help him, changing his flames back to their true red color and showing his real face to everyone there. He tells them to fight with him, that they have to protect Anand City, and Rocky Jun is more than surprised, because he knew this guy really was King's Ron. And the MC, staring at that outbreak, sees this sudden disaster in Anand City is the catalyst for the phenomenon that's going to threaten the entire world. And right now, it's known that an outbreak is a phenomenon that happens if a dungeon isn't cleared in time, but this time was a special case where the outbreak happened as soon as the dungeon was created, and stuff like this is going to happen more frequently from now on. So he asks Doi how many reinforcements they have, and he says there are at least 100. And he thanks Doi for his work, noting that he figured out his intentions, but Doi denies it, saying it was because of the chaos he caused with the fake terrorist attack that he was able to summon reinforcements faster. And so they're left wondering what the hell those two are talking about, because it's like they knew the outbreak was going to happen, but one of them screams desperately, telling everyone to look up. The first monster is emerging from inside, and they realize the chaos is beginning. Doi notes that it's an outbreak from a green dungeon but with way more insane monsters, and they start to fall from the portal onto the city, ready to destroy everything. And one of the adventurers is right in front of them. They realize some people were killed with just the first stomp. Then another guy yells at the one nearby, asking why he's backing away, cause he's gonna get himself killed. But that guy is too frozen to even move, just waiting for the hit with his eyes closed, but the punch never comes. He sees that Yonggil saved his life, and Yonggil says he can't believe it, since every monster is at least the level of a boss from an orange or red dungeon. And so he tells that guy to get it together if he doesn't want to die, and he scrambles out of there. Meanwhile, he sends a message to Act, telling them to get into support formation and help the other awakened with their preparations. But Kang tells his master it'd be way easier if they just handled it themselves. But then he sees the MC's flames right behind him. When he looks back, the MC says all the awakened are confused because of this unknown situation. And just like him, who wasn't watching his back, in a situation like this, calming the others down is the top priority, asking if that's not a job only ACT can handle. He tells him to do his best in his own position, and Kang wonders what the hell that kid is doing. And the MC simply heads for the center of all those monsters, and Kang wonders who he thinks he is, since he pissed him off by saying the same things as his master. So the MC just goes for all those monsters and uses the sacred flame, killing tons of them in one go. And he thinks about Yonggil, saying he should be able to handle the green dungeon monsters without much trouble, and since ACT is here, evacuating the civilians should go off without a hitch. Thanks to that, he won't have to worry about every single little monster. So he wonders why that thing isn't showing up, and then the biggest monster of all comes out a huge, freaking purple dragon. And the MC says that's Egolas, the black dragon. And when Doi sees it, he wonders, what the hell is that? And he also asks the others for the status on the civilian evacuation. They say it's about halfway done, and Doi says there haven't been any casualties yet, thanks to the initial evacuation efforts. But if they don't deal with these monsters fast, the damage is just going to keep piling up. And it won't just be a non-city, the entire country will be in danger. As all those things keep coming, the hunters fight hard to stop the monsters from landing, because they can't let a single one of them get out of a non-city. They're all also helping with the evacuation, telling people to stay calm and follow the Awakened's orders. Even Doi keeps blasting those things, using his magic at full power. And he looks up at the MC, seeing him up there and thinking that all hope is lost, and now it's all on him. But he wonders if he can really take on all those monsters and the dragon. And just as he's thinking that, a huge-ass ogre shows up behind him. But before he can do anything, someone appears. It's Yu himself who saves him, telling him he's losing focus as he kills the thing without breaking a sweat, saving his life. He can't even believe he got there so fast. He says he'll make it quick, since they don't have much time. Monster extermination and civilian evacuation, ACT and I will handle all of that. You'll continue to support the other awakened. And finally, with the MC appearing behind them, he asks if he can leave the dragon to the kid, and Sorium says of course. So he tells him he's leaving it in his hands, and they just have an understanding. The MC then calls his phoenix, catching a ride on it to the dragon. He runs across the buildings and manages to slash the monster to get things started, landing the first hit. And when he looks back, he jumps at the dragon again. But the dragon does something different, whipping around to look back and attack him, too. The MC doesn't back down, though, and attacks the dragon one more time, but it doesn't do much damage. He starts shaking all over, but he forces his sword forward, and this time manages to make another cut on the dragon's tough hide. So he calls the phoenix to use its sacred flame, and it swoops down to get him to the ground. But when he lands, the dragon lunges for him, and the phoenix just vanishes. He thinks, damn, this dragon is crazy tough. Just like I expected, this isn't going to be easy. So he charges the dragon. While it's prepping to blast our boy with Amaterasu, he zips out of the way and pops up on the dragon's back with the phoenix again, blinding it and setting the creature's eyes on fire. But since the protag is just hanging onto the phoenix's legs, he's a sitting duck up in the air. And the dragon smacks him down, but he still manages to block with his flame so he doesn't get hurt. He thinks, even though this is the second time, this thing's still crazy tough, but I can win. In his past life, the outbreak in Anang City was a total disaster, with over 150,000 deaths, and half of them were cause of this damn dragon. And the unexpected dungeon outbreak caught all the awakened ones completely off guard. When he was sent into battle right after the dungeon break, he wasn't strong enough to stop it. But now, he's face to face with the dragon as it blasts Amaterasu flames everywhere. He says the flame is super powerful, but he's confident he can cut through anything he wants. He actually slices right through the flame with his sword, passing through the middle of it, saying there's a small opening right after it uses its breath. Then he double jumps in the air to get higher than the dragon. Looking down at it, he sees the dragon's neck tense up and thinks, now's my chance to attack. He pulls the near dragon slaying spear from his inventory, a weapon based on the legendary Gungnir spear. You can only get it from the Abyss shop, it's super expensive, and it's a one-time use, but it's more than powerful enough. He then shoves his mana into it, saying it's powerful enough that he won't let a single person die because of this thing. Then he hurls the spear with all his might, and it multiplies in size over and over, ready to nail the dragon in the back. While the dragon's just cruising, the protag's attack comes as a total surprise. By the time it looks up, it's too late, and the dragon gets completely impaled, its blood flying everywhere. After getting skewered like that, it crashes to the ground, dead as a doornail. The protag killed it in a single hit. He wonders, did that actually work? But he gets his answer real quick, because the amount of blood pouring out of the dragon makes it pretty clear it did. He says that as soon as the half-dragon Aigulus takes a fatal hit, the other half of its soul appears. A humanoid figure comes out of it saying, "That hurts," admitting the protag stopped it and asking who he is. And the protag is like, "Before you ask me that, why don't you try asking yourself who times you times are?" And just like that, it starts having an identity crisis, asking itself, "Who am I?" It then starts crying, thinking about how much it hurts, and its sobs make the dragon get up again. The dragon flies toward the protag, while the humanoid keeps whining about how much it hurts, crying tears of blood that turn into needles and shoot toward him. And that thing screams again, "IT hurts!" And the protag gets blasted by all those needles. Everyone down below is just watching it all go down. But even so, the protag just smirks and faces the needles head on. Then the dragon swings one of its hands and slaps the hell out of the kid, sending him flying. And the protag gets slammed into a building. Meanwhile, Joro finally shows up, apologizing for being late and asking where Sorion is. He can't believe his eyes when he looks over and sees the protag is about to be eaten by the dragon. Sorion is in disbelief, because the dragon actually swallowed and devoured him. Seeing all that blood coming from the kid's hand makes Sorion freak out, screaming for him. But then it's announced that the protag's health has reached a critical level, and the hero's immortality skill is activated. The dragon realizes something's wrong, and the protag thanks it, calling it a disgraced half-dragon bastard. His health completely recovers, his recovery speed also increases, and his physical abilities get a massive boost. After nearly dying, the protag gets an insane buff, prying open the dragon's mouth with just his bare hands. He says, "Thanks to you, it looks like I got stronger." Meanwhile, that other thing is still wondering where it is and who that guy is that's ripping the dragon's mouth open right in front of it. It's also surprised that the black dragon is there, so the dragon struggles, trying to bite down on the protag. And the thing thinks, "This is weird. He's supposed to be my enemy, but he reminds me of someone." Why? Because he became one with Aigulus. So the protag takes advantage of being in the air to attack the dragon's head again. He says he feels better than ever, light as a feather, noting that this is the effect of hero's immortality. After that broken skill activates, he uses a building as a springboard and jumps back onto the dragon. He's landing hit after hit, running along the dragon's body and realizing it's so tough he can't just aim anywhere. He thinks, there's gotta be an opening somewhere around here. Where is it? Until he spots its tail and rips it off in a single slice, making the dragon start to scream. But the protag asks, "Isn't it about time you got a grip, Falcon?" Hearing that from inside, the thing inside the dragon remembers people calling him Master Falcon. They were saying they always believed in him, asking if he would save them, and begging him to stop the black dragon. Aigulus, you're the only one we can trust. And so he thinks that it feels like an eternity has passed, wondering if this is the end and how much longer he has to keep going. But he thinks he only has one choice, and that if he can control that thing, everything will be easier. But from under the rubble, someone is still calling for Master Falcon, who is on the dragon's back, merging with it. And the person who was calling for Master Falcon watches this, saying, "You can't do that." But back in the present, the protag is still attacking the dragon, this time slicing off one of its paws. And he says, "You think the people you protected and the ones you failed to save would want to see you in this pathetic state?" And with that, he finally thinks about the people he protected and the ones he couldn't save. The dragon spits up blood but turns to attack the protag again. This time, the protag uses the sacred flame to wound the dragon. Meanwhile, Falcon thinks he was fighting Aigulus, as the dragon continues to attack the protag. And as Falcon starts to get his head straight, he remembers he still couldn't beat Aigulus. So this time, the dragon summons a ton of blood spikes right on top of him. And our hero is shocked that the spikes are aimed right at the dragon, and it even stabs itself with them. Then Falcon, on top of Aigulus, shoves his hand into its chest and starts ripping it open, screaming for our hero to get in there and please just end this. So our hero grabs the spear. He gets ready to hurl the dragon-slaying spear into its chest again, but Aigulus just takes off, trying to bail. Our guy sees it flying into the sky, but Miri still fires an arrow, yelling that he's not getting away. While Aigulus tries to escape, the arrow chases it down, piercing through the dragon's body and hitting Falcon right in the back. And just like that, the dragon starts to fall. Everyone watches until a massive boom echoes as that monstrous body crashes right into the middle of the city. After the dragon is finally taken down and crashes in the city, Falcon is still alive on its back, even though he's taking his last breaths. Our hero flies over on the Phoenix to get to him, asking Falcon if his memories are back. And he says yeah, that the past he'd forgotten has finally come back to haunt him. He says that because of the never-ending battle between him and Igelus, they just fused together. And even after he escaped the dimension, he fought to kill the damn thing fused to his body. But every single time, everything went wrong, and he thinks about the innocent people he killed, crying over it. But our hero tells him it's been way too long for him to be whining about this crap. He tells Falcon to try thinking about the things he managed to protect, not the things he lost, asking if he forgot that he saved the whole nation. He says that way more people could have died, but then Falcon asks if he's trying to comfort him, telling him he really sucks at it. Our guy just agrees, saying he's terrible at this kind of thing. And Falcon says he's right, admitting it would be a lie to say he has no regrets. But even if he went back in time, he'd make the same choices. And our hero is shocked to hear him talk about going back and making the same choices, remembering everything he went through and all the crap he faced. Then Falcon says that he managed to end a huge battle thanks to him. He says he's going to give him the thing in his hand, explaining it's the best armor ever forged in the Tesseran Empire, and it was made for him when he went to fight Aeolus. Our hero thanks him because he just got Falcon's sacred pauldron, and then Falcon says he wants to thank him one more time because it was a really long battle, and as he fades away, he thinks that he can finally rest now, and our hero wishes him to rest in peace. The hero of Tesseran. As he vanishes in front of everyone, both Doi and Jorhu run over to the kid. Jorhu starts asking if he's hurt, and our hero says no, that he's good. Then he says the enemy was stronger than he imagined, so he almost died. But Jorhu says that it was an insanely strong monster, asking if he even realizes he could have died, and says he's just glad that he's okay, because thanks to him, nobody got hurt. He says the director might not approve, but he apologizes and thanks him on behalf of the institution. Seeing this, our hero says there's no need, telling him he's just glad nobody got hurt. Seeing everyone's okay helps his anxiety fade a little. And with that, he starts to pass out again, dropping right there. Jorhu says he really is hurt, but then he realizes he just stopped to take a nap. And Doi says he must just be exhausted from all the fighting, adding that he's relieved he doesn't have any serious injuries. He says that as soon as they deal with this situation, a gigantic storm is going to start with this man at the center of it all. But he thinks that for the protagonist of this storm, he's sleeping pretty peacefully. A while later, the news spreads everywhere that there was an incident where an outbreak occurred in Yanyangang. Civilians were evacuated, and experts are saying the case in Hanang might have been a disaster. This becomes worldwide news. After a while, our hero finally wakes up in a hospital bed, totally confused, wondering when the hell he passed out. He figures he pushed himself too hard and sees it's already the 27th, which means he's been asleep for 3 days. And when he looks to the side, he sees a note there. The note says that someone came to visit him, but he was asleep. So the person just left the note, saying they believe they need a statement from him because the whole world is talking about this incident. Our hero is surprised it's from Jorhu. In the message, he says he acted as his representative, dealing with the annoying calls and messages. He did it all without asking, but he believes our hero will understand. And our hero says he was wondering why his phone hadn't blown up with notifications, realizing Jorhu was doing all the work. And Jorhu says that he saved a lot of people and must be really tired now, so he shouldn't think too much about anything and just rest, saying he'll probably wake up hungry. So he left some fruit in the room, and our hero starts to recognize it's good to still have him around. He says he managed to stop the dangle of Guanju and the outbreak of Jan, and that all his hard work was for something and is definitely different from his past life. But he has a lot more to do from now on, so he can't let his guard down. He has to think about what he's going to do next. But while he's thinking, someone knocks on the door and he asks who it is. And the person who walks in surprises him because it's Hakun, and he looks like hell since he's pretty banged up. Inside, our hero is surprised that he doesn't look so good, asking why the guy is there. He asks what happened to his face, and then says he has something to ask him, wondering what he thinks about joining his guild. But he says this while he's completely shaking, and our hero can't even believe what the guy is saying. And a while before, at the Ares Guild, the master is talking to everyone. Since they're all there, he's going to share some news. The advancement test from a medium to a large guild is a huge deal for their guild's future. Although they'll get a ton of benefits once the guild goes big time, the most important thing is that the amount of support funding they receive will increase. He asks what they think. He says he expects everyone to get ready for the advancement test, and if anyone screws up, he'll kill them himself. Everyone agrees and he dismisses them, but he also calls out for Rockjun. The kid is shocked that the master is calling for him. Then he glares at him, pissed as hell, asking if he doesn't think they need to have a little talk. So 2 goons stand guard at the door while the kid gets the crap beaten out of him inside. He says he's told him a million times that he doesn't give a damn if he's bad, shady, or even violent. He couldn't care less, but he can't trust someone who'd betray him. Then he grabs the kid, demanding to know why he lied to him. The kid says he didn't lie, insisting he really didn't know. He doesn't buy that for a second, though, since he met him in the abyss and they even did a rank test together. He asks if he's really trying to tell him he was unable to identify Kim Woojin. And he goes back to beating the kid, saying he's already given him several chances, and this is his last one, ordering him to bring Kim Sori. They'll have a better shot at passing the test if they have him. But the kid asks how he's supposed to bring him, since he's only seen him a few times, never tried to talk to him, and can't just force him to come, saying he knows how crazy strong the guy actually is. The master, however, couldn't care less, asking why his times Rockjun is acting like this. He tells the kid he doesn't give a crap about the how, because if he told him to bring him, he's gonna bring him. If he can't, he wonders if maybe Yunsun needs to be taught a lesson too. The kid is terrified of him, but filled with rage, thinking that this will be the last time. Before the advancement test, he has to bring Kim Woojin. And back home, his sister Yunsun is cleaning his wounds, asking if it hurts a lot, but he says no, telling her he's good and it's just bugging him. But she's still really worried about him, asking if Zhang Dong was the one who did this. The kid freezes on the spot, because she hit the nail on the head. He says no, claiming it was from some stronger monsters, but she questions what kind of monster would just focus on his face like that, telling Rockjun that if he's really okay, he can cut it out. But she starts coughing right as she says it. He asks Yunsun if she's okay, asking where her medicine is and telling her to take it right away. And as she takes her medicine, he gets even more worried about her, even with his own face all busted up. And he remembers what Zhang Dong told him while he was on the floor, that his precious sister's illness is going to be painful, and that people say it can't even be cured by modern medicine. But he asks if the kid isn't lucky to have him around, since he can provide painkillers that actually work, handing a potion to the boy, telling him he'll make sure he holds up his end of the deal. He'd also prefer if there were no misunderstandings. And the kid, despite his hatred, has no choice but to do what he's told because of it. And he tells Yeonsun that she's not okay at all. And when she's not okay, he's not okay either. He hugs her, saying that's why he'll never give up until she's better, and that for her, he would do absolutely anything. And so now, here he is with the protagonist, telling him that's the reason why, and that he should think carefully about it, because it's not a bad deal. He's sure to get blown up with calls from guilds and the association, but if he joins their guild, they'll make sure nothing bothers him. But then the protagonist tells Rockjun to stop, saying that he has to know how weird this whole situation is, because before he continues trying to talk him into joining his guild, he thinks it's only fair for him to explain what's really going on. He says something's off here, asking, "Isn't there?" Because he remembers telling the kid that if he ever needed help, he could call him. So Rockjun asks if that's all he needs to know what's going on. Then he draws his sword and points it at the protagonist, telling him to fight him. If he wins, he'll tell him everything that's happening. But if he loses, he has to join the Aesir Guild. The protagonist then thinks of Choi Hak-jun, the nation's youngest A-rank awakened and a member of the world-class Aesir Guild, the famous Choi Hak, who was called a genius. And on the night before his test to become an S-rank, he slaughtered his entire guild. The protagonist had heard about it a few times back when he was Kim Woojin. When he'd gone to talk to the kid, he'd asked the protagonist if he wanted him to save the world. He told him not to be an idiot, asking why he should have to waste his life for other people. He thinks to himself that he was a completely different person, and that the Choi Hak-jun of today, unlike back then, is a good person. When they met in front of the agency, it looked like he wanted to say something, and he did his best to ignore him when they came face to face with Zhang Dong and even Yun Ah. He saw him fight to save other people. So that, Choi Hak-jun, why did he turn out like that? Then Choi really lunges at the kid, trying to hit him even though he's stuck in bed. Then Rockjun says that since he didn't answer, he's going to take that as a yes. And the protagonist realizes he's forcing him to fight while he's injured. And he's not the type of person who would do that, because that other version of him seemed way more natural. And the protagonist tells himself that he'll figure out the reason he's doing all this on his own. Then, the nurses start to feel a tremor coming from one of the rooms and are startled, wondering if it's an earthquake. And another one says there's a problem, because there are awakened fighting on the floors above. Rockjun tries to hit the protagonist with everything he has, but he just dodges until he throws the first punch back, landing a blow on the kid's arm. Then, on top of hitting his arm, he manages to step on him to pull himself up. He thinks to himself that if this drags on, the hospital is going to pay the price, so he needs to end this as fast as possible. And he keeps wondering, where's my sword? And when he glances to the side, he spots it. But Choi quickly lunges at the protagonist, not giving him a second to react. So the protagonist grabs the bedsheet and throws it in the kid's face, blocking his vision. Rockjun can't see a thing while the protagonist makes a run for his sword. But Rockjun apologizes, saying this fight is going to be a bit of a cheap shot, because he's not going to let him grab his weapon, knowing full well he's way weaker than him. So he unleashes a slash at our guy, who's scrambling for his sword, tearing up a huge chunk of the building and launching him outside. And even though he managed to dodge the attack, the pressure is insane. He realizes Hak-jun is for real, but since there's a kitchen knife right there, he grabs it. He's got to use something. But still, he senses there are civilians down there, so he decides to lure him up to the roof to settle this. So he uses the sacred flame to try and deal with it all. While he's escaping with the phoenix, Jum just watches from the roof. Our guy thinks that even fighting bare-handed, he shouldn't lose, but that's only if he were at 100%. He still hasn't fully recovered from the fight in Yan. And just then, the kid appears out of nowhere, launching himself up there, ready to take on our MC. He asks Soryan if he really thinks a kitchen knife is going to help him. He's like, obviously. With that, they start trading blows. He says that since it's not a proper weapon for an awakened, he won't be able to do much with it. And of course, it lacks magic resonance too. But even so, he'll at least be able to defend himself, since he's confident in his magic control. And just like that, he starts imbuing his knife with mana and manages to land a cut on Hakjun, who definitely feels the sting of that slice. But he's still dead set on beating our guy, using his sword slash, raising it high, and blasting the full moon explosion right at him. They're so close, point blank, that there's not much to be done, and the attack ends up nuking almost the entire rooftop. Down below, the cops start swarming the place, along with a bunch of other nosy civilians, so they cordon off the perimeter, because something is definitely going down on the hospital roof. Then Hakjun, who launched that attack, has this twisted smile on his face, because he sees our guy wasn't hit. He managed to completely stop the attack with that dinky little kitchen knife, and Hakjun says he already knew that he can't beat him. All around our MC is a huge crater with everything destroyed by the kid's attack. So our guy cuts right to the chase, telling him to spill what's going on. Then he talks about Yoon Sun and how she was the one person Hakjun wanted to be happy in this world. He and Yoon Sun grew up together. She was his closest childhood friend and also his girlfriend. After Yoon Sun graduated from high school, she inherited her family's flower shop and helped him out a ton when he was still unemployed, always there for him no matter what. She always encouraged him, which is why he was so stoked when he became an awakened. But then, something happened. The moment he got there, the flower shop was closed, and he ran towards a sound he heard. When he went inside, she was collapsed on the floor, coughing up blood. He asked what was going on and who did this to her, but she could only manage to cough out his name through the blood. And at that very moment, who walks in but Young himself, saying he wanted to buy some flowers for his beloved and that it looks like the shop is having some problems. At that moment, his eyes landed on Hakjun, and the kid was surprised to see another awakened there. So, he says that looking at her, it seems she was hit by a powerful poison. And it just so happens that he specializes in this stuff, and it seems like today is their lucky day. He even asks if he should help them. That's why he needed the cure for his girlfriend and was being used by Young Dong Young this whole time. The kid says he's the only person who can make the antidote. So he grabs his sword, talking to Soryan and asking if he remembers what he said before when they met in front of the certification building. He said he'd help him, saying he really wanted to believe that, and this time, he's working up the courage to ask Soryan for help, to help him escape from Young's grasp. He begs our guy to help both him and Yoon Sun, but even if he helps him, he'll never be able to believe in himself again. Just like how he was played by Young this whole time. And if he can't grow up and has to keep depending on others, the same crap will just keep happening in the future, and he has no other choice. He says he's going to end it all, giving Soryan a sincere thank you while forcing a pained smile. Elsewhere, Joro is reading a news story and asks the man in front of him if he's being serious. The man says his livelihood depends on the intel he sells. He asks why he would lie, saying it's confidential. He's only telling him this now, warning him to be careful and that whatever he does, he'd better not get him involved. And Joro even agrees, but the moment he leaves, he calls Soryan directly, asking if he's awake. He asks how he's feeling, but then, when he finds out the hospital was attacked, he freaks out. But our guy just tells him nothing major happened and that he's cool. Turns out he needed to ask him something anyway, and he starts talking to Joro, telling him everything. He's shocked that's what's happening with Hakjun. He thinks this is perfect, because he's also got some info he needs to pass on to him, and it's about the Ares Guild. Meanwhile, that scumbag is just chilling in his office, reading the paper, when someone knocks on the door. He's surprised when the person just walks right in. He's even more stunned that it's Hakjun, saying that he's supposed to be on vacation and asking what the hell he's doing here. So he talks to his master, saying he has to ask him something. As he's asking, Young notices his sword is covered in blood, and when he sees it, he gets a little smirk on his face. And Hakjun says that if an awakened tries to use someone's ability and then that awakened dies, their ability probably disappears. At this, the master looks freaked out, but then he starts to laugh, asking what he's going to do with that information. At home, she can't stop calling Hakjun and starts listening to the latest news bulletin, which says there was an awakened attack in Seoul, in the Gangnam district. Fortunately, there were no casualties, and the awakened agency is already on it, trying to get the situation under control. And the suspect is an awakened from the Ares Guild named Choi Hakjun. She keeps calling him, totally desperate, asking what he's doing, and begging him to please pick up. But then someone knocks on the door and the girl almost has a heart attack. While she's still watching her boyfriend on TV, she opens the door, and it's our MC. And she asks who it is. While she hears that someone from the Trump Guild at the city's breach was targeted, The protagonist greets her, saying his name is Kim Suho, and she's totally shocked when she sees him. He thanks her for letting him in with everything that's going on, saying she must be surprised. But she says he's famous and that she's been hearing about him from Hakjun for a while. The protagonist is totally surprised. After all, he wasn't expecting that at all. The girl says that Hakjun told her he wanted to be just like him. The news says Hakjun attacked him, but he's not the kind of guy who would do something like that. The protagonist says he doesn't know the details, but he got the gist of the story, the part where Jong is threatening him using her medicine. He probably came to him on the guild's orders, and when he visited, he seemed desperate and worried, but he never asked for help. And since he decided to solve this mess on his own, the protagonist can't just do whatever the hell he wants. So he went over there to try and get the details and see what she thinks about all this. And she remembers him saying that everything's gonna be okay and telling her not to give up, because he'll fix this. At that, she starts crying, begging the protagonist to help him. She could never fight by his side, pleading with the protagonist, please, don't give up on Hakjun. And the protagonist, without a second thought, agrees with her, saying that's what he wanted to hear. Meanwhile, Jong is fighting Hakjun, throwing the kid across the room while also poisoning him. Then he starts laughing, telling Hakjun he's seriously disappointed. Because of all the options he had, this was the worst one, asking if he really thinks he can take him down just because he got a little stronger. The kid's on the floor, still frustrated because his body won't listen, and it feels like thorns are piercing his entire body. And so, he asks if he understands the difference in their strength now, and that even if he doesn't lift a finger, he'll be dead soon anyway. But Hakjun tells him to shut his mouth, screaming that Yoon-soon's sickness is his poison's fault, and this is all on him. He systematically committed a crime just to drag him into his guild. Jong realizes he's been found out and goes, maybe, but that wasn't important, so I don't really remember. And Hakjun admits to himself that he's known for a while, but he couldn't do anything because he was weak. But still, he's frustrated right now, trying to pull himself together, because now it's different and he can do something. With that, he gets up and charges at Jong with everything he's got, yelling that they're going to hell together. But Jong just says he's way too confident. He raises a finger and snaps it before Hakjun can even touch him. The kid starts spewing poison and bleeding right in front of him. He stops dead in his tracks, dropping his sword and collapsing onto the floor. Jong asks if he thought he only had one type of poison, saying there are poisons like the one he used on his girlfriend, that cause damage over time, and poisons that detonate all at once. He knew Hakjun would stir up trouble one day, so he periodically injected it into the kid, saying he really should have been better at hiding his feelings. Then he kicks the kid hard, slamming him into the wall, and Hakjun is more and more screwed. His vision is starting to get blurry. He thinks that if he can't kill Jong and can't cure Yoon-soon's illness either, then he's just a pathetic loser. And even though he knew Yoon-sun would be left all alone if he failed, he came here anyway, apologizing to her. He might have been trying to escape through death, but as he's falling, the back door is busted open. Jong is surprised, saying he's got a lot of visitors today. The protagonist shows up, saying the guild members kept running away when he asked for directions. Jong looks surprised, saying he thinks they've met before. The protagonist says he came to sign up for the guild. Jong stops everything and hands the protagonist an application form, telling the kid he's pretty damn surprised, because it seemed like he was completely against joining a guild, and to show up here, on his own, is just too much. But the protagonist just kept staring at Hakjun on the side, so Jong says he's a little curious, asking about the sudden change of heart, saying the kid already knows he's not exactly a good guy. The protagonist says he thinks Jong's got him wrong, because he's no good guy either, saying he's definitely sick of this hero crap, and if their interests align, he's willing to work with anyone. Jong says that's good to hear. But getting back to it, he says they usually discuss benefits and pay after a new member joins, but he can't trust the protagonist yet. And if he goes ahead and signs the contract, they'll grant his wishes as much as possible. The protagonist says, that sounds good. When he signs, Jong is surprised it was so easy, saying that now they'll talk business. He asks if there's anything the protagonist wants as a guild member. The protagonist says that first off, he wants the antidote for Hakjun. Jong is surprised. The protagonist says he just called the guild a business, so leaving Hakjun like this doesn't seem like good business. He doesn't know if Jong saw the news, but he owes Hakjun one. So Jong says he's going to make him owe him a favor just to use him later, saying it's possible. But even if he takes the antidote, it's useless, since the poison has effects that linger in the body. But the protagonist says he doesn't care, and that Hakjun alone is worth more than 100 rank C awakened. At that, Jong says that since the kid insists, he goes over to the kid, grabs Hakjun by the neck, and pulls the poison out of him, yanking it back through his arm and leaving him clean. Now he says they'll discuss payment dividends and other guilds tried his stuff. As soon as Hakjun's okay, the protagonist goes over to him and says he met with Yoon-sun. He's shocked, asking why the protagonist would do that, but the protagonist just tells him to shut up. Then, Jong says he'll get 70% of the profits from dungeons and the position of guild vice leader, asking what he thinks. But the protagonist says, and if this is all really a business, then he's not taking a deal where he loses. Then, Jung gets pissed at the protagonist and asks what his terms are. He says he wants 100% of the profits and the guild leader position, telling him to hand over his entire guild. And Jun does not like that one bit and starts to laugh, saying he was wondering what the hell he was plotting, asking if he wants the whole damn guild, laughing at the kid. But our guy just asks him what's so funny. He says he built this company by using weaker people and taking advantage of them, and that's how his guild got so big. So now he's going to use the same method and take this guild, because he's stronger than Jung. But Jung tells him to drop the saint act, because it's not about taking advantage of them, it's about times using times them. He asks the protag if a predator feels sorry for its prey, since they're just useless, weak worms that would be worthless if they were alive. They were destined to be devoured by the food chain. But he found a use for them and turned them into productive members of society, despite their physical, mental, or emotional weakness. In this world, the strongest always wins. All of this is a crime, and this is the world of the awakened. Then the protag finds it ironic that he says the strongest always wins, saying that he might be right, but he missed one thing, because even prey that seems weak can sometimes lash out at the predator to protect itself. And Rokjun is already right behind Jung, ready to strike, and when he turns around, he barely sees the massive sword coming right for him, and the protag tells him to see the desperation of the weak for himself. And the kid just drags the blade across Jung's back. You just gotta take the hit and shut up. And after taking that huge blow, he falls flat on the ground, and the two of them just watch. And Rokjun, for his part, finally rips that thing off his face, asking if it's over. He talks to Suryan, asking what the hell just happened, because he was sure he was dying from Dong Yang's poison. And even if he had been detoxified, his wrecked body shouldn't have healed. He couldn't feel anything, or even see straight. But the moment the protag touched him, the kid healed instantly, and he was completely stunned. The protag just told him to shut up and let it happen. He asks if the protag did something and then asks why, because ever since they met, and even now, he wonders why he's being helped so much. So the protag says it's a shame, but now's not the best time to talk, because it's not over yet. That thing is getting up off the floor, and Jung laughs at the surprise attack, saying it was good, telling Rokjun that he taught him well, and that's what he wanted from him this whole time. He uses hemostasis, a rank 2 magic skill with 55% proficiency, which heals external wounds depending on the user's proficiency, and the healing speed increases more and more. He knew he had a skill that dealt with poisons and remedies, but to think he could also use a healing skill is just too much. Rokjun then speaks to Jung, saying that even though he really wants to kill him, he doesn't stand a chance in a 2-on-1 fight. The protag says if he stops now, he'll let him rot in jail for his sins. But Jung just starts laughing, asking who the hell he thinks he is, telling him not to even try. He asks if he really thought he'd listen to him, summoning his skill, deadly poison, green zone, and filling everything with some amoeba-style goo. At this, Rokjun rushes towards Suryan, yelling at him to get out of there. But the protag is just like, what the hell is this? And the kid says this is the strongest skill he's got, and deadly poison. Green zone is a magic rank 4, level 5 skill that creates an area covered in lethal poison. The skill's range and the damage caused by the poison increase depending on the magic rank. He says he can cover the entire place with lethal poison, and it's a daily use skill that can kill with a single touch. And then Jung talks to Suryan, saying he himself said he stole from the weak to build that guild, saying he's right to a certain extent, at least that's what he thinks. But he asks if the kid knows that even extortion is a privilege of the strong. Then he throws that poison at the two of them, making them get out of there. And the protag watches where the poison lands, because it seems like he can control the poison underneath him. But while the protag is thinking, Rokjun tries to charge at Jung, but ends up getting kicked mid-air, as Jung tries to hit the kid, but also throws poison at him. And the protag notices that the poison only seems to affect living things, but not the table or Rokjun's sword. And if that's the case, he can do something. He's surfing on a table to get close to Jung, who is just as surprised as Rokjun. Then Jung asks if he really thought he found a weakness. And just like that, he switches to acid, Violet Zone, launching a glob of goo onto the table that melts it. The protag starts to get more worried, throwing the table and jumping back. He says he gets it now. While attacking and defending against living targets with the Green Zone poison skill, he also uses the Violet Zone acid skill to protect himself from surprise attacks. The balance between these two skills is incredible. Then he starts calling out to Suryan, saying he might be considered one of the best, but asks if the kid isn't too boring to be considered a hero, asking if he really thinks he can take his guild. Yes. Then the protag in turn admits he was wrong, because the answer was right in front of him the whole time. He throws something into the air, and Rokjun just stares at every single one of those drops of blood. He's shocked, because that's the skill he saw Yanyang use. And the protag uses the signature transformation, Blood Needle Spears, and prepares all those spears to fly right at Jung, who freezes up completely in fear. And the protag is like, if you're so strong, then deal with this. Man, this guy is gonna have nightmares about this. He's gonna crap his pants just thinking about this scene. And after the protag throws that storm of spears at him, Jung just takes off running, sliding on his own poison. And when he manages to get stable, he raises a wall of poison to cover himself and also to throw at the protag. But the one who appears in front is Rakjun to cut that thing down. He speaks to Suryeon as the kid touches Rakjun's shoulder and prepares another volley of that attack. And then he just glares at Jung with that killer look while Jung is all huddled up down there. But even though the attack is... And Rakjun appears to try and cut him down, but Jung still manages to hit him, kicking the kid and telling him not to get any funny ideas. But Rakjun puts his sword in front of him to block it, and as he touches the ground, the protag throws all those spears at Jung and notices that, again, the attack couldn't get through. So Sung starts getting pissed, saying it looks like the protag is all talk and no action, bragging that his poison can both attack and defend, that it's perfect. The protag admits that's true, and his ability is annoying, but he's got something else. The protag can just set everything on fire, summoning the Phoenix Flame and blasting it right at Sung, who starts to get torched in the middle of it all. Besides just burning him, the protag also throws his spears at him, pinning him to the wall, and pretty much using him for target practice. Sung starts coughing up blood as his poison retracts, and Rakjun immediately gets his hopes up that the skill's been deactivated and all the poison is returning to him. When it returns to his hand, he realizes he can't maintain the skill because he's too messed up. This is his chance. But then, Sung screams at Rakjun, saying he'll give him an antidote and that even if he kills him, the poison in Yusun's body won't just disappear. He asks if the kid really expects the poison to just vanish from her body the second he dies, asking if he's willing to gamble with her life, or if he'd rather leave him alive to save Yusun. He starts laying some serious pressure on the kid, but the protag says that's enough and talks to Rakjun, telling him not to let Sung get in his head again. And just like that, Rakjun is shocked as the protag walks toward him, stepping right into the poison. So both Rakjun and Sung think this is a good thing, and Sung jumps at the chance to try and control the protag, making the poison snake up the kid's body. The poison seeps into him, climbing up to his head and trying to penetrate his body. Sung then asks if he's crazy for stepping in his poison. He says that even if he's as strong as they say, his poison still has no cure. But then, the protag's holy power is revealed. Sung looks totally dumbfounded as the protag purifies the poison, completely dissolving all of it. Rakjun can't even believe it. The poison was completely cured. He says he can feel his mana being replenished too, and it's just like what he felt a little while ago. The protag says that poison doesn't work on him and talks about the treasure of the Charles clan and the reward for 100% completion of the 10th stage of the second floor. There's an item that heals all wounds and removes debuffs, but it can only be used 5 times. He used it for the first time on the 10th floor of the Tower of Trials. He used it again on the 15th floor, another time when he healed Rakjun, and he just used it to heal himself from the poison, making a total of 4 times. The last use is in Rakjun's hand, and the protag tosses it to him. The kid is surprised, remembering when Yusun told him everything would be okay. The protag says he'll know best who to use it on, and all the kid can do is thank him. Meanwhile, Sung keeps calling out to Rakjun, trying to get inside his head again. He curses him out, but the protag grabs that snake by the throat, saying he's not holding back anymore. At this, Sung asks if he really plans to kill him, since he's the master of one of the biggest guilds. He questions how they'd react if he killed him. He says he has connections with very important people, and that even if the protag is some famous rookie, he's still going to have to face the consequences. The protag then wonders if he could really get away with it so easily, since this is about murdering a guildmaster. But what if this guildmaster had ties to the infamous criminal organization, the Dump Guild? And with that, Sung is stunned once again, completely floored. The protag says he's already done his research on both organizations and remembers when Ju told him the team was perfect and that, actually, she'd been wanting to talk to the protag about the guild because she's sure it has connections to the Dump Guild. But since the Dump Guild is based in other countries, they haven't been able to spread their influence there yet. And to get into Korea easily, they chose this guild as their way in. On top of that, using the guild's skills and intel network, they've been eliminating anyone who knows or suspects this relationship. And right now, the Dump Guild has its eyes on Soo-yoon. The protag starts listing off his crimes. He was screwing over his own guild members and committing horrible crimes, working with the Dump Guild and killing innocent people. The protag asks if he doesn't think there are enough reasons to kill him right here and now, saying he knows damn well they're already watching him. And this is the perfect chance to eliminate anyone who shows up. In other words, he's going to be the bait. But Sung tells him not to make him laugh. He tries to grab the kid and use his power, saying he's going to kill him right then and there. However, the protag is out of patience and just removes the poison with pure main character energy. The poison leaves his body without him having to do much. It just comes out, and Sung can't believe it because the poison doesn't work on him. The protag says that was all just an act before. His poison has no effect against his magic resistance. But there was something else he was curious about regarding his famous poison. What do you think would happen if he used it on Sung himself? Sung wonders what the hell he's talking about, and the protag uses trait transformation, poison, poisoning Sung himself. He starts choking, saying that it hurts so bad, trying to grab the antidote he has on him. However, the protag just watches. As he's grabbing the antidote, the protag pulls his sword from his inventory and slices Sung's hand in half. Now he's only got 2 fingers left. He starts screaming, and the protag tells him not to even try it, since he's sure he had fun tricking people with that antidote. He asks if Sung doesn't think he should feel the same pain they felt. Besides the pain of his almost severed hand, he starts to feel the poison killing him. He begs the protag to just kill him already, then makes a run for it and simply goes to the window, throwing himself from that floor. The protag thinks that he's disgusting to the very end. It was too painful for him to handle, yet he did that to others without a second thought. He says that now it's really over, summoning his phoenix and sending it out of the building, saying that everything that man achieved with his rotten methods is about to be wiped from this world. Dude, this badass MC is freaking unbelievable. I thought the guy had his shit together but was still a good dude. Then bam, he went full nocturne. 3 fingers, man. What the hell, bro? Are you nuts? So after Rakjun goes to his girlfriend, she manages to heal herself because of the necklace. So she shows up, starts crying, and the kid gets all hyped up, jumping all over her, saying he couldn't have done it without help. And it wasn't just Daos. He got help from other people too, and he says that's why he's gonna stop regretting his past. And just like other people helped him, he's gonna help other people too. But then she asks Rakjun if he remembers what she's always telling him, not to try and do everything by himself. She says she can't fight beside him, but you can bet she'll be cheering him on the whole time. Meanwhile, Joro is on a call with the MC, telling him everything's cool, saying they haven't noticed any major changes. He says Rakjun made it back safe, and Yosem seems perfectly fine, but the MC asks if he has anything else to report. And he thinks to himself that this is where the good times start for them. That's what he wanted to tell the two of them, since they look so happy. And then, on January 1st, 2023, the guild just collapsed. And moving on to the next story, it's reported that last night, around 9 p.m., they received a report that the guild's headquarters in Ganggu collapsed. And although they confirmed there were no casualties as a result of the incident, the body of the guild master, the awakened Jun Doni, was found at the base of the building, and the police are currently investigating. So Song just asks Sion why he won't explain exactly what happened, and he says he already told Kendi the story. He just did what he thought was necessary. So Song presses him on it, saying he didn't just break into the guild's HQ, he also murdered its master and then destroyed the building. He says he committed a crime that some would consider a terrorist attack. But he says that Jun used his abilities to blackmail and extort a lot of people, and he's sure that he was aware of the crimes the guild was committing in the underworld and still did nothing about it. He just watched from the sidelines. He says he believes he did something pretty useful for society. He asks if they weren't just a mess that needed to be cleaned up, with Doi just standing there quietly. And Song says he noticed something during the Anang incident, that he's really good at making excuses. He's just trying to say that he went too far. But then he gets to the main point, talking about Dump, asking if he has any concrete evidence to back up his claims. Because even if Ares committed all those illegal acts, he questions what right the MC has to judge them. He asks if he's kidding himself, thinking he's some true hero of the people just because they supported him during Anang. But Doi, standing on the side, is shocked by what the director is saying, and the MC already looks pissed off with all this hero talk, since he never asked for any of it. He thinks things never change. It seems cool, but it's also getting old. And Doi is shocked by what the MC is saying. He says there's one more thing people don't know about him, that he's the furthest thing from what you could call a hero, risking his life to save the world and help people. He asks himself if he did all that crap out of the goodness of his heart. The more he thinks about it, the more he realizes that wasn't it at all. He did it all because no one else could. So he says that everything he's done up to now was just him following his gut. And that's why the two of them better watch their backs, because he's gonna do whatever the hell he wants, even if it means killing them both. And Song just freezes, breaking into a cold sweat that drips down his face. He gives a nervous laugh, telling him to cut it out, that he doesn't need to act like that just because he made a little joke. He says the hero title is pretty cool. It's not like he's being insulted or anything, but it's going to be tough to just let this case go. But he says he can use the association to help him out, as long as he accepts one condition. He can make everything that happened get swept under the rug, but the MC already knows the condition is for him to become an awakened, contracted to the association. And Song asks, "How did you know?" The MC thinks to himself, could it be any more obvious? He says he was just waiting to use this incident to his advantage and use him to do whatever he wants, but the kid refuses. But Song tells him to wait a sec, telling Sue Ryan that this isn't as simple as it looks. It doesn't change the fact that he committed a very serious crime. He asks if he gets that, saying that no matter how strong he is, without the help of the association or other awakened, he won't be able to do a damn thing. But then the MC pulls out his phone and plays a recording of someone saying, regarding the safety of the citizens, that the city of Anang has 600,000 citizens, and they are in danger. And Song immediately gets that it's his voice on the recording, asking if that's the conversation he had with El Joro. And just like that, the MC remembers the attitude he had during the Anang incident, when he was saying how it wasn't his responsibility. So Song asks him what he wants. He says it's the Awakened who killed the guildmaster of a major crime syndicate versus the director of the association, who couldn't care less about public safety. He asks who he thinks the public is going to hate more. He says he doesn't think there's much he needs from the association's director, who can't even do his own damn job. And Song gets totally pissed, but the MC says he's trying to blackmail him, so he has the right to do the same. He tells him it was just a joke and he doesn't need to get all bent out of shape. Man, the old guy gets so worked up I think his bald spot is getting bigger. And when the MC leaves, he's still thinking about the old man, telling him to keep this a secret. And the MC wonders if he went too far. Or rather, he says he just wanted to teach him a lesson, since he can't believe the guy actually tried to blackmail him. But anyway, he thinks this settles everything. He says he'd rather not cause any more trouble for now, so he'll just head to the tower until everything calms down. And the hero title comes back to his mind. How at one point, that title haunted him and he wanted to run from it. Then he remembers his mother telling him to become a hero. But still, he remembers the people he saved, and the friends he helped, and the people he saved on that other planet. I mean, at the end of the day, he was their hero, Rocky Jun's hero, and everyone else's hero. He's like, if what he wants is to follow the path of a hero, then a damn hero is what he'll be. While our MC is figuring his crap out somewhere else, some people in a super sketchy cave are talking, wondering if Jong is dead. And so they think this is just perfect, because they couldn't tolerate the stuff he was doing anymore. And one of them asks if that woman is kidding, because they just lost one of their ways into Korea. But another one says it doesn't matter, and even without him, it doesn't change their plans. But they start talking about Soryeon, saying he's becoming a total pain in the ass. Then one of them asks if it's true, he went to the tower. Then that lackey says it's true, saying that was his last confirmed location. So they tell them to send a surveillance team and to report back the second he returns. And after that, he's just got a dagger on a photo of the MC, saying they're gonna deal with him. Obviously, dude. Totally. I can't wait to see that in the next chapter. I'm sure more heads are gonna roll. I really enjoyed recording this. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it too, because I want to keep going. And apparently, this was just the second season or the first. I'm not really sure, but I want to continue because the story is getting way, way better. The bloodthirsty MC is insane. I wasn't counting on this, but I'll for sure see you guys in the next videos, and don't worry, there's some seriously good stuff coming. I'm going to introduce 2 new projects and you're going to love them. It'll be worth the wait. And I'll see you in the next video.